group after that little mistake he had at the hairpin. Now, what progress are those from the back making? Well, Mikey Doble's up 5 positions on that lap already into 26th place. So we've also lost Craig Arkell to the pit lane, unfortunately. So Craig, who had some mechanical issues actually with that car before he even left home. He couldn't get the car started to get it on the trailer. They were working on it late last night to try and get that fixed. Then he went out in qualifying and had a couple of moments. Now it looks like there's maybe some recurring mechanical gremlins that have brought him into the pit lane. So he and Russell Cage and then 2 non-finishers. Everybody else still running though. So 30 cars out on track, and at the front of the field, this is the titanic battle for the race lead. Ollie Fowler looking for his first ever race victory in the Compact Cup, and he has got the winningest driver in Stephen Daly right behind him, applying the pressure, trying to take that victory away from him. Stephen Daly has denied many drivers their first ever victory in this championship, and moved ahead of Steve Roberts, multiple former champion, on the all-times win list toward the end of last year. But he's not stopped winning, and he's not stopped coming back to the Compact Cup either. It's a sign of just how competitive and enjoyable this championship is, that Stephen Daly keeps coming back year after year after year. When in a way he has nothing left to prove really, but just wants to keep on adding to that win record. He's got a good exit out of the chicane there. You don't get a huge amount of slipstream actually in these cars, not down a straight of this length, so I don't think he'll gain any further down the back straight. Bit of a dab on the brakes there for Ollie Fowler. That's something else you see drivers do quite a lot here at Croft, because you rattle over these curbs so violently, it can sometimes knock the brake pads off the discs and give the drivers what they call brake knock-off. And so you just dab the brakes in a straight line just to make sure that the pads are where they need to be, and that then allows the car to slow down sufficiently going into the next braking zone. So it's not Fowler trying to brake check Stephen Daly, he's just making sure that his brakes are going to work when he stamps on them down at the end of the back straight. Fowler absorbing this pressure well at the moment. Stephen Daly's car is really bouncing around, isn't it? I know that these cars can rock and bounce around quite a lot over the bumps and the curves, but that car doesn't look healthy to me. I wonder if he's got an issue with the shocks on that number 1 machine perhaps, and that definitely won't be helping his corner speed. All the more impressive then that he's staying with Ollie Fowler here and asking all the right questions of the race leader. Look, Fowler now, he's starting to defend. That's a good thing actually for Stephen Daly. You might think it's a bad thing because it's blocking his way through, but the fact that he's forcing Fowler to drive defensively means that he's in his head now. Fowler is watching his mirrors more than he's watching what's going on out in front of him, and that means mistakes are far more likely. So Stephen Daly, who is the master at this, literally sitting a few inches off the back of the number 18 car, not necessarily trying to pass, he's not sticking his nose out and going for the late lunges, he's just trying to force Fowler into a mistake. That's by far the easiest way to overtake somebody in motor racing, is if you can make them open the door for you and then you just capitalise and go through. It's even closer this time as they go out of the chicane, so surely Fowler's going to have to defend down at Tower this time. In fact, he already is going to the right, so Stephen Daly goes to the left. They could be side by side into the braking zone on this occasion. Stephen Daly challenging for the race lead, goes to the outside line. He knows that's not going to work though, so he settles back in behind and instead tries to carry good speed off the corner, but he can't quite get up the inside. In fact, Daly is the one that runs wide over the grass. He was a bit too eager on the throttle. Would have been a bit unsighted, I suppose. The line he was taking meant that he probably wouldn't have been able to see the edge of the road there. So as they came out of the corner, it was the Scottish driver that ran wide. This is the fight for 4th, and we've had a change. Ian Howes is now ahead of Ray McDowell, who is still on for, I think, his best ever result in the championship. Ian Jones there in 6th, but they're all really stacking up behind this battle now, aren't they? With Maguire, Huntley, Dendy Sadler, Welton, Claydon, Mike Doble, basically the rest of the field, all in one long queue here as they head into the complex once again. Leaders come through. Wayne Flink getting closer to them now. Wayne was just over a second behind them at the end of the previous lap, but as they have been battling ahead, he's been closing in. Jones is getting delayed a bit here by McDowell, and he's now got Paul Maguire up the inside of him, and there, Ben Huntley, the blue and fluorescent yellow car, goes up the inside into the hairpin as well. There's not room for all of them. There's cars locking up. That's the number 60 on the inside of Simon Welton, the red car that nearly got into the side of Ben Huntley. And somehow I think they came out of that corner in exactly the same order they went into it. You wouldn't have bet on that, would you, as they went into the braking zone. So 3 minutes left on the clock. It's the only negative I can come up with the Compact Cup is that the races end far too quickly. Mike Doble there is getting himself involved in some action, trying to get past one of the Claydens. That's Reese Clayden, who's now at the inside of Welton, going through Hawthorne, hops over the curb, almost making contact through the chicane. Reese had some sort of a problem in qualifying as well. I saw that he had to limp into the pit lane with some sort of fluid leak. Whether that was, again, a result of bouncing over these curbs a bit too hard, I'm not sure, but that means arguably he was out of position on the grid, Reese Clayden, and is now starting to make his presence felt in the outskirts of the top 10. So, down into the Jim Clark S's again. Ray McDowell, 5th position. Ian Jones right on his tail. Everyone really right on his tail. Andy Sadler there in 9th place, the grey and blue car, former champion of the BRSCC's Fiesta Championship, which is up a bit later on today. Made the transition to rear-wheel drive a year or so ago now with the Compact Cup. He's getting quicker and quicker ever since, almost into the back of Huntley, and just ahead of Huntley. Paul Maguire there with a lock-up. The cork in the bottle here is very much Ray McDowell, isn't it? Ray McDowell has been dropped now by Ian Howes. Maguire, wow, sideways there through the penultimate corner, completely offline going into the hairpin. And actually came off the corner reasonably well, but they head across the start-finish line again, and you get the sense that anything could still happen in this battle. On to what should be the final lap of the race then, and Ollie Fowler is still hanging on here from Stephen Daly at the front by 0.3 of a second, so you're not missing anything there. 3rd place Wayne Flint, 4th Ian Howes, Ray McDowell here in 5th, but only just, and one false move here from McDowell on this final lap could see him drop not only out of the top 5, but possibly to the back of the top 10, because there's just such a long queue of cars waiting to pounce should he make a mistake. Jones continues to apply the pressure then to McDowell. He's going to have a lunge up the inside into Tower Corner. Yes, he is. Ian Jones goes for it. Oh, and Ray McDowell tries to close the door. They almost touch, but Jones goes through. That was a lovely move by Ian Jones. He attacked late, but it was still a perfectly valid overtake. No contact made, I don't think. Maybe a tiny bit of paint trading, but nothing too severe. And Jones does now work his way into 5th position. So Ian Jones then scoring a few more points. Heads into sunny corner. McDowell, though, couldn't be any closer. In fact, he hits Ian Jones, and Jones is out wide. And McDowell is going to try and punt his way back through. While Ray McDowell already had a bit of damage to the front of his car, so another knock isn't going to affect him too badly. And he robustly moves ahead of Ian Jones. And now Paul Maguire, pulls alongside Jones as well. They go into the complex. You don't really want to take your eyes off this battle, but the leaders are heading to the start-finish line to, I think, see the checkered flag. It's going to be touch and go. Maguire eases Jones out wide. Ben Huntley's alongside now as well. Yes, the checkered flag is waiting. There go the leaders. It's Ollie Fowler that takes the victory. Stephen Daly 2nd, Wayne Flint in 3rd. Ian Howes is in 4th position with, deep breath, Ray McDowell in 5th position, I think. Let's see. Yeah, McDowell's 5th, Maguire 6th, Jones down to 7th, Huntley 8th, then Dendy Sadler 9th, Welton 10th, Reese Clayden 11th, Mike Doble 12th. This is all still that same pack of cars. Gareth Clayden was 13th, Guy Davies was 14th, then there was a gap back to Matt Flowers in 15th, Sutherland was 16th, and I'm looking for Mikey Doble. He was 19th by the end, so having been 31st at the end of lap 1, Mikey Doble gets himself back into the top 20. That's not a bad drive at all. How did some of the others get on that I was keeping an eye on? Chris McGinley 22nd on his debut, and Matt Adcock even worked his way into 27th position by the flag. And we lost, I believe, Ian Shepherd to the pit lane as well towards the end there, so 3 times from the race, but still a very entertaining Compact Cup race, it must be said. So Ollie Fowler then gets himself his first ever race victory in the Nankang Tyre BMW Compact Cup, and he will be over the moon with that, that's for sure. Stephen Daly, meanwhile, gets his 57th career podium and a 6th podium for Wayne Flint. So yeah, some feel-good stories there, but what drama, especially at the start of the race. That was just astonishing. Wayne Flint locking up like that into the first corner. Of course, a very similar thing did happen to Colin Turkington in last year's British Touring Car races here at Croft. Actually, I was mentioning earlier on that Stephen Daly is referred to as the Colin Turkington of this paddock. and he was on the receiving end of contact that looked awfully similar to something that Colin himself experienced here last year. It's quite bumpy, this circuit. Into a lot of the braking zones there are lots of bumps and undulations, and it's so easy to snatch a brake, especially when the brakes are a bit cold. We often talk about building tyre temperature on the green flag lap, but you've got to get the brakes up to temperature as well, and if you don't, then that's what can happen. You snatch the brake, can't get it unlocked, and then you end up careening into the back of somebody, which is unfortunately what happened to Wayne Flynn. We'll wait and see if there's any further action. Maybe the stewards might have a word with them about that. Likewise, that rather robust pass, it must be said, that Ray McDowell made on Ian Jones. Not saying there will definitely be penalties, but it is a possibility, I guess. There's Mikey Doble coming into the pit lane. Car number 88, 19th place finish for him, but what could have been after his first ever front row. And it's got to be said, he's endured quite a bit of bad luck of late. In his Ginetta racing last week, he had some mechanical issues that prevented him from performing to his absolute best. But that is racing, as they say. You can't always have good fortune. But the bad luck you get makes the good fortune all the sweeter when it does happen, I suppose. So, Compact Cup racing completed for the time being. We now move back to Mazda MX-5s again and the Mazda MX-5 SuperCup. The Mark III cars will be the next cars out onto the circuit. And this, again, should be a really, really competitive race. Another big grid of cars in the MX-5 SuperCup. And 39 of them, to be precise, across two classes, the Pro Class and Club Class. Get into that in a bit more detail in a moment or two. So once the track has been cleared of any debris or errant BMWs, then we will get the MX-5s out onto the circuit. So, MX-5 SuperCup time then. Let's just have a refresher, shall we, of what's been going on in that championship recently, because again, short season last year was certainly not short on drama, because it was a championship battle that went right down to the wire. It looked as though Luke Herbert, multiple former champion, was going to take the 2020 championship as well. But a big accident at Brands Hatch at the Formula Ford Festival, actually, when the MX-5 SuperCup was on the support card at the end of the year. Big and very unfortunate accident for Luke Herbert, meant that the car was too badly damaged for him to get out there in the final rounds of the championship, and that meant that Sam Smith, former Mark I champion, was able to take the SuperCup championship in his first attempt. And actually, the top two drivers in last year's SuperCup championship were both debutants in 2020. Sam Smith, the champion, and James Cossons was second place. James, another driver who he'd done the odd Super Series race, which was the sort of non-championship Mark III series that the BRSCC put together for a few years, which has kind of been replaced by the club class now within the Super Cup Championship. But James Cossons did a few races in that, immediately realised that he was going to be quick enough to compete towards the pointy end of the Super Cup Championship. But I don't think anyone really expected him to have that sort of pace, and a car being run by multiple race winner in this category, Aidan Hills, who for this year has stepped out of the car and has taken over the role of team manager. Well, we'll wait and see how his cars get on. James Cossons hasn't qualified especially well for this race, but it's all so close that there's every chance we could see him move forward in the running order. We have, as I said, the Pro and the Club class. We also have a Masters Championship as well, so 3 championships in one. Last year's Club class champion was Xavier Brook, with Liz Walton second and Seamus Heaney third. I'm just looking to see if Xavier Brook is here. Yes, Xavier Brook is racing again this year, but he's now been moved up into the Pro class, so he qualified 26th overall, 22nd within his class. And then in the Masters category, which is for drivers over the age of 50, Simon Fleet was the champion by just 15 points last year over Nick Rutter in second position. And again, looking forward to seeing those two both back out on the track again today. Simon and Nick pretty inseparable last year, and they are going to be close together again here for this season. Pole position for this race, though, was taken by Patrick Fletcher. Patrick Fletcher with a 1 minute 36.297, which was just outside the existing qualifying lap record, which was set in 2019. The track was resurfaced ahead of the 2019 season, and as a result became several seconds quicker. Jack Harding set the qualifying record that year, with Luke Herbert setting the race record of a 36.0. So we're flirting with that pace this weekend. But of course, one of the big bits of news over the winter is that Luke Herbert, not only did he miss out on the championship last year, but he has done exactly what Aidan Hills has done and decided to take a sabbatical from actually driving the cars, and is instead now taking over team management duties. And Luke Herbert running a number of cars out there in the championship, perhaps most notably his rival over several seasons in this championship, Jack Harding, who is back after taking a year out himself last year. Jack Harding is back in the championship, and he's being run by the driver that was his nemesis in the SuperCup for many years. There were a good 3 or 4 seasons where they were competing head-to-head for championships. On a few occasions, it has to be said, the relationship between the two of them got a bit prickly, but here they are. It's funny how the motorsport world works sometimes, isn't it? That two drivers who have had such an intense relationship in the past now find themselves working together in the 2021 campaign. Jack, though, has been saying that he's a little bit down on power this weekend. He's nearly a second off the pace that he thinks he can run, and you'd have to agree with that, because Jack's qualifying time was a 37.2 and his lap record was a 36.2, so almost exactly 1 second off that qualifying pace from 2 years ago. It still puts him inside the top 10 on the grid, though. There you can see that grid just waiting in the assembly area. The paddock area you can see directly behind it is actually the original circuit. Croft essentially used to be a big triangle. They used to turn right through Sunny Inn, but then continue straight onto that runway, which is what that paddock area is, and come straight down towards us and rejoin the track at Clairvaux. So the whole complex section at the end of the lap essentially didn't exist. And then, of course, the circuit closed for a long time, reopened again in the mid-90s, and with much fanfare, and really hasn't changed since. But that's kind of the way we like it, really, because the Croft Circuit is one that really does, the drivers do favour. It's a difficult circuit, and it bites if you get it wrong, but it's one the drivers do enjoy driving nonetheless, because it's fast, it's bumpy, it's unforgiving, it's everything that drivers enjoy in a racetrack. The grid then for this one sees an interesting name at the top of the pile. There were only 46 1,000ths of a second between the top two in qualifying. Sam Smith, the reigning champion, was second on the grid, but it's Patrick Fletcher who got pole position. Now, I don't recall Patrick Fletcher taking a pole position in this championship before, at least not from a qualifying session. He might have had some from reversed grids, but I don't think we've ever seen him take a pole position from qualifying. And so Patrick Fletcher, who took that pole, only just, but this is a golden opportunity for him to go and get a race victory. He's got Sam Smith, the reigning champion, alongside him. Adam Bessel is next. Adam Bessel was 5th in last year's championship and lines up 3rd on the grid, ahead of Michael Nibbs, who's been racing in the Mark 1s for a long time. I don't think we've seen Michael in the SuperCup before. No, he wasn't racing last year, certainly. So Michael Nibbs making a very successful transition from Mark 1 to Mark 3 racing. John Langridge, another former champion, in fact, in the Mark 1s. He was the 2019 champion in the Mark 1 Championship and made his debut in SuperCup last year. Took him a while to get up to speed, but he's getting there now, and 5th place on the grid is testament to that. And he's got Martin Tolley. Guess what? He raced in Mark 1s as well for many, many years, and Martin is moving up into the SuperCup this season as well. Then it's Jack Hardings and James Cossins, two very quick drivers coming from the 4th row of the grid. Jack Harding never has won this championship. He's finished runner-up, I think, 3 times, but he's won multiple races, and with no Luke Herbert on the grid, would probably have been targeting a championship campaign this year. He's not got off to a brilliant start with these issues they've had setting the car up, and just a little down on power, as we said. So 7th on the grid for him. James Cossins is 8th, and he was runner-up in last year's championship. Then also one to watch is former Mark 1 champion Will Blackwell-Chambers, who lines up 9th. I think we've got about 4 former Mark 1 champions inside the top 10 on the grid in this SuperCup race, which shows the BRSCC MX-5 racing ladder is working well, and drivers are able to start off in Mark 1s and work their way up into SuperCup, and of course you can now start off if you want in the Clubman's Championship before moving into the Mark 1 Championship proper. Rounding out the top 10 is Simon Baldwin, the step-brother of James Blake Baldwin, who is a former SuperCup champion. James not racing here, but the familiar blue car with the orange stripes, you can just see it actually to the left of the assembly area, is his step-brother Simon Baldwin. Declan Lee is 11th then, with Braden Fletcher 12th. Now Braden Fletcher had issues in qualifying. Don't know what they were, but midway through the qualifying session, before he'd really set a fully representative lap time, the car slowed. It actually stopped going into the Jim Clark S's. He then limped back around to the pit lane, but never returned to the track. So Braden Fletcher, who's brother Kelvin, of course, is racing in British GT this year, but Braden himself, a very, very successful driver in front-wheel drive machinery generally, through minis and such like. Is a very, very handy racer, and I was informed yesterday is also after my job, because he's now taken to presenting motorsport coverage, much as his brother has been doing, of course, in recent times as well. So they're an annoyingly talented family, the Fletchers, and Braden Fletcher certainly should have been further up the grid than 12th, so keep an eye on him if they've got the problems fixed, to see whether he can fight his way into the top 10. He finished 7th in last year's championship, despite not getting on the podium once, and he was telling me yesterday that he thinks this year a championship campaign could be on the cards. Behind him, Richard Amos. Now he is the highest placed club driver, and he was only 38 1,000ths per second quicker than the second highest placed club driver, Luke Whitworth. So they share the 7th row of the grid. The club class is kind of what the Super Series used to be. The Super Series was a separate entity to the Super Cup, but it basically ran the same cars, same regulations, but no points were allocated. They had their own separate races. It was intended for Mark 3 MX-5 racers who wanted to race but didn't necessarily want the stress of a championship campaign and all of the anxiety and extra cost, let's face it, that can come with that sometimes. They've now merged the two back together again and called what was the Super Series the club class now. So Richard Amos and Luke Whitworth, they now will score points in the club class, but they're only really bothered about racing each other rather than the pro drivers around them. But many pro drivers there are around them, because they've qualified right in the middle of the grid. So the next sort of 7 drivers are all pro drivers. You've got Chris Richardson and Lee Britton on the 8th row, Nick Dunn and Tom Smith on the 9th row, and then Alex Miller and James Warrior on row number 10. Simon Fleet, veteran of the championship, is next up, with Kevin Sylvain alongside him on the 11th row, also in the club class. So Kevin is the 3rd highest placed club driver on the grid. As you can see, that grid is going to be formed in the next few minutes, because the cars are heading out on their warm-up lap, from the assembly area. Nick Rutter is next, ahead of Clive Powell's, also moving up from Mark 1s. George Grant, who is a long-time friend of the championship now, runs down in 25th on the grid. He was probably hoping for a bit more than that when I spoke to him yesterday as well, so expect him to move forwards. Javier Brook is next. Javier, of course, the reigning club class champion, moving up into the pro class for this year. Scott Wright and Tom Selden are next, with Bruce Robinson and Matt Pickford in 30th. Matt also running in the pro class, interestingly. I think I'm right in saying, no, he didn't race pro last year actually, but he is a former podium finisher and I think race winner in the Super Series a few years ago, so making the step up into the full championship this year. Seamus Heaney and Clive Chisnell are next. Martin Canning and Stephen New are 33rd and 34th on this enormous grid. Benjamin Greenhill, new name to the championship, that starts 35th ahead of Martin Heath. Michael Close is 37th on the grid. Michael also running a few cars. Only one car, I think, in this championship, one that he's driving, but he's got a couple of Mark 1s out this weekend. Ivor Mayers, former Formula 4 1600 racer, is 38th on the grid. And then issues in qualifying for Duncan Harris mean that he lines up 39th. I actually spoke to Duncan halfway through the session as he was parked up trackside, just actually before the cars come into shot through that final corner. He was parked up against the barriers. He ran wide, did Duncan, coming out of sunny out, and he dropped off the edge of the curb. And then as he tried to get back onto the track, the car bottomed out and cut out instantly. So Duncan wasn't sure at the time what the issue was, but hopefully he's figured it out now and has been able to get the car out on track. He only completed 2 laps, hadn't really got fully up to speed, so intriguing to see what sort of pace he will have in the race. Right, need to lie down after going through all 39 cars on the grid, but that is how the grid will line up. There's Patrick Fletcher, the black and red striped number 29 car, former front runner in Renault Clio racing, actually, in the Clio Club Championship, ran on the 750 Motor Club package. Made the move over to the BRSCC and its MX-5 SuperCup a couple of years ago now. In fact, probably 3 years ago. I think 2019 was his debut in the championship, if I remember correctly. Either way, he's a few seasons in now to his MX-5 SuperCup career and has got himself that pole position. But Sam Smith alongside him, as evenly matched as those two were in qualifying, you have to expect them to be similarly evenly matched across the race. It will be a longer race, this as well, 20 minutes. So first two races of the day for the Clubman's Championship and the Compact Cup, they were 15 minutes. This one, that extra 5 minutes, and that could take its toll on tyres. Like I said earlier on, the drivers have all been complaining that tyre wear is an issue. They run on grooved tyres, but it's a sort of semi-slick really for the Super Cup. So tyre wear is a factor. Tyre overheating is an issue as well, although it's still a little overcast out there. I don't think that rain's made an appearance yet, has it though? Not some dark clouds overhead, but it's definitely not started raining just yet. Touch wood, hoping I haven't jinxed that, because dry racing around Croft is great, but when it's wet it becomes devilishly slippery and it almost becomes a battle of survival really. So I know many of the drivers will be hoping for dry conditions. Jack Harding might not be though, if he's experiencing this slight lack in top speed. Wet conditions could be a great leveller for him. You can just see his red and grey fronted number 43 car that lines up 7th on the grid just to the left of shot. So he lines up behind the green and grey number 5 of John Langridge. So a 39 car grid, hopefully, as long as Duncan Harris has got out on track, we'll pick that one up once the race gets started, but certainly getting on for 40 cars. An amazing effort by the BRSCC over the winter to get the Super Cup Championship back to its best. It's one of the biggest grids we've ever had, certainly for a number of years, and so many quick drivers. You look down through the top dozen or so and it is kind of a who's who of MX-5 racing in the United Kingdom, isn't it? They're all really quick. It's going to be a barnstormer of a championship which gets underway here at Croft then. Round number 1 of the BRSCC Mazda MX-5 Super Cup Championship will be go now. Away we go. Who gets into Clervaux first? Is it going to be Fletcher? Is it going to be Smith? Or will it be someone from the second row of the grid that bursts through to the front? We'll wait and see. Down into turn 1 they go. It is Fletcher then. Smith slots into second place. Then side by side for third. On the inside is Adam Bessel. On the outside is Michael Nibbs. And Michael Nibbs has his nose ahead as they go into Hawthorne. He runs a bit wide though. Cars in the gravel further back. That's to be expected. Lots of locking up. A few wing mirrors getting bashed, but nothing too significant. They're all through cleanly-ish and heading towards the chicane for the first time. So down the back straight they go. Patrick Fletcher with a brilliant start. He was well clear of Sam Smith by the time they reached the first corner. There is Smith, the white number 1 car, reigning champion in second position. Third place is still Adam Bessel. Jack Harding has gained ground. Look, he's ahead of Michael Nibbs now into 4th position. What a getaway from Jack Harding from 7th on the grid. He's fought his way through nicely. Look, he's ahead of John Langridge, he's ahead of Nibbs. He's also got past Martin Tolley somewhere. So Jack Harding is on a mission and he'll want to tag on to this leading trio if he can and use their slipstream to try and find a bit more pace out there. Side by side through Barcroft on cold tyres. That's dodgy. That's Braden Fletcher up the inside of another one of Sam Smith's cars, but that's the number 6, I think, wasn't it, going through, being driven by Richard Amos. And Richard was the pole sitter in the club class. I couldn't quite spot there whether he kept Luke Whitworth at bay. Ken Carr's running wide out of Sunny. That's where Duncan Harris hit his dramas in qualifying earlier on. Top 5 though as one as they turn through the complex. There's James Cossons, I think, who's got himself into 6th position. So the order at the end of lap 1 is not really going to resemble what it was on the grid a couple of minutes ago. Oh, diving up the inside, that was late, and that was Declan Lee going round. Oh, and speaking of going round, Braden Fletcher's pointing the wrong way coming out of the hairpin, and cars scatter behind him to try and avoid. That was big drama there, as Braden Fletcher must have been tagged into a spin. He is having no luck at all this weekend. The Paddock Motorsport team having a bit of a weekend to forget all round, really, and Braden Fletcher, unfortunately, after a good start, is now going to be right at the back of the field. So it is Patrick Fletcher, no relation, who leads the way. Sam Smith in second, dropping back a bit now into the clutches, rather, of Adam Bessel in third and Jack Harding in fourth. Michael Nibbs is fifth, James Cossons sixth, then it's Langridge, Simon Baldwin, Martin Tolley not with a good start. He started fifth and has dropped down to ninth. He's almost done the reverse, really, of what Jack Harding's done here on the opening lap. And rounding out the top 10 is the number 41, which is Tom Smith from 18th on the grid. I said that the order had shuffled on the first lap. boy, has it just. Right, Patrick Fletcher trying to break away now, and it's actually Adam Bessel that looks pretty racy here. Adam Bessel, who last year never won a race, but he had a couple of second place finishes towards the end of the season, really got quick right towards the end of the year. In fact, he took 2 second place finishes at Brands Hatch, and then another top 5 or 6, I think it was, in the third race as well, in tricky conditions that weekend at the Brands Hatch Formula Ford Festival, as often is the case. Through the complex though, and Patrick Fletcher suddenly gets reeled in. He had a much bigger gap than that half a lap ago, and now Sam Smith is right with him, and he's brought friends because Adam Bessel, Jack Harding and Michael Nibbs are there. Double waved yellows at the hairpin. Does that mean that the safety car is being scrambled? There are hands out of the cockpit there because there are more yellow flags on the straight. Not yet got a notification that the safety car is coming out, but everyone's slowing down, so that must be the case. So Braden Fletcher's car, I think I noticed, was still in an awkward position, and yes, now the safety car is confirmed by the timing screen. So the safety car then scrambled here at Croft for the second time today, unlike many circuits, of course, which would use things like live snatch vehicles to manoeuvre cars out of difficult positions. Croft, we stick with the old school, which I kind of prefer, to be honest, neutralising the whole race and making sure that marshals are able to safely go about their business trackside and get the cars out of harm's way. So who else did we lose? Because I think there was a second car that possibly was stuck at that final corner. No, it is just Braden Fletcher. So Braden Fletcher, the only retirement from the first lap, which is a bit of a miracle, really. There's Ivan Mares at the back. Did we get Duncan Harris? That's the other question I was asking myself. And the answer is yes, and he gained a position, well, 2, basically. Got past Braden Fletcher, obviously, although that was easy. Also found his way past Ivan Mares. So Duncan Harris is in the race. We get a chance to take a bit of a breather. There's number 82, Michael Nibbs. Only lost 1 position at the start there, but he kind of went all in, didn't he, through that first sequence of corners, Michael, because he had the run on Adam Bessel for third. And no, sorry, had the run on Sam Smith, didn't he, for second, and tried to go around the outside through Hawthorne, locked up, got on the dirty side of the road and lost momentum, and so ended up losing out to Jack Harding and Adam Bessel, who he'd actually got a better start than. James Costlin's the blue-orange number 24 with John Langridge behind him, Simon Baldwin, Martin Tolley. Names that have been in and around the Mazda MX-5 paddocks for so many years. And there goes number 13, making its way through. Now that, I'm fairly sure, I'm just going to pull up the entry list just to confirm before I say something stupid, but I'm fairly sure that is Luke Herbert's championship winning car from a few years ago. And yes, I think it is, because it is Tom Selden in the Luke Herbert racing car, number 13, the all-blue car that I caught a glimpse of there. Car with race and championship winning pedigree. Right then, safety car, as in the Compact Cup race, is only going to be out for a lap. Unlike in the Compact Cup race, though, the race leader goes early this time, so Patrick Fletcher hits the gas going through the penultimate corner. As long as you don't catch the safety car before it's headed into the pit lane, that is perfectly legal, and Fletcher then gets a good restart. He is going to restart the race with an 0.8 of a second margin over Sam Smith in second position, Adam Bessel in third, and they're all pretty well strung out going into Clervaux once again. Jack Harding there in fourth position tries to close in under braking and does so. Good restart that for Jack Harding. There's another gap just there behind Whitworth, and that is not a great restart then for Nick Dunn, who is in the Paul Sheard racing car there. Wasn't able to stay with the cars ahead of him. So, race back underway then. Patrick Fletcher heads through Tower Corner. All over the bumps there as they plunge down into that really tricky right-hander. If you get it wrong, you're not just risking hitting a barrier, but ending up out in the farmer's field, which has a big ditch on the edge of it, so you can damage your car pretty badly if you end up going off there, and you can get stuck in the cornfield, which is always a slightly amusing way to retire from a race. Look at the way they drift into view through Barkov. That's a great shot. John Langridge then in the number 5 car, running 7th at the moment, about 3 seconds off the lead when he restarted the race. James Cossins is the man just ahead of him. James, again, didn't win a race last year, but he had a second at the finale and was consistently in the top 5. That's why he was able to finish second in the championship. He was also a bit fortunate, I guess, with Luke Herbert's late issues, meaning that he didn't take part in the last 2 races, but still, Cossins was massively impressive last year. And I'm sure Aidan Hills is watching on here, urging him on. There you can see Braden Fletcher's lonely-looking car out in the weeds, been dragged unceremoniously out of the way, but it is well out of the way, so green flags once again back out at the hairpin as they head into Clervaux once more. Right, Jack Harding looking the man most likely here to make a move. He's right on the tail of Adam Bessel, looking to try and get a good exit through Hawthorne, fire the car through the chicane. Look, he's taking a wider line through to try and carry a bit more momentum through the right and then the left at the chicane, and tries to get in that slipstream down the back straight. He couldn't be much closer to Adam Bessel here, so for third place there could be a move on here as they head towards Tower Corner. There's Fletcher the leader, there's Smith in second, Jack Harding forcing Bessel to drive defensively for third, and then lunges up the inside. A really late move by Jack Harding, and he's gonna go through. Spot on, Jack Harding, another place gained. That was textbook. He lulled Adam Bessel into a false sense of security there, made him think that he wasn't going to go up the inside, and when Bessel had committed to not taking a defensive line, Harding just had a surprise attack and went through into third place. So Jack Harding onto the podium now. This is a bit more like it. Seventh place for many drivers wouldn't be a disappointing qualifying effort but for Jack Harding, he was definitely expecting a little bit more. He's got the fastest lap as well, a 1:36.394, about 4/10 off the lap record pace, but of course he's been stuck in traffic. But look at the way that he's already bridged that gap between third place and second place. He's right on the tail of Sam Smith now. I tell you what, Jack Harding for the race win isn't out of the question here. He's absolutely flying, and this is going to be another really good lap, I think, even with that overtake. Across the line they go. He's got a nice slipstream from Smith across the line. And Jack Harding, yes, a 36.2 this time, so another 10th faster, but he's about 4/10 faster than the race leader Patrick Fletcher. So Jack Harding is by far the fastest man on the track, and he's now on the tail of the reigning champion Sam Smith in second position. Again, takes this wide line through Hawthorne. Now, will he try and do the same thing to Sam Smith, or is Sam Smith going to have learned? Maybe he saw what happened in his mirrors there and knows to cover the inside, because Jack Harding clearly is very committed on the brakes. Fletcher leads then, Smith second, Harding third. Is he close enough this time? No, he's not, so stays in third, but you can see how he braked significantly later there and carried a bit more speed into the turn. It's a touch wide though over the curb on the exit of the corner, just bounces a bit as he drops off the edge of the curb. All of the curbs here have this sort of a 6-inch or so drop on the other side. It's to deter them from exceeding track limits. It doesn't really work because they all keep doing it, but if you do it and you catch the curb wrong, especially as you try and get back on the road, that's what can do the damage. This curb here is another example of that, and Jack Harding almost got into the back of Sam Smith as they went through Sunny that time, and they worked their way back towards the complex once more. Epic racing here though from the top three in the MX-5 SuperCup. Through the penultimate corner, Jack Harding, where does he make his move? When does he make his move? He's clearly quicker than the cars ahead, but we are running out of time now into the second half of the race. 9.25 minutes to go. Smith a bit sideways off the final hairpin there. But that didn't appear to hurt his traction too much off the turn, did it? So still Patrick Fletcher leading. Sam Smith second, Harding third. No changes in the order amongst the top 10 or so that time. In the classes, by the way, the top 10 cars are all pro-class cars. In 11th place is Luke Whitworth. Luke Whitworth is 11th and leading the club class. And his nearest rival is actually Clyde Powell's in 16th place. So what happened to Richard Amos? Because Amos was second on the grid in the club class, and Richard Amos is all the way down in 25th, so I don't know what happened to Richard. He must have been off somewhere. Jack Harding really forcing Sam Smith to drive very defensively. That was quite a late defensive move by Smith, but he got there in time, covered the inside, and as he now starts to defend, see the way that it slows them both down. It allows Patrick Fletcher to breathe a little bit and get away. He's just concentrating on hitting his marks, running his own line, running his own race. Harding's close here. He could have another go into Sunny. Sam Smith saw that coming, really carries the speed into the corner, lets the banking catch him, and then comes off the corner a little bit stronger than Jack Harding, but Harding is definitely applying the pressure here, and Sam Smith, who was 4 times a race winner last year, is looking as if even second place might be a bit much to ask in this one. He clobbers the curb through the left-hander going into the complex. That puts him slightly offline into the right-hander. He's sideways again. Jack Harding, can he get up the inside of the hairpin? Yes, he can. Jack Harding goes for second place and he's through. Nicely done. So Jack Harding then into P2. Sam Smith, nothing that he could do to stop him there, although he might come back at him now as they go down the pit straight. Well, actually, no. No lack of top speed there for Jack Harding, was there? He really got away from Sam. I don't know if Sam maybe fluffed a gear change or something, because the car seemed to accelerate well initially and then didn't really go anywhere. So Harding is second. He is 1.3 seconds now behind Patrick Fletcher, but is capable of going 2, 3, maybe 4 tenths a lap quicker than Fletcher, and he's still got 7 minutes to do this. So based on those numbers, he should be able to catch Fletcher before the end. The real question is whether or not he's going to be able to get past him before the end, because Fletcher, you can bet, is going to put a really, really stout defence up. Patrick Fletcher did not enter the final round of last year's championship, so finished a long way down the order, but yeah, did go winless in 2020, winless in 2019, despite coming very close on a number of occasions, particularly through reversed grids. Can he get his first victory in the championship? Ollie Fowler took his first ever Compact Cup victory earlier on. Will we get the same thing here in the MX-5 SuperCup? Adam Bessel, meanwhile, has Michael Nibbs for company. I cannot say enough about Michael Nibbs in this race. This has been a phenomenal performance from him. I never like to sound surprised when I see drivers doing well, but Michael making this transition into the Mark III car pretty seamlessly, having always been there or thereabouts in the Mark 1s, but maybe this Mark III car is suiting his driving style a bit better. It does handle differently than the Mark 1. It's quite a bit stiffer and snappier. It's less forgiving than the Mark 1 cars. You'll notice in the Mark 1s, they really slide them like a lovely four-wheel drift through the corners, and you can kind of mash the throttle coming out of the tight turns, and it just kind of deals with it. But the SuperCup cars, if you lose the rear end, they're very prone to snapping on you and firing you off the road. So maybe that slightly smoother driving style required for these cars is suiting Michael Nibbs, who always has been quite a smooth driver. As I say that, though, he's soaring away at the wheel there through Hawthorne as he tries to get the front end of the car turned in. Having said, by the way, having confidently predicted that Jack Harding was going to be able to catch Patrick Fletcher, he then went about half a tenth slower than the leader last time, so Jack Harding isn't actually gaining on race leader Patrick Fletcher. In the background, look, John Langridge there was going up the inside of James Cousins. That is for 6th position. Let's see if he made it stick. Who comes into shot first? No, still James ahead. So James Cousins there, look in the background, the blue-fronted car is still in 6th place, but John Langridge doing his best to try and get through. Likewise, Michael Nibbs here trying to get past Adam Bessel. Sunny in is a potential overtaking opportunity, but as we've seen a few times already this afternoon, it can often end in a bit of contact. Over the curbs they both go. Back uphill again, this sort of long gradual climb uphill towards the end of the lap. It doesn't really show on the camera lens, but when you walk that bit of the track, it is quite a rise before you get to the final corners. Langridge again is alongside Cossins in the background. So as Michael Nibbs frustratedly still can't get past Adam Bessel, we might be on for a change for 6th fairly shortly. Bessel out of the hairpin, and then we'll hold and see what happens behind Cossins and Langridge. Langridge all over him, carries good speed off the turn, but there's just nowhere to go. You can only turn the cars so tightly, and pretty much any car that comes and races here at Croft is on full lock through that hairpin, so it's quite hard to get a tighter line than the other car around you through there. So Langridge then is applying the pressure, a bit like Michael Nibbs up the road, not really able to get through. Martin Tolley, by the way, towards the back of the top 10, has just gone 9th, ahead of Tom Smith, so that is a change. So when did Smith start? He started 18th, didn't he? Of course, Tolley started all the way up in 6th, so Martin Tolley only now starting to make progress back to the front. Once more, James Cossins defends the inside into Tower. John Langridge, he's really got this SuperCup car sorted now, but maybe just a little bit disappointed after the way that first lap went. He started 5th, he's now down in 7th, and trying to get 6th place back away from Cossins. Almost pulled alongside him there as they went into the Jim Clark S's. Cossins manages to keep ahead. He's very sideways though through Barcroft corner. Langridge will be sensing blood in the water here. The lead gap, incidentally, is now starting to creep down, because on the previous lap, Jack Harding was 3 tenths quicker than Patrick Fletcher, so 1.1 seconds was the gap at the start of the 9th lap. We've got 3 minutes still to go, so there's a couple more laps to be done here. Is there anything Jack Harding can do about our race leader? There goes Cossins, still keeping Langridge at bay, and in fact Langridge isn't quite as close this time. Turn into the hairpin. Keep an eye to the timing tower on the left-hand side of the screen and look at the top of it. You can see that gap has come down again. Another really good lap from Jack Harding, about 3.5 tenths quicker than Fletcher, which means he's now right within slipstreaming range. 7 tenths of a second is still a few car lengths, so Fletcher won't be sweating just yet, but with probably time for 2 more laps, Jack Harding is closer now than he's ever been. Double wave yellows at Clairvaux because there's a car off in the gravel. Not sure who that was, who didn't come through. That's going to be the answer to that. Someone outside of the top 20, I think, that hasn't made his way through. There is the leader, though. Patrick Fletcher in the lead of the race, but only just. Jack Harding, I told you, was within slipstreaming range. Once you get within 3/4 of a second or so, the last chunk of time disappears in a flash. Oh, and that is, it's Duncan Harris, isn't it? Duncan Harris, who had that issue in qualifying, had been running well, actually. He worked his way nearly into the top 30. But from the back of the grid, but sadly it's going to be a non-finish. Right, what's going to happen at the front? There will be 1 lap to go after this one. Clairvaux is going to be out of bounds for overtaking because there are yellow flags there, but Harding will know that. They've both driven past Duncan Harris's stricken car already, so he'll know there'll be yellows there, but everywhere else is fair game. He's good on the brakes into Tower. He's made a nice move on Sam Smith into this next corner at the hairpin, of course, and Jack Harding is going to try and really force the issue here. Fletcher defends the inside line. Can Harding get the better exit from the corner? Takes such a wide line in, but look, on full lock, he just can't get up the inside as they come off the corner. Across the start-finish line they go again in the slipstream. Then Jack Harding, 1 more lap to go. Is Jack Harding going to be able to take the race victory, or is Patrick Fletcher going to take his first victory in the championship through the first corner? Yellow flag still out, so no overtaking there, but the greens are back out from this point onwards. So can Jack Harding get that run out of the chicane? That's probably his best bet, I think. Get the run out of the chicane, get in the slipstream and try to force a move down at Tower, down into the braking zone. They're about to go then. 40 seconds left on the clock, so this should be the final lap of the race, and this is one of the final overtaking opportunities. Fletcher on the inside, to the outside goes Jack Harding. He's not going to go right round the outside, so he ducks back into the line, tries to carry the speed off the corner, but he's tried that a few times, hasn't he, on a number of drivers. Seems to have maybe a bit of understeer through that part of the circuit. He can't get underneath Patrick Fletcher by the time they get to the Jim Clark S's, and now he really is running out of time. Sunny Inn is the next place that he could try and launch an attack, but Patrick Fletcher surely will see it coming. Yes, moves to the inside to defend, so Harding goes to the outside, almost gets in the back of Patrick Fletcher's car there, almost touching as they go through one of the fastest parts of the track, and now they head towards the complex. 3 more corners to go, and Jack Harding is pulling alongside. This is it, this is the challenge for the race lead. 3 corners between one of these drivers and the checkered flag. Harding tries to go to the outside, Fletcher sees him off. 2 corners to go now, and really only one of them is a place that you can pass. That's this next one at the hairpin. Fletcher is surely going to defend the inside line. Yes, he does, but he locks up, he runs a bit wide. That might give Harding a better exit from the corner. He's not going to get there though. Patrick Fletcher is finally going to do it. He takes the checkered flag and wins round number 1 of the Mazda MX-5 SuperCup here from Croft. A brilliant race that was between Fletcher and Harding. Jack Harding from 7th on the grid. I spoke to his dad just after qualifying, and he really wasn't full of optimism for the weekend ahead, but he'll be smiling now, that's for sure. 2nd position for Jack Harding, some valuable championship points. 3rd place goes the way in the end of Sam Smith, with Adam Bessel 4th, Michael Nibbs 5th, James Coston's got the better of John Langridge for 6th, with Simon Tolley in 8th position. 9th place for the 41, which was Tom Smith, and rounding out the top 10, Simon Baldwin in the number 2 car. Then in 11th position, the winning club class driver was Luke Whitworth. Good effort from him in what I think is his first appearance in the championship. Then you've got Nick Dunn in 12th, 13th position for Alex Miller, 14th Declan Lee, 15th position was Chris Richardson, which is where he started actually, one of the few drivers to finish where he started. Will Blackwell Chambers. Now, what happened to Will Blackwell Chambers? Because he qualified 9th, didn't he? And Will finished 16th. So I'll be honest, I missed that. I didn't notice. He must have had a drama at the start of the race, because he never was a factor in the top 10, was he? Clyde Powell 17th, 18th place for another newbie, number 47, which was James Warrior, 20th on the grid. 19th place for Kevin Sylvain. Rounding out the top 10 was the 419 of Martin rounding out the top 20 was Martin Canning from 33rd on the grid. So, the Mazda MX-5 Super Cup is back with a bang, and they'll be back out again tomorrow for 2 races. It's a triple header weekend as usual for the Super Cup, and we're looking forward to their 2 races tomorrow immensely. Next on track, we have the BRSCC Fiesta Junior Championship with their qualifying session, so we'll, I'm sure, get a little bit of coverage of that, but we are hopefully going to be able to check in with our podium finishing drivers this time, with Scott Woodwiss down in the pit lane, so we'll have plenty of time to chat to those top 3. And some stories they'll have to tell. Patrick Fletcher may have led every lap of that race, but he didn't have it all his own way. Jack Harding coming from 7th on the grid to 2nd. And Sam Smith, who probably had the quietest race of all 3 of them, he sort of went with Fletcher initially, then seemed to fade towards the end. So I'd be interested to hear from Scott whether that was tyre wear from Sam Smith, or whether maybe there was some other issue that saw him drop off the pace. It's possible, of course, that Jack Harding and Patrick Fletcher spurring each other on there were just going a bit too quickly for anybody else to keep up. Got a feel for Braden Fletcher as well, and for Duncan Harris, the only 2 non-finishers from the race, so 37 finishers from the 39 starters. And we'll look forward to seeing those 2 coming from the back of the grid in tomorrow's 2nd race of the season. In particular, Braden Fletcher from the very back. There is a very happy Patrick Fletcher, Patch as he's affectionately known in the motorsport community here in the UK. Jack Harding gets out, stretches, breathes a sigh of relief in the background. Look, and there'll be a fist bump or a handshake between the 2 of them. And yeah, brilliant camaraderie between the drivers in the Super Cup Championship. They're fierce competitors on the track, but they are great friends of it. Right, let's head down then to the pit lane, shall we? And we are going to hear from Scott Woodwiss.
Well, I know there's one person who's absolutely made up for that here down the in the assembly area here for the top 3. It's the man you can see on camera, Patrick Fletcher. Just let him get his glasses on, and then we can chat with him. Patrick, we just bring you over here for a sec. I know that you made up. Smile says it all. Can I first to say congratulations. I know it's been a long time coming. Well done, your first win. And Jack pushed you. You made it hard until the end.
Yeah, I had a good start and actually managed to get a little bit of gap from Sam. So at that point I felt quite comfortable. But then at that point the safety car came out, and then it was like, oh, I've got another 15 minutes of trying to keep it on the road and keeping it in front, hopefully. So I thought I was doing well until a couple of laps from the end. I think Jack did quite a lot out of me. I don't know if Jack was fast lap or not, but he caught me up really near the last couple of laps, and I was just trying to keep it on the road and put it in the right places to keep first position.
Fantastic. What does it mean to finally get your first win? Because you've worked a long time for that. Yeah,
it's been an awesome day so far. I've had first pole with my Super Cup, and also my first win. So I just want to say thanks to my team, my dad, my mum, my mechanic, Andy Tibbs, and everyone who's helped me get this first win. Thank you very much.
Go enjoy. Congratulations, well done. Let's go and move over. You come with here. It's our 2nd place man, Jack Harding. Well, welcome back to SuperCup, 2nd place, and I think after the 24 hours that you've had, that's quite just reward for the team, isn't it? 2nd place and driven like you've never been away.
Yeah, no, it's been a busy one, busy 24 hours. We'll get into it, but yeah, we're now running with Luke Herbert, which is obviously my old arch rival. So I never thought that would happen, but here we are, and I can see why he's won so many championship cars. Mega. We had an issue in qualifying with broken cat, so we were down on power. Did well to qualify 7th, and I knew I could come from there, but I didn't think it was going to be this strong. So yeah, no, a couple more laps, or even a lap I think I'd have had him, but yeah, we're out of laps.
You're looking in good form, so well done for 2nd place and front race start for race 2 again.
Thank you. Thanks for all the sponsors as well.
Good stuff, well done. Let's move on to our man in 3rd place down here, which is our defending champion, South. Which one's come over for a sec? Well, defending champion, 3rd place.
Yeah,
that wasn't too bad, was it?
It wasn't too bad. I don't quite know whether we had really good pace yesterday. Obviously, Jack's massively caught up and Patrick, but didn't have the speed to challenge Patrick, and Jack was on a bit of a mission then, so I tried to stay with him, tried to keep him behind, but I think we've got some speed to find overnight.
It's looking competitive though, of course, with Ethan in front. You're going to make your title defence a bit more difficult.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, Jack's obviously returned to the championship. He's no mug. He knows what he's doing, and Patrick was obviously a great front runner last year. So yeah, they did a better job than we did today, and hopefully we'll do a better job tomorrow.
You've got some time to have a look set up for tomorrow. So well done, and best of luck for tomorrow.
Thank you. Cheers.
Right, now we've got our club class as well, which we'll have to have a chat to. I think we've got race winner, the club.
Sorry? Yeah.
Club?
No, I'm second.
Second place. I'll have a chat with Clive then. And see how he found that race particular. But Clive, second place in club class, and not a bad way to start the season.
Absolutely, yeah. From 24th, the Porter told me I went from 24th to 16th, so pleased with that. I think there was a bit of a argy-bargy in the hairpin here, but everybody got round that and got on with the race. So brilliant race.
Good stuff. And of course, it's nice healthy points towards the club class championships. You hope for the makings of a good season.
Absolutely, yeah. Fingers crossed.
Good stuff. Well done. Congratulations on that one. It's also come up as have a chat to Kevin Sylvain as well. Kelvin, well, that wasn't bad for the first weekend, was it? Just
in a car, yeah.
First ever car, and you grab yourself a podium.
Yeah, well chuffed with that, yeah. Obviously BC Cars done an amazing job with the car, and then obviously Crouch and Edam sponsors to back me. Obviously I've come from motorbike racing, and yeah, well pleased, yeah.
Fantastic. And how are you looking forward to race 2?
Supposed to be wet. On a motorbike I love the wet, so boys I'm sure they'll set the car up and we'll go and give it a go.
Good stuff. Well done for your first race to get a class podium,
yeah.
And hopefully more the same in race 2.
Thank you very much.
Good stuff. Well, that's the end of the races for the moment. We're going to the Fiesta Junior qualifying session, so we'll take a bit of a break and hand you back to Andy to sign things off for the moment, and more racing this afternoon. But well done to incredible it's MX-5 SuperCup racing. There's more of that coming up this afternoon.
Yeah, thank you, Scott. Well, more MX-5 racing, certainly. The SuperCup will be back out again tomorrow morning, but we will have the MX-5 Championship out. That's actually the next race of the day, as well as the second and final race of the weekend for the MX-5 Clubman Championship as well. As Scott said, though, and as I touched on earlier on, this is a qualifying session next up. It's the only qualifying session this afternoon. All of the other qualifying sessions took place this morning, but the Fiesta Junior Championship, as has always been the way, get an extra session. They get a practice session in the morning and then a qualifying session in the afternoon, just to give these young drivers a bit of an extra chance to get out there and get up to speed. 15 to 17-year-olds in this championship. Junior racing is always exciting, but what we haven't always been able to see, as the 99 car of Sid Smith runs a little bit wide there through Hawthorne, what we haven't always been able to see in this championship is massive grids. And I mean, at one point a couple of years ago we were down to 4 or 5 cars on the grid. It's been an astonishing recovery by the championship, and the BRSCC organisers and officials have done an incredible job to get the grid up now to the point that it's at. We've got 14 here this weekend and more on the way later on this season. We've got a few drivers moving into this championship this year who are really excited to be on the grid, and yeah, it's going to be fascinating to see which of those drivers is getting up to speed quickest. It's always one of the great things about junior racing, because drivers obviously right at the very start of their circuit racing careers, some of them are quick right from the off, and then others take maybe half a season to get up to speed. And as you get through the year, you really see that transition happen before your eyes. It's one of my favourite things about motor racing. Whoops, that is 76 Alex Lay, I believe, who's off. That's the Trade Price Cars liveried machine. Yep, number 76 off at Hawthorne. Cold rear tyres are not a Fiesta Junior driver's friend, and these short wheelbase front wheel drive cars very stiffly sprung at the back as well, so very easy to lose the rear of the car on cold tyres. It looks like that's what happened to Alex Lay there. We had a similar occurrence actually during practice earlier on for Archie Handy. I think we saw him a moment or two ago, the number 41 car, the pink car. I wouldn't mind having a look at that car actually, number 41, because the whole team have been doing an incredible job of repairing that car. He had a big off, did Archie, at Clairvaux in practice, and did damage to the front and rear of the car. There he is, just flashed through shot. And his team and family, and mainly his father Simon, spent the rest of the morning right outside my commentary box, actually doing an awful lot of work on the car, and they've got it patched up. I don't think it looks quite in showroom condition, but it looks a heck of a lot better than it did when it came in after practice, and Archie was absolutely okay. They've got him out for qualifying, but that was doubtful when the car first came back, but they have got it back out there, so huge congratulations to the team. And Archie, I'm sure, will want to reward them now with a quick time in qualifying. Number 99 there, Sid Smith. He was fastest in practice earlier on, 1:41.686, so that's the sort of time they're aiming for. At the moment, though, it's actually Deegan Fairclough, who's making his debut in the championship, who is fastest. So Deegan Fairclough with a 1:42.367, as you can see, quicker than Jensen Brickley, who was second in practice and is second in this qualifying session at the moment. Third position is Joseph Knight. Fourth for Albert Webster. And Albert Webster then in the number 2 car was 6th in practice, 4th at the moment. Dylan Hotchins 5th, 6th position for 75, and that is Harry Garman. And Sid Smith down in, he was down in 7th or 8th. He's just jumped up to 4th position after that lap. So Sid Smith turns his way through Clairvaux, hops over the curbs, goes on to another lap. So through the never-ending right-hander here at Hawthorne. Let's see if we can follow him round this lap then, through the chicane, hops over the curbs again, picks the speed up now down the back straight towards Tower Corner. And Sid Smith, how close can he get to that practice time? He set it quite late in the session. It was his 5th lap of practice, but a lot of drivers set their fastest laps on the last lap, the 7th lap of practice the same length as this session, 15 minutes, so it could be right at the end of the session when they really get themselves up to speed, because you've got to be able to build the tyre temperature up, but you've also got to build your confidence up in the car, and as young, inexperienced drivers, that is not always that easy to do. So Sid Smith then now heads through Barcroft down into Sunny. Immaculately prepared car this, but he's been caught, isn't he, by the car behind him. So, and then he runs a bit wide as well through the middle of Sunny. So the car behind him is, it's the number 88, isn't it? And he's going to have to let him go. He has to let Joseph Knight through. So it's actually Joseph Knight then, the black car, that could be on a really quick lap here. Hops up onto 3 wheels through the complex into the penultimate corner and then up towards the hairpin. We know this isn't going to be an improvement for Sid Smith because he's backed off, but the car ahead of Joseph Knight, could this be a pole position time? Joseph is 5th at the moment, half a second off pole position. Comes out of the final corner. Sid Smith heads for the pit lane. What can Joseph Knight do, though? He was 5th at the start of the lap. He comes across the line now and wait for the timing screen to update. Actually, it's not an improvement, so maybe he got delayed a bit before he got past Sid Smith. Anyway, it wasn't an improvement in the end for the 88 car, so it's still Fairclough quickest then, with Jensen Brickley 2nd. Improvement into 8th position for James Wallace, which is the position he was in practice earlier on. Did a 1:43.427 in that practice session. That was a 43.465, so nearly an identical pace. Incidentally, the lap record is going to be broken today, I'm fairly certain, at least in qualifying, because the Fiesta Juniors have not raced here since the track was resurfaced. 2017 is when the lap records were set. Jack Davidson has the fastest ever qualifying lap of a 1:43.174, and Scott Cansdale did a 1:43.261 in the race that year. So sort of low 1 minute 43 is the time to beat, and in practice earlier on we had mid 41s, so we're 2.5 plus seconds quicker than we were all those years ago. 4 years ago now that would have been. And already in this session a 41.8 for Deegan Fairclough would be a new Fiesta Junior lap record. So into the complex then, we're following again here Joseph Knight. Alex Lay, after that spin that he had, is 2nd quickest now, and would you look at how close that is. So Deegan Fairclough is on provisional pole by 1/1000th of a second. It could not be any closer than that. So Fairclough then on pole position, Alex Lay 2nd, Jensen Brickley is 3rd, and he's only 0.38 of a second back as well. So the top 3 pretty evenly matched at the moment. This is the 281. This is car that didn't go out in practice, earlier on, actually. This is George Davis, so we've got an extra car, unless he's changed his number. No, George did not go out earlier on. In comes Jensen Brickley, from third position. So we had 14 out in practice, 15 have gone out in qualifying now. That does sort of make sense now. There's the number 50, that's Dylan Hotchin, and he's got himself, he's gone for a different strategy here, hasn't he? A lot of drivers are trying to get themselves clean air. He is trying to get some slipstreaming help here from some of the cars around him. You can see that Dylan does not have a novice cross on the back of his car, the yellow square with the black cross. That's because he raced in the championship last year. Those with the novice cross, they're in one of some of their first races, perhaps their first ever car race this weekend. So really trying to learn quickly as they try to compete with some of those who have a season of experience in the championship already. Through the Jim Clark S's, 47 there is one of those novice drivers, that's James Pope, who was 13th quickest in practice. At the moment he is rounding out the 15 runners. Into 5th position, by the way, a driver that I haven't mentioned yet, number 18, and that's another number that did not appear in practice earlier on, but that does look like it's been a number change for Jake Maynard. Because, I'm just going blind. Jake Maynard was 7th fastest in practice, so Jake improving on that a bit now to 5th position. In the pit lane is Alex Lay, so having set that time good enough for second, Alex Lay is pitted, so that's not his session done. There's still just under 5 minutes to go, but he's going to be hard pushed to get many more laps in, even if he left the pit lane now. By the time he's done an out lap and got some heat back into the tyres, he's only giving himself a couple of minutes then to improve. Any improvements in this bunch as they come across the line? The answer is no. We have had an improved time, though, from Albert Webster, who moved ahead of Jensen Brickley a moment or two ago. Not in this group, he's gone through about 30 seconds or so ago, but Webster up into 3rd on the grid now. Still in Hotchin then, down into Tower Corner, trying to find further improvements here in this qualifying session. We have had an improvement for Jake Triggs, a bit further down the order. Look, 11th place for him now, moves ahead of Archie Handy, whose pace is pretty handy at the moment. Actually, 43.9 is quite a bit quicker than he ever went in practice. He only got 1 lap in fairness, before he crashed, but 45.7 was the time he did in the practice session, so to be in the 43s now is pretty impressive, and good reward for the team who were repairing that car earlier on today. There goes the 19 car, so that is Daniel Lewis, who was slowest in practice, but he's 2nd slowest at the moment in the qualifying session, and actually has to slow down there because he got held up rather behind the 47 car of Pope, so they're the 2 slowest cars in the session getting themselves together. Cars sliding around through this final complex of corners then. Still Deegan Fairclough then in his debut on the championship. I was speaking to his parents yesterday actually, and briefly this morning, and they were amazed just how much he was enjoying himself out there. Massive smile on his face, and super excited to be in the championship. That was not a great exit from the final corner there for James Pope, but yeah, Deegan Fairclough massively enjoying himself, says the car is an awful lot of fun to drive. He's getting a lot of track time through testing, and obviously on the race weekend as well with this practice session on the Saturday morning. No racing today for Fiesta Juniors. They practice and qualify on the Saturday, race on the Sunday. It's almost like a mini touring car format really for the Fiesta Juniors, and of course that is kind of the point, because whilst a lot of junior categories use rear-wheel drive cars, sort of setting drivers off on a single-seater or sports car GT path, what Fiesta Juniors does is train you how to be a touring car driver, and we've seen drivers come out of Fiesta Juniors and Fiesta racing in general and go on to achieve pretty big things at the very highest levels of touring car racing. So that, I'm sure, is something that these drivers are all hoping to do, and it's why we're seeing more and more interest from the big touring car teams being shown in championships like this one in particular, really. Continue even to follow the 19 then of Daniel Lewis as he tries to improve on 14th place. Minute and 40 seconds still to go here, and Deegan Fairclough still with that pole position. Lay in second, just hasn't been able to improve, although Lay has just come out of the pit lane, actually. Both he and Albert Webster still in the pits, actually. So yeah, Lay then, Alex Lay, could be the one to watch then, the white number 76 car, wherever he is on the lap. He's going to have time for 2 flying laps then in this session to maybe try and find that 1,000th of a second that he needs to move back into pole position. What's the line? Goes Lewis, sorry. And that was, in the end, not an improvement. There goes Brickley in 4th position. Now, Brickley is only 87 thousandths of a second behind Albert Webster. So Webster is feeling the heat a bit now for 3rd place, and Webster's still in the pit, so Albert is not going to get back out there on track again. Whether that's a choice or whether he's maybe had a slight issue, I'm not sure. I would imagine it might be the latter. I can't imagine the choice would have been made to not go out there and qualify. So yeah, I would imagine with you only get 15 minutes of qualifying, these drivers will want to maximise their track time. So I would have thought that Albert Webster would have been out there if he could be. But yeah, he's elected to spend most of the session in the pit lane. Alex Lay, by the way, his first flying lap was about 1.5 seconds off his best, but he is back out there now with his tyres up to temperature, potentially about to go quicker. Brickley comes across the line. He's going to be the first driver to see the checkered flag, I think, and Jensen Brickley stays in 4th position. But I'm looking for Alex Lay, and hopefully we can spot him out on the track somewhere, maybe the number 76 car, the white with the red and blue stripes. He is the one that could potentially improve here towards the end of the session. We've got Jake Triggs making an improvement, and also actually Dylan Hotchin, that was there, moving up into 7th place. He's just found some good time at the end of the session. So checkered flag out then, waiting for the final few times to be logged. And are we going to see any changes here? Can Alex Lay find that little bit of time that he needs to take the pole position away from Deegan Fairclough? So Fairclough then has backed off. He's taking the checkered flag. Alex Lay is the one that I'm watching for here. So no, he's taking the checkered flag now and almost improved, but was only a 10th away from his previous best. So stays in 2nd position. Webster 3rd, Brickley 4th, Maynard 5th, Knight in 6th place, Dylan Hotch in 7th. And 8th position looks as though it's going to go the way of number 99, Sid Smith. So that's the big story here. Then Sid Smith with maybe some sort of an issue, because Sid did a 41.68 in practice, which was the fastest time in practice, and he's only managed a 43.1 here, so 1.5 seconds off the pace. Brickley then comes into the pit lane, as will everyone else now, of course, because the session is over. But yeah, that's interesting. Sid Smith then just not finding the pace that's required, really. So again, there might well have been some sort of a problem for Sid Smith in that practice session. So, qualifying over for the BRSCC Fiesta Junior Championship. We've got plenty more racing coming your way, though, and we've got 5 more races, in fact. We've got the Mazda MX-5 Championship up next, the Fiesta Championship, the Fiesta Senior Championship, that is, who had their qualifying session earlier on today. They're due out at about 4 o'clock. The ETSL STXR Challenge is at 4:30. The Mazda MX-5 Clubman Championship have their second race of the day at about 5:05. And the Nankang Tyres, Nankang Tyre BMW Compact Cup at 5:35. So they are 5 races today, and then tomorrow we start racing at a similar time, actually 12:35, for a full programme of 9 races, culminating in the 45-minute BRSCC Club Sport Trophy, which is always a great spectacle to round out these live stream events. As we wait for the last few drivers to head into the pit lane. There you can see Archie Handy's pink car coming through. Where did Archie end up? 12th place, not bad effort there for Archie, in a car that I'm sure still had a few things that weren't quite right with it. And Alex Lay there, the next car behind him as well, will be happy with the front row, but wondering where the extra thousandth of a second could have been found that he needed to take that pole position away from Deegan Fairclough, who will be ecstatic. I'm sure if he was enjoying himself already, Deegan, he'll definitely be enjoying himself after that qualifying session. He will be on pole then for the Fiesta Juniors tomorrow. Plenty more racing coming your way, though, today. For now, though, I think we can head down to have another chat with Scott Woodwiss, who's roaming around the pit lane and the paddock.
I say that I'm probably going to like to have a crack at
Come back to me if you want.
Folks, row 8 is 44 Bateman and 34 Colin Greytrix. And row 9, 3 Richard Wotton and 37 Tim Dorr. Row 10 is 31 Bryn Griffiths, 155.
So we will get down to Scott Woodwiss momentarily, who I think is in the assembly area ahead of our next race, which is for the MX-5 Clubman Championship. And the cars, as you can see, no, it's not, excuse me, for the MX-5 Championship. Just too many MX-5 championships around these days, aren't there? Because we have 3 of them racing here this weekend, MX-5 championships, and this is indeed the Mazda MX-5 Championship, which is the original one for the Mark 1 cars, and the pack. So, yes, the Mazda MX-5 Championship then makes its way out onto the circuit. Let's just run through the grid, shall we? I think that's going to be a little bit easier. So, the MX-5 Championship then, another big grid of cars here. We've got some 40 of them. I think this is the biggest grid here, and I think we can head actually down to Scott now.
Junior Championship. That was qualified for the Fiesta Junior Championship. As you can see behind me right now, going out on track are the contenders for the Mazda MX-5 Championship for their first race of the season. And Jack Brewer is on pole position. Alongside him is Steve Foden, and then we have Michael Dibbs, last year's front-running contender of Allwood. We worked with him so close to the title. We just missed out to last year's champion, Joe Wigan. It's always a full grid of 40 cars. They're all heading out for the first race. It's going to be quite an exciting race, being one of the most popular and most best supported championships on the BRSCC roster. So, over to Andy McKeown. He'll be able to take you to the grid for this first race.
The cars head out then onto their green flag lap. I think we can take a look at how they're going to line up for this one then. Should be a really, really exciting race this. So many quick drivers racing with us this season. It's Jack Brewer, though, that was quickest of anybody, qualifying by just over a tenth and a half from Steve Foden second. Michael Nibbs and Ollie Allwood make up row 2 ahead of Brian Trott and Jason Greytrex. Adam Craig and Oliver Graham make the 4th row. Fraser Fennick and Stuart Simmons are next ahead of Owen Mills and Matt Pollard. Luke Pullen and Zach Oakes are on the 7th row. Paul Bacon and Cameron Greytrex make up row number 8. Richard Wotton, Tim Dorr, Bryn Griffiths and George King round out the top 20 ahead of Michael Green and Scott Leach. Richard Martin to begin next in line. Row 13 of this mammoth grid is shared by Cian Donaldson and Oak Richardson, with Tom Mallett and Aston Wigley next up. Matthew Allen and Kevin Dengate are rounding out the top 30, and there are still 10 more to go. Ollie Walden and Graham Rumsey on the 16th row. Row 17, Michael Pearce and Jordan Pimley. Alan Hawkins and Nick Ledoyen are next ahead of Jonathan Fieldsend. Bo Parry, Brad Jones and Anthony Pettigrew at the back of the grid. So at the head of the field, Jack Brewer on pole from Steve Foden, likely to have a bit of a changing of the guard this year in the Mark 1 Championship, because so many of our frontrunners over the last few years have moved over into the SuperCup field. People like John Langridge, Will Blackwell-Chambers, Sam Smith, Adam Bessel, they've all moved over into the SuperCup. We've got a few of the former and recent race winners in Mark 1s that have stuck around. For example, Ollie Allwood, 4th on the grid, Brian Trott, 5th on the grid. I spoke to Brian yesterday, actually, and he said, although he doesn't usually do full seasons, he is hoping to stick around for a full campaign in 2021. Here's the white car with sort of orange and purple stripes down the middle of it in the green highlights that lines up on the inside of row number 3. a couple of years ago was actually leading the championship in the early stages before having to miss a few rounds mid-season. So Brian Trott, very, very quick driver, and will definitely be one of those that we're expecting to see up near the front. And you might remember Michael Nibbs was out on track not that long ago in a very similarly liveried Mark III SuperCup car. Number 82 lines up third on the grid. Did he not start third on the SuperCup grid, or was it fourth? He was fourth on the SuperCup grid and third in the Mark I grid. So nothing if not consistent, Michael Nibbs, and the number 82 car looking to try and get on the podium this time in the Mark I race. Ollie Allwood, who lines up alongside him, is a former race winner as well, number 63. He was one of many drivers who had lap times disallowed for exceeding track limits in qualifying. He also had a spin in qualifying for the 69 of Brad Jones, which was essentially the only issue really in the Mark I session. Pretty good going, given the fact there are 40 of them out on track, and this is on top of the Clubman Championship as well, which is a whole separate thing, so running to the same regulations basically, but just over a one-day format. So the introduction of that Clubman Championship hasn't really affected the grid sizes too much for the Mark I Championship itself. Lap record wise, by the way, again, they haven't raced here for a number of years, the Mark I, so we should see a new lap record, a 1:42.0 set by Alan Henderson back in 2014 is the time they're aiming to beat, but they were 2 or 3 seconds underneath that in qualifying. The race, though, is underway. We are racing for the first time in 2021 for the MX-5 Championship, and that rush towards Clervaux begins. It's an absolute swarm of them heading down towards the first corner. Adam Craig there, the number 29 car, who's a lot further up the order this year than he has been in the past, goes up the inside and then gets very sideways, gathers it together. More of them doing the same in the midfield. There's a bit of argy-bargy. Do they all survive? The tyres go flying. That was Richard Wootton that hit them in the black and yellow number 3. But somehow they're all still there. A few of them a bit bruised and battered maybe. Now 4 wide through the chicane is not going to work. Someone has to bail out of that, and no one did. Oh yes, someone does go across the tarmac runoff area on the left-hand side. Right, at the front of the field, it's Jack Brewer that still leads the way, but it's Michael Nibbs second, and that looked like Brian Trott third. Steve Foden there, the black and gold car, has dropped down to at least fourth. That might even be fifth position as they go towards the Jim Clark S's. So the order appears to be Brewer from Nibbs from Allwood, the top 3, and no, Brian Trott is third, Allwood fourth, so Foden must be fifth. Yes, he is, as they head towards the top of the circuit. Then it's Adam Craig who's got himself ahead of the red and white number 33 there, Jason Greytrex, and he rather has his hands full because Stuart Simmons there in the white and purple AB Motorsport car is right behind him, and Simmons started 10th, so he has gained ground. Looks like Oliver Graham there, the number 24, has pretty much held position. The first lap of racing though in the books, and it is Jack Brewer that comes through the penultimate corner. There is that Ollie Graham, Stuart Simmons fight. Someone's going to dive up the inside into the hairpin, surely. Yep, there it goes. 263 is Fraser Fennick up the inside of Adam Craig. So one of the places Adam gained at turn 1 gets lost at the end of the lap. Jack Brewer then leads the opening lap here at Croft. Second place, Michael Nibbs. Third place for Brian Trott. So Brian Trott does gain 2 places from where he started. And this, though, is that fight for third. Ollie Allwood wants that third place back, if at all possible. They clobber the curbs. Got still Steve Foden going with them. Oops, the cones go flying. Through the gravel goes one car there. Cones getting scattered around the track. They've survived all day, actually, those cones up at Clervaux, but 40 Mazda MX-5s ploughing through there at once was a bit too much to ask, wasn't it? Oh, in fact, one of them's got stuck under the car, look, so I'm not sure who that is. That might be, is that the number 22 of Owen Mills, possibly, that's run over the curbs? Change for third, Ollie Allwood up the inside of Brian Trott, so that's down at Tower Corner. A normal service regime then for Allwood. He's back ahead of Brian. Those two qualified 4th and 5th, but they both gained a place at the expense of the slightly sluggish start for Steve Foden. Top 2, though, breaking away. Jack Brewer in the lead. Second place for Michael Nibbs. Further back, let's see if we can pick out that car that's picked up the cone. I am fairly sure it's the 22 of Owen Mills, because he's just behind Stuart Simmons. So yeah, that would be right. So it's Mills then who's carrying a bit of circuit furniture around with him. Ollie Graham here almost latching on fully to the back of Adam Craig's car. Craig defends the inside going into the complex, and I think should hang on to what is 7th place. But it's now a leading quintet, really, isn't it? Here, 5 cars together, and Fraser Fennick is going after them as well. So this is developing into a typical MX-5 race here, isn't it? Where no one can really get away from each other. It's nose to tail throughout the field. And they race across the start-finish line then, with the fastest lap being traded there between the top three. Brewer had it, then Nibs had it, then Ollie Allwood had it with a 1 minute 40.377, and that is then a new lap record here at Croft for the Mazda MX-5 Mark 1 Championship, who, just to reiterate, have not yet raced on this new-ish surface at Croft. It's probably years old now, but the Mark 1 Championship doesn't always come and race at Croft. When it does, it's always a popular addition to the calendar. They just haven't had the chance to try out this new surface yet, so we were always expecting that lap record to fall, and it could, and arguably should, fall even further before the end of the race. Bit of separation now in this lead pack, isn't there? There was a mistake, I think, for Brian Trott. Yeah, he's fallen behind Steve Foden now, so Foden into fourth place, and behind, Ollie Graham was having a big look up the inside of Adam Craig. How did that one work out? They're both still there, yes they are, and they're actually still in the same order, with Craig in 8th and Graham in 9th place. But yeah, that little battle between Foden and Trott, with Foden moving ahead of Brian, has allowed these top three to get away. And actually, Allwood isn't exactly on the tail of the top two. So Michael Nibs and Jack Brewer making a bit of a break here. Brewer the leader. Michael Nibs right behind him. Gets really sideways through Sunny in and Sunny out. And drops off the edge of the curve slightly there on the exit of the second part of the corner. Just loses him a few car lengths to the leader. And yes, look, allows Allwood to get back onto his tail. So once again, 3 for the lead. Steve Foden warming to the task now, isn't he? Wasn't on his toes at the start, but he's worked his way up into 4th place, and he is gaining on the leading 3. Allwood up the inside of Michael Nibs. There's always going to be contact at the hairpin. I think Nibs just about avoided significant contact because he saw Allwood coming, but there was almost certainly a bit of paint traded there, and for nothing in the end, because Allwood didn't get through, and all it achieved was allowed Jack Brewer to pull out of the 1 second bracket now, just over a second the gap between first and second, as they complete lap number 3 of the race. Fastest lap this time, and therefore lap record goes to Brewer, but I think we should get down into the 39s before the end of the race. The qualifying pace for Jack Brewer was a 39.9, and he's just done a 40.2, essentially, 40.198, but basically 1 minute 40.2, so a few more temps to be found once he gets the tyres up to temperature. Adam Craig in the background there skips the chicane, the yellow car that was running in 8th position. Did he lose any positions as a result of that? Blue flags waving for some reason. All of these cars should be on the lead lap, but Craig possibly going slowly after having shortcut the chicane. Stuart Simmons, Ollie Graham was the car right behind him, and Graham, I can see in the background, has gone through now, so Ollie Graham into 9th place, into 8th place ahead of Adam Craig. As the race now starts to settle into a bit of a rhythm, top 4 with this gap back to Brian Trott, who's just strangely not off the pace exactly, but not on the pace we normally see him running at. And Simmons, look, has lost out again now to Adam Craig. I assure you, in the background, I saw that Simmons was up alongside Craig. You can see Graham has gone through, but Adam Craig has at least stemmed the flow at just 1 position lost. And someone's in the Farmers Field at Tower. I wonder how long that would take. It is number 70, which is Michael Pearce, who qualified 33rd, and now he's finding that ditch that the marshal was telling him about there. If you go off at speed, you sort of sail over the ditch, but then as you try and sort of crawl your way back on the track, you can easily end up falling into it and getting stuck. So it's as good as a gravel trap in that way, in that once you're off the road, it's hard to get back on. Fraser Fennick up the inside of Brian Trott, who doesn't seem to have the straight line speed required there, does he? Fennick just drives straight past him and moves into 5th position. So Fraser Fennick into the top 5 now, having qualified down in 9th, so he's one of the drivers that's coming forwards rather than backwards in this one. Runs very wide through Hawthorne though, and Brian Trott sees a chance to get it straight back. He's up the inside into the chicane, and he's gone through, so Brian Trott then moves ahead once again of Fraser Fennick, and all of that jockeying for position is bringing Jason Greatrex onto their coattails. So a 3-way fight here for 5th position, developing quite nicely. They turn their way through Tower Corner once again, ticking towards half race distance, then 12.5 minutes or so to go. And Michael Nibs only matching Jack Brewer ahead of the field, so the gap is just over that 1 second still. In fact, Brewer was fractionally quicker, even though it was a personal best for Michael Nibs. So Fraser Fennick is thinking now, I've found a way past Brian Trott once, what do I have to do to make it stick? Well, not running wide at Hawthorne is probably a good place to start. He made the move down the pit straight, but then that little mistake was all the invitation that Brian Trott needed to move back into that 5th spot. And Jason Greatrex now very much a part of this as well, which makes Fraser Fennick's job doubly difficult, because he's got not only the job of trying to attack Brian Trott, but he's also trying to keep one eye on the mirror to see what Jason Greatrex is doing. There go the leading force. You can see the gaps. It was 1 second. It's come down this time, so that was a bit better. 2/10 faster there for Michael Nibbs. He's getting back into proper slipstream range. Again, look though, Brian Trott is down on straight line speed. Jack Brewer pulls right onto his tail, but wasn't fully alongside that time, so he didn't commit to a move at Clervaux. You don't really outbrake people into Clervaux, but if you're already alongside, you can sort of force the issue at the apex, but you're not going to lunge up the inside of them from a long way back like you can at places like Tower or Sunny or the Hairpin. That's more of a corner you don't really want to go side by side through. You don't do a lot of braking. You carry more speed through that first corner than you'd think. Michael Nibbs carrying some speed now, though, because he's closing in, and Fraser Fennick was up the inside of Brian Trott for 5th position. Let's see, did he get it? Did he get it? No, still Brian Trott ahead, so we can focus on the leaders then as they go through the Jim Clark S's. Pairing off now, aren't they? 2 for the lead, 2 for 3rd, and then, well, 3 for 5th position. But Fraser Fennick has once been ahead of Brian Trott. He almost got him again then at Tower. There'll be a bit of frustration starting to set in, I think, now for Fraser, who thought about going up the inside at Sunny. Brian Trott saw that one coming, carries good speed through the turn. Keeps that immaculate livery 263 car behind. I think that is a new livery on Fraser's car for this year. He looks very, very good indeed. Leaders come through. Look how close Michael Nibbs is now to Jack Brewer. So we saw this in the SuperCup race, didn't we, earlier on, where Jack Harding, once he got within a second of the race leader, Patrick Fletcher, was able to take that next second out of him very quickly because of the slipstream. And I think the same is true here of Michael Nibbs catching Jack Brewer. So game on for the race lead now. We move into the second half of the race, just under 10 minutes to go. And Jack Brewer now has a little bit of work to do again. He's broken free of Michael Nibbs once, but this time Nibbs isn't under any pressure from Ollie Allwood behind, so it's going to be harder to shake him off now. There you can see Allwood in the background starting to think about what Steve Foden's doing behind him. Still Trott 5th. We've had some changing behind them because Adam Craig has dropped 4 positions on that lap. Adam Craig falls down to 13th place. Not quite sure what happened there. I also spotted we had yellow flags at the complex, but I can't actually tell you what that's for. In fact, there are yellow flags right the way through the complex, so I don't know why the yellow flag is there at the final couple of corners. Possibly a car off in the final sector. We'll try and find out who it is. Could be debris, I suppose, on the track, but I suspect... Well, let's see, what can the timing screen tell us? Who's gone missing? Luke Pullen apparently has gone missing, so too, what we know about number 70, Michael Pearce. He's off digging for crops down at Tower, so I think it must be number 38 that we've lost at the complex. Exactly where he's gone, I'm not entirely sure, but that appears to be the car that is off towards the end of the lap. Yellow flags then through the final few corners, and that's the part of the circuit the leaders are heading to now, and that's doubly frustrating for Michael Nibbs because he's in prime attacking position as they go into the left-hander at the start of the complex, and could have thought about attacking Jack Brewer for the lead properly there had the yellow flags not been out. They're back in again now through the hairpin, and is Ollie Allwood getting closer? Oh, there we go. Is that an AB Motorsport car? Yeah, that will be Pullen then off. He's pulled off going into the hairpin rather than gone off, so mechanical issue rather than a mistake. Right, leaders through, but I'm now interested in the gap between 2nd and 3rd. That was 1.7 seconds, and it's still 1.7 seconds. No, it's 1.3 seconds now, excuse me. So it did come down, Allwood to Nibbs, and that's without Nibbs and Brewer really fighting each other too hard. So Ollie Allwood finding a second win now as we move into the middle part of the race, and bringing with him Steve Foden. Fraser Fennick, by the way, has now got the better of Brian Trott for the second time, but he was half a second ahead of Brian at the start of the lap, so I think he's probably done enough now to make 5th place his own, but he's not going to be able to catch the leaders because they're 5 or even 6 seconds nearly ahead of them now. Still Trott 6th, Jason Graytrek 7th, Ollie Graham 8th, 9th Simmons, 10th Mills, as the leaders head through the Jim Clark S's, and Michael Nibbs once again starts to build for an attack now. The yellow flags have gone in at the complex, so he's free to overtake wherever he likes now. But that rather depends on where Jack Brewer leaves him the open door to go through, and so far Jack hasn't made a single mistake, has he? Jack Brewer driving extremely well in this one, defending under intense pressure from Michael Nibbs behind him, who of course already has a race under his belt, doesn't he, this well, today, because he was out in that SuperCup race earlier on. So Jack Brewer works his way through. 7th in the championship last year was Jack Brewer. Again, a shortened campaign, but they still got into double figures, I think, as far as numbers of races in 2020. Joe Wigan was the champion. He's moved on to other things this year, though. Ollie Allwood, therefore, the highest placed returning driver from last season. He finished second and is running third in this race. 1.9 seconds off the lead now, but again, was sort of matching these two last time was Allwood. So if at any point over the remaining 6.25 minutes these two really start delaying each other, Allwood could get right back into this, and Foden as well. Brian Trott, I can tell you, is losing more ground. He's down to 7th place now, because Jason Greatrex has gone past him into 6th, and also within the top 10, Owen Mills, despite dragging that cone around behind him, has got past Stuart Simmons. So the AB Motorsport car's fading a bit here, actually, as we go through the race. So just under 6 minutes to go then. And Jack Brewer has 6 more minutes to try and keep Michael Knibbs behind him. It seems the impossible task, because Knibbs is just so close to him, and you can't imagine the pressure that you're under as a racer when you've got a car filling your mirrors like this. I mean, there is often only a foot between the rear of Brewer's car and the front of Knibbs' car. If you slide even a foot or so wide of the apex, Knibbs is going to be on the inside, and once he's there, it's probably job done. So Jack Brewer has to be inch perfect now in the remaining few laps in this race in order to keep Michael Knibbs behind. This is the part of the circuit Knibbs seems good, isn't it? Coming out of Sunny, he always forces Brewer to defend into the complex, but it's very hard to really force the move through there. Third place is still Allwood, Steve Foden 4th, and they're now dropping back again. So that little mid-race challenge from Allwood seems to have faded slightly. He's relying now on the leaders really setting to it and going side by side. If they start doing that, then he might get back into it. But for now, third place as good as it's likely to get. Across the line they go again then. 9 laps in the books, 4 3/4 minutes to go, and it is Jack Brewer trying to hang on to the race victory. Knibbs 2nd, Allwood 3rd, Foden 4th. Have we had changing behind? Yeah, another place lost for Brian Trott. So what's wrong here with Brian Trott? Qualified 5th, was in the hunt early on, and now he's dropped down into 8th position. And Stuart Simmons has gone back past Owen Mills. So lots of to and fro battling through the field, where one driver gains a position and then instantly seems to give it back. That's not been the case at the front though. Brewer's led from the start in this one, never by a huge margin. He had about a 1.1 second gap in the middle part of the race, but now, well, ever since about halfway through, it's been no more than a couple of car lengths. Both Ollie Allwood and Steve Foden there drop a wheel over the edge of that curb through Tower. First half of the lap for Brewer looks good, doesn't it? It's through this section that Michael Knibbs gains, partly through the slipstream, maybe on the high-speed section, but I think he's doing most of it through the corners, through Sunny and into the complex. Steve Foden here facing a very similar challenge. He's got a face full of Ollie Allwood and just can't get through. These cars, of course, all identical in performance. In theory, it's a very tightly regulated championship, and so it is all down to the drivers being able to find an advantage over their opposition, and that's clearly not easy to do when they're all operating on such an even level, which is exactly what we wanted to see, because with so many of our quick drivers moving on to SuperCup now, there was a slight concern maybe that there would maybe be 1 or 2 left that were really quick and then everyone else left scrabbling to keep up. But we've got some good competition here throughout the field, with Brewer and Knibbs particularly evenly matched. Knibbs now dropping back again though. It's nearly a second advantage with probably 2 laps to go. So Knibbs has got to now do the hard job of catching Brewer and then the even harder job of getting past him again, and I'm just not sure he's got anything left in the tank. Allwood and Foden's going to run to the flag though, I think. So are the battles behind. Ollie Graham is now ahead of Jason Greatrex, 6th position for him. Wouldn't mind seeing that battle for 5th actually, because every time they come across the line they're in a slightly different order. So the leaders come down into Tower then, no change for the lead, a possible change for 3rd, although Steve Foden with a bit of a lock-up there. That was an opportunistic look up the inside, or an optimistic look I should say up the inside, rather than a genuine overtaking challenge, I think. But it could be incoming. Leaders go through, an ever-increasing margin between them. I think Michael Knibbs might have settled for 2nd place here. Head through Barcroft and Sunny again, and Steve Foden almost up the inside of Ollie Allwood, who's almost on the grass as they go into Sunny, and he's gone wide, and this could be the opportunity Steve Foden's been looking for. He's got the nose on the inside, but that camber through the middle part of Sunny in just saved Ollie Allwood there. He carried way too much speed into the corner because he was preoccupied with the challenge Foden had just made through Barcroft, and if it hadn't been for the camber in the road, he'd have probably been off the road. But as it was, he not only stayed on the black stuff, but carried good speed through the corner and was able to keep the 77 car behind. But Foden is all over him, goes to the outside into the hairpin, tries to cut back to that late apex, but as we've seen in all of the races today, it's very hard to do that because you're on full lock through the corner. You can't physically make the car turn any tighter and carry the speed off the turn. So last lap then begins, 1 minute and 20 seconds left to go, so this will be the final lap of the race. Jack Brewer is now 1.3 seconds to the good. This is the biggest margin he's had all race long. He set a fastest lap of 1 minute 40.198, which will comfortably be the new lap record by nearly 2 seconds, beating Alan Henderson's 7-year-old record from 2014. Jack Brewer having already broken the qualifying record as well earlier on this morning. Steve Foden and Ollie Allwood there side by side for third. So Allwood was going to the inside to cover from Foden, as both Brewer and Nibs have a bit of a moment there through Tau. But what's going on for third place? It is Allwood still in front. So Ollie Allwood then staying in P3. But by the skin of his teeth, you've got to say, if he hangs on to that to the flag, that is a mighty impressive defensive job. Jack Brewer then in the lead of the race, and this has been not a dominant performance, much more dominant victory than it has been actually, I think, because he's likely to win this race by over a second, but as we've seen, it's never been more than half a second between them really until these last couple of laps. They both go around the outside of one of the back markers there. That I think was the 85 car, wasn't it? That was doing its best to get out of the way of Pettigrew, Anthony Pettigrew, making his debut in the championship. But across the start-finish line comes the race leader and now race winner in round number 1 of the BRSCC Mazda MX-5 Championship for 2021. It's Jack Brewer victorious, Michael Nibs in second position, and Ollie Allwood just about hangs on to third place. Now, this is the real battle. 5th position, Fraser Fenwick is going to hang on, I think, yes, from Ollie Graham in 6th, so he's got ahead of Jason Greatrex on the last lap. I told you they keep changing positions. Greatrex 7th, Brian Trott is 8th, Simmons in 9th, just from Matt Pollard in 10th position. Yes, then Owen Mills, Adam Craig, Paul Bateman behind, the rest of them all coming through. Good race there for the MX-5 Championship then, and great battles all the way through the field. But ahead of the field, it was all about Jack Brewer and Michael Nibs, and it's Brewer that comes out victorious by 1.8 seconds. Like I say, that doesn't really do the race justice. Michael Nibs really pushing him hard there, and Nibs will be happy with his day's work, I think, won't he? Second place in that race, and Michael Nibs finished the SuperCup race earlier on in 5th place, having run inside the top 3 or 4 in the early stages. So let's remind ourselves in a moment or two of some of the highlights of that race. It was a fantastic opening round of the Mazda MX-5 Championship, and it went a little bit like this. Well, at the start of the race, it was wheel-to-wheel throughout the field, really, and a very chaotic opening corner. Adam Craig there, the yellow number 29 car, had a big lock-up through the first turn. Fraser Fenwick was right behind him, and he somehow manages to gain a whole heap of places through all of this. A number of cars get sideways, a number of cars go through the gravel. Owen Mills manages to run through the cones a lap later through this first sequence of corners, whilst Richard Wootton headbutted the tyres on the apex of the corner. Thankfully, though, they all survived the opening few turns, and the battles could then continue on into the race, with Jack Brewer staying ahead of Michael Nibs, who had got himself ahead of the 77 of Steve Foden at the start. This was Owen Mills going around the outside of Stuart Simmons and running straight through the cones through the middle part of Clairvaux. And although he took some of the circuit furniture with him, it didn't seem to slow him down. Owen Mills eventually coming home in 11th, but ran inside the top 10 for much of the race. Steve Foden's recovery drive took him to 4th, and he had a grandstand view of this battle between Michael Nibs and Ollie Allwood. Allwood went up the inside through the hairpin. They almost made contact, but Ollie Allwood in the end settled back behind, and that really was the last we saw of him. From that point onwards, Michael Nibs was able to pull clear. Adam Craig, Stuart Simmons, Owen Mills all had a brilliant battle going on at the far end of the circuit, whilst unfortunately off into the Farmers Field down at Tower Corner, we lost the number 70 car of Pierce, and he was not able to get back into the race. Brian Trott had to fend off Fraser Fenwick for much of the race, but in the second half of the race, Brian Trott did seem to lose a bit of pace, fell down the order, eventually finishing the opening race in 8th position, whilst at the head of the field, Michael Nibbs was really putting the race leader, Jack Brewer, under pressure. Ollie Allwood and Steve Foden fought for third place. It was Allwood, though, that came home on the podium, with Michael Nibbs second and Jack Brewer the race winner. And I believe we can now hear from those 3 drivers with Scott Woodless.
There we go, 2 Mazda MX-5 races today, 2 first-time winners. We had it in the SuperCup with Patrick Fletcher, and that man there, Jack Brewer, who I know has been waiting for that for a long time. And again, the look on his face absolutely says it all, but I think I have to quickly dive in there and have a chat and see how he's feeling. Jack, 2 first-time winners in Mazdas today, so I know that's been a long time coming. I think the look on your face says it all. You're made up with that.
I can't believe it. The boys behind me, the Tucker boys, just have done the best job all weekend. The car is spot on. It looks brilliant. Airborne have done a brilliant job of the car, and I'm over the moon with it. I can't believe I won it.
It was a close one because obviously Michael was giving you a lot of pressure, particularly in the second half of that race, but he managed to get a small gap towards the end, so that seemed to help out.
He closed up quite a lot, sort of in the middle part of the race, and then he made a mistake through turn 2, and it just gave me that little bit of rest that I needed more than anything. But I'm over the moon. Massive thank you to Project as well for sponsoring me and for clothing, as well as obviously Airborne, I already said. I'm over the moon with it.
No pressure, but you got to do it again tomorrow.
Yeah, it'll be right.
Quite confident, I like it. Now listen, go and celebrate tonight. Well done. Yes, your first win MX-5's top class win. I know you've been waiting for that for ages.
Yeah, fingers crossed for more.
Good stuff. Well done, mate. Congratulations. Right, let's now maybe swift on. Let's have a chat with Michael Nibbs in second place. Michael, if we bring you over. That's not bad. Is that your best result in Mile 1s?
It certainly is, yeah. My first podium, so...
Fantastic. Good stuff. You pushed Jack all the way there. That was very close at this point.
Yeah. I just stepped his bumper the whole, from the beginning to the end. I was thinking there might be a last lap dice, but it didn't happen.
Car seems well sorted this year.
Yeah, thanks to an NHA motorsport from an Aiden Jones.
So now you've got the daunting prospect of being on the front row for the second race. You've got to try and beat him down to turn 1 now. Good stuff. Well done, Michael. Best result. Congratulations. Great job. And now we need to see where Ollie Allwood's got to. I've just seen Jack Brewer's behind us. Ollie has disappeared, it seems. I was hoping we'd have a chat with Ollie, but he seems to have run off. So we might possibly have to wrap it there. We're hoping to chat to Ollie, but he seems to have run off. So apologies for that. But yeah, 2 first-time winners in Mazda MX-5 today. We had Patrick Fletcher earlier. Now we've got Jack Brewer. First time winners everywhere. Actually, before we go, he's just turned up, actually. I was wondering where Ollie had got to. Let's just sorting out his hat here for a second, then we'll get it on. Hello, Ollie. That's not a bad way to start 2021, is it? On the podium and kind of picking up somewhere where you left off from last year.
We really had the pace out there, to be honest. These guys, sorry past this thing, are absolute rubbish shit. Might go really, really well. And congratulations to Jack as well on the win. For us, it was okay. Got away at the start okay. Got into third quite quickly, and then just trying to hang on. I took one shot and Nibbs hit going into the hairpin and didn't come off. But I knew I wasn't going to do him down the straight. And after that, it was just trying to keep the tyres on because they just burn away. And I think Steve Foden's tyres hung on a little bit better than mine. So I ended up having to defend from him towards the end. But it was a good battle. I enjoyed it. Third place, not bad.
You've been doing this for a few years, so you know how it works. So you're on the pace in terms of the front runners. So I can't imagine it'll be long until you're up there getting a victory again.
No.
Good stuff, man. Well done for third place. Good way to start, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Cheers, thanks.
Good stuff. So we did get all 3 in the end. Congratulations to our top 3 in the Mazda MX-5s. We're now heading off to the first race of the Fiesta Championship and the brand new turbo Fiestas in the ST240 cars. They are absolute rocket ships, and as you'll see, Andy, they're going to set quite the pace as they head out for race number 1.
Yes, thank you very much, Scott. So the cars are about to head out onto the circuit, as you said, for the BRSCC Fiesta Championship. If you like Fords, and Ford Fiestas in particular, this is a good event to be watching because we've got 3 different Ford Fiesta Championships, all catering for slightly different cars or drivers. This is what's referred to within the BRSCC as the Fiesta Senior Championship. We had the Fiesta Juniors out qualifying earlier on. They'll have 2 races tomorrow. The Fiesta Seniors, though, as well as being open to more experienced drivers, obviously, also has a couple of different classes of car, or different types of cars. So you've got the Fiesta STs that are the shape of Fiesta that was out in the Fiesta Junior Championship earlier on. We also have the ZTEX, the newer shape Ford Fiestas. Not even the latest shape Fiesta anymore, is it? But it was been racing in this championship pretty much as soon as that shape of Fiesta came out. And we've got a number of them out there now. Most of which appear to be running in this invitational class, which is new, the ST180 Turbo class for the slightly more powerful Fiestas, and we've got about half the grid running in that invitational class here this weekend. Last year, the championship was won by Sam Watkins with Spencer Stevenson second. Now, Sam Watkins isn't back, at least this weekend, but Spencer is. So Spencer Stevenson arguably was the pre-event favourite. However, he was only third on the grid. Zach Lucas took pole position from John Cooper second. John Cooper, you'd expect to see racing minis rather than Fords, I suppose, with a name like that, but John Cooper second on the grid. It's worth pointing out that the top 3 on the grid were covered by less than 1/10 of a second, so exceptionally tight in qualifying, and that means we're probably going to get some close racing today. Zach Lucas on pole position. In fairness to him, only competed in 1 event last year, which was Silverstone. The Fiesta Championship took place over 3 events last year because of the shortened season, COVID, etc., etc. Cadwell Park was the season opener. He didn't race there. Croft here was actually the championship decider. He didn't race there, but he did race in the middle meeting at Silverstone in September, where he scored solid points in both races. Actually, he was a top 5 contender with Zach Lucas in both of those races, and he has now made good on that promise of pace from last year by sticking his Ford Fiesta on pole position. And Zachary Lucas, as I said, arguably then, after qualifying, I suppose, is the easy pick, isn't he, for pre-race favourite. Run by Daniels Motorsport, that car. Daniels Motorsport also running David Nye, former British touring car racer, who lines up on the 3rd row of the grid, another veteran of the championship. Also got the Jam Sport team out there, and Jamie Going, the team boss, is racing, as he often does, in his ST, which is also running in the invitational class, actually, despite not being one of these ST180 turbos. So Jamie Going, at least it's not listed as an ST180 turbo. Sometimes drivers can turn up in different cars than you expect them to, but Jamie Going, who's raced in Renault Clios as well in the past, but best known for his Ford Fiesta exploits, the owner of the Jam Sport team. But it is Zachary Lucas on pole position, and it's a Daniels Motorsport 1-2 because John Cooper is second on the grid, and we can take a look very shortly at how that grid lines up. We're just waiting for the cars to all filter out onto the circuit. You can see now the different shapes and sizes of Ford Fiesta. It is this, the turbo class appears to be the facelifted version of the Ford Fiesta, so it is the newer shape Ford Fiesta with that signature, almost Aston Martin-esque grille that seems to be on most Fords. Now, oh, there's a spin already on the green flag lap. That's not supposed to happen. Is that... that's not Rosie Hunt. It is. I could see we're seeing a number on that. I think it might have been Matt Chambers. Possibly. I'd like to see maybe who that purple car was at the back of the grid then, who had that spin. But because they've fallen right to the back of the grid now, they are not going to be able to take their original position. Right, let's run through the grid then, although it might slightly change now. Zachary Lucas and John Cooper on the front row, just 32 thousandths between them in qualifying, and Spencer Stevenson third was only 96 1,000ths for second on pole position, so very tight between those 3. Rob Smith fourth, David Nye is fifth ahead of Luke Pinder. Jamie Going is seventh and shares the 4th row with Simon Horriman, who's been racing in this championship for a number of years now. Dominic Bush and Ethan Rogers next, then Jack Yohill and Marco Ricci, and then it was one of these drivers at the back that just had the spin, either Brianny Davis, Rosie Hunt or Matt Chambers, but I believe we're going to have another chance to have a look at that in a moment or two anyway and see precisely what happened. But that is as graphic an example as ever you'll see of cold tyres. Oh, and it is Matt Chambers from the back of the grid who's just had a big spin, and round he went. So it wasn't Bryony Davis or Rosie Hunt, but Matt Chambers who had the big lose. And that is rather embarrassing, but everyone's done it at some point in their racing career. Even the greats have gone off on green flag laps and such like. So we can forgive Matt that on cold tyres. Now you can see him at the back of the field, running a little bit more sensibly now, a bit more cautiously in that number 69 car. So this is another race in which we're likely to see some lap records for, because the lap records at the moment in the Fiesta Championship stand from 2017. David Nye set both the qualifying and race lap records, and his qualifying lap record has already been absolutely smashed. Not just beaten, but obliterated, because it was the lap record in qualifying was a 138.2. Zach Lucas did a 133.6 in qualifying, so we're talking nearly 5 seconds quicker. The race lap record is very similar as well. It's actually slightly slower, 38.5, so expect to see that go in this race. But who will win the race? Well, that is a much harder question to answer, with Zach Lucas, John Cooper and Spencer Stevenson so evenly matched in qualifying. There are the Daniels Motorsport teammates on the front row, Lucas and Cooper. And at some point during the race, we'll try and figure out how to tell the two apart, because they look very similar from the initial viewing. Then it's Spencer Stevenson, the red car on the third place on the grid. Rob Smith is the black, green and red car to the right of shot. And then the white 121 is David Nye, the lap record holder. But of course, that would have been in the older shape ST. And we've raced at Croft since we've had these newer shape Fiestas racing in the series. So yeah, these cars are in theory quicker, a little bit more powerful, a bit heavier, but more powerful, good grip, and they're well sorted now. It took some of the teams a few years to get these cars to the pace they're running now, but as you can see, the front of the field completely locked out now by the newer shape Fiesta STs. So 15 minutes then is the duration for round one of the BRSCC Fiesta Championship. Pole position for Zach Lucas, that's the right-hand side of the road. On the left is John Cooper. The red lights will go on very shortly, and then we will be racing. There they go, they're on now, they go out now, away we go. No wheel spin at all there from the front row men. John Cooper is away well from the outside of row one, and he looks like he might have the lead as they head into Clervaux for the first time. It is going to be Cooper that gets ahead of Lucas then. And for third place, well, it is definitely no longer Spencer Stevenson. He's had a difficult start there. So Rob Smith has come through into third position. Oh, it's all getting very tight through the right-hander at Hawthorne. Jamie Going there leaning on someone as they go through, and there's a bit more contact through the chicane, and they both try and go through it side by side. Jamie Going did well not to end up on the grass there coming out of the chicane. Usually when they go into their side by side, the car on the left sort of bails out across the runoff area, but neither driver wanted to back out of that, and they're still battling away as they drop into Tower Corner. They're in third position. Then is Rob Smith, so he has indeed got himself ahead of Spencer Stevenson. In fact, Stevenson's lost a few places on the opening few corners. Look at the way these top four are getting away. That Jamie Going battle, which I think might have been with Luke Pinder, really held them up. Big bounce over the curves for Zach Lucas. Again, if you run wide out of the Jim Clark S's there, you can go on that concrete runoff area, but there's quite a steep drop. It's very bumpy. The cars bounce around a lot, and it's definitely a risky route to take. There, the red car is Spencer Stevenson, so he's now got in between Jamie Going and Simon Horrobin in the blue car. It was Horrobin that was going wheel to wheel with Going then through Hawthorne. Top four though, as one, as they come through the final sector. 4 cars battling for the lead, 5 cars battling for 5th position. This is proper Ford Fiesta racing. It's taken a while for these newer STs to become popular, but now that they are, it's a great little championship again, this one. Across the line they go then, and it is John Cooper in the lead, but Zach Lucas is right back on his tail. Look, as they flash past us and head towards Clervaux for the second time. Just a quarter of a second between the two of them, but these two are teammates, so they'll be wanting to be as careful as they can. And the only way I can tell the difference between these at the moment, by the way, is that John Cooper seems to have a Daniels Motorsport sticker on the grille, whereas Zach Lucas doesn't. Other than that, they are identical, these two cars. Slightly different rear lights I can see, but we don't see the back of the cars very often. So two identically liveried cars, and pretty identical on performance, it would seem, at the moment, as they start to try and get away from, in third position, Rob Smith, who's flicked his hazards on somehow. There is Luke Pinder. So Pinder's come from 6th to 4th, 2 places gained for him after a good getaway off the line. And it's Jamie Going 5th, Stevenson 6th, Horrobin 7th. David Nye maybe struggling to make the transition then across from the older car to the newer one. Just not quite running at the same sort of pace as we'd usually see from him. Same kind of true of Simon Horobin, actually, down in 7th position. Onto the back straight they go again. Leaders accelerating up the hill. John Cooper then not getting away here and defends heavily to the left-hander right behind him, though. Zach Lucas gets all out of shape and was almost heading for the grass there. Very easy to lose the rear through there. You're braking on a turn and it's very bumpy as well. There's often a lot of dirt and gravel on the road from earlier misdemeanors through that section. The two teammates almost making contact off the final corner. Zach Lucas carried a lot more speed than John Cooper did off the final hairpin and almost ran into the back of the race leader. Avoided it, but that lost him a lot of momentum coming onto the pit straight, and so they end up single file once again. But that was a good opportunity potentially for Zach Lucas to try and make a move. No change in the order further back, although within some of the older Fiesta ST runners we have had some changing. Number 50 Marco Ritchie getting himself ahead of Jack Yohill, but that is for 11th place overall. Into the brakes through Tower Corner. Look at the battle for 5th getting more and more intense. Jamie Going there defending from Stevenson in 6th position, and 2nd place man Zach Lucas on the grass. He's looking a bit scrappy here, isn't he, Zach Lucas? Just making a few mistakes. Perhaps didn't expect to be behind his teammate John Cooper in the early stages. And that was very, very close to disaster. Then the 5th place battle sees Going ahead of Stevenson still. Then Horobin and Nice, no change, but they're very, very close to each other. You sense that there will be overtaking within this group as the race goes on. Work their way again towards the end of a lap where the leaders, despite that mistake for Zach Lucas at Tower, have got themselves back together again. It's a great testament, isn't it, to the regulations that these cars are all so evenly matched. No one really has a significant pace advantage over anybody else. Well, that was a late lunge by Dominic Bush, who is the red number 9 car just tagged onto the back of this group. Fastest lap now goes to 2nd place man Lucas. Well, that's interesting because he was off the track at Tower and somehow still sets a new fastest lap. A 1:34.257 is comfortably the new lap record as Stevenson loses 5th place, does he, to Simon Horobin. Horobin's through at Clervaux. So Spencer Stevenson started 3rd. He's now down into 6th place. This race hasn't gone according to plan. Jamie Going is starting to disappear out in front of this group as well now. But we'll see whether or not Horobin is able to go with him. Look at the way the rear of these cars bounce around and braking, especially, it seems, the Daniels Motorsport cars. David Nye out at the inside of Spencer Stevenson at Tower. That's a nice move. That is for... what's that now? 7th place for David Knight, down to 8th for Spencer Stevenson, who was within a 10th of a second of pole position, but he just hasn't been able to show that pace in the race, has he? Check back on some of the cars running a bit further down the order there, coming out of Tower Corner. The race leaders are making their way back towards the complex again. Is it still going to be Cooper ahead of Lucas at the head of the field? It is just, but they're all back together again now with Rob Smith and Luke Pinder very much part of the battle again. Very wide line taken by Smith there through the right-hand element of the complex. And it doesn't seem to slow him down too much. Speaking of not going slowly, not a great exit there for John Cooper means that Zach Lucas, who was very quick off the hairpin, almost again got alongside him. But you can sense the frustration here for Lucas because you get the feeling that if this was anyone other than his teammate, he would have probably had a real go at getting through by now. But the last thing you want to do is go for a rash move and put both cars in the gravel and or start making contact between the two of you. And again, it's Zach that runs a bit wide there going out of the chicane. I do think Zach Lucas at certain parts of the circuit feels that he is a little bit quicker than his teammate ahead. Smith 3rd, Pinder 4th, approaching half race distance down, not for the first time, not even for the first time on this lap. Zach Lucas is wide, but that's the second time he's done it at Tower Corner in this race. Cars seem to ride the curves quite well, actually, despite the fact they hop and bounce around so much. They doesn't actually seem to slow them down much when they start skating wide onto the grass. Look at the way that Simon Horobin there. Mistake 4. That is Zach Lucas. There's a problem for Lucas, I think. Zach Lucas from 2nd place as they go through Sunny. The car has slowed significantly. Now, what could that be? Is there anything hanging down under the car? I can't see anything. Can't see anything leaking either. Remember I said that Duncan Harris in the MX-5 SuperCup qualifying session earlier on ran over a curb and the car cut out. I wonder if it's something similar there for Zachary Lucas. Whatever it is, it lets John Cooper off the hook rather, doesn't it? Because he's going to have, well, it was a quarter of a second advantage over second place. He's now 1.3 seconds clear of, in second place, Rob Smith, third place, Luke Pinder, Jimmy Going in fourth, Simon Horrobin fifth, Spencer Stevenson sixth, and seventh place should be Dominic Bush, although Dominic Bush dropped back a bit on that lap as well. In fact, Bush hasn't come through. Now he's in the pit lane. Hugo Bush is in the pit lane, and look, there's damage to the back of the race leader's car. I think Zachary Cooper has hit his teammate, and that's what's taken him out of the race, because you can see that bodywork rubbing on the back of John Cooper's car. I reckon that Zach ran into the back of him going into Sunny, and it's broken the right front suspension. I did think at the time that he pulled off, that right front corner didn't look quite right, and you can see that it's damaged both cars. Wasn't it half a lap before that I said the last thing they want to do is run into each other, these two? And then that's exactly what they did. I need to learn to stop saying things like that. John Cooper then now has to hope that that bodywork doesn't get any looser. At the moment it should be okay, but if it gets any looser it will attract the attention of the clerk of the course, and he will be pulled into the pit lane to get it fixed. He also has to hope it's not rubbing too much on the tyre, but that doesn't seem to be such an issue. It rubs a bit when he leans to the right, so through left-handers there you can see it rubs, but thankfully this is a clockwise circuit, so you turn right more than you turn left, so that should be okay with only 5.5 minutes to go. But it's distracted him, hasn't it? Look, because his pace has really dropped now. His fastest lap of the race is a 34.381, and as he comes across the line now to finish lap number 6 of the race with just over 5 minutes to go, he does a 35.8, so he's dropped a second and a half now, either because of damage from the hit, or more likely because he's getting distracted. He makes a mistake again at Clervaux now, and so there is a real chance here for Rob Smith to come through and take the race lead. Right behind him, of course, Luke Pinder in third place also sees this as a chance to try and get through into the front, the lead of the race. They bounce over the curb, through chicane, down the back straight again. Behind them it's still Jamie Going in fourth and Simon Horrobin in fifth, but this race has, I was going to say come alive, it's always been pretty exciting, but the contact between the teammates there has really added a new dynamic to this race. So through Tower, got a back marker up the road as well, which is not going to make their life any easier. Not sure who that is. I think it's likely to be the number 69. Is it of Matt Chambers? I think it is a purple car. Car that spun on the green flag lap. Is the first car to go a lap down, but that could maybe present an opportunity for Rob Smith here, who, yeah, he's going to carry much more speed out of Sunny. Oh dear, that's not worked out well for the leader. They go either side of Matt Chambers' lapped car, and John Cooper almost had to take to the grass to get past him. You'd have thought that would lose him more momentum, but he must have kept his foot in it, because he actually came off the corner every bit as quick as Rob Smith did. And if anything, it's Luke Pinder in third that was the quickest of the three through that section. So out through the hairpin again. They have 4 minutes to go. So time for 3 more laps, I reckon, then. There go the leaders, and behind, look, the battle is just as intense. Jamie Going in fourth, Simon Horrobin fifth, Spencer Stevenson, the red car, is next in 6th position, then the lapped car of Matt Chambers. But the battle for the lead is the one that's attracting the attention, quite rightly. They're about to put another car a lap down now. This will be Rosie Hunt in the number 2 car, and Rosie's going to be caught at the worst possible moment through the chicane. This is definitely going to delay John Cooper. This is surely going to be a good chance for the lead to change. They all stack up, and it's Luke Pinder that gets the run on the pair of them. Can Luke Pinder go from third to first here? He's certainly alongside Rob Smith for second. Could he challenge for the race lead on the brakes into Tower? He goes to the outside line. Cooper is late on the brakes on the inside, but the outside was never going to work for Pinder, and so unfortunately he stays in third. But that was good opportunistic driving, that, from Luke. Being third in the line, he was able to hang back and assess the situation a bit better there. Nothing that Rosie Hunt could have done either. She was just caught at the worst possible moment, and you can't just evaporate into thin air when you're at that mark. You have to go through the corner, and it's very much single file through that chicane. So twice now within a lap, the back markers have almost had played a deciding role in this lead battle, which will have 2 more laps to go at the end of this one. and any one of these three could still win it. John Cooper has led all the way from the start, having started on the outside of row 1. He beat his teammate Zachary Lewis into turn 1. They ran nose to tail for a long time, then seemed to make contact through Sonny midway through the race. That's put Zach out of the race, and it's left David Nye with seemingly a bit of damage of his own. Certainly the bodywork is loose, but I wonder if it's not the tracking out or something, because the car doesn't seem to be handling well on corner entry. The way these three are battling as well, it's bringing Jamie Going and Simon Horobin back into play as well. They were about a second and a half quicker than the leader that time. So already a three-way fight for the win. Could it soon become a five-way fight there? You can see how close Going and Horobin are. Up the inside for second place now goes Luke Pinder. Has he got his nose fully up the inside of Rob Smith? They're going to lean on each other again through the chicane, but Rob commits to the corner, gets sideways, he's out on the grass. Pinder's going to get the better exit, and this is music to the ears of John Cooper, who finally has a bit of breathing space. A lot of momentum lost there, though, I'm afraid, for Rob Smith, so he could lose third as well to Jamie Going. Going goes to the outside, he's going to try and hang it out around the outside in the Jam Sport racing car, doesn't get there, and so Simon Horobin now sees a chance to move ahead as well. This is one of the best Fiesta Championship races I've seen in years. This has been brilliant racing, and it ain't over yet, because Luke Pinder now in second place has a bit of work to do to catch the leader, but you never know, he might well be able to get there. By the way, David Nye, who's having a terrible race by his standards, he's 24 seconds behind this group, but he's just set the fastest lap, which means he's got his lap record back now. 1:34.228 is about 4.3 seconds quicker than his previous lap record. I don't know where he's lost those 27 or 28 seconds, but he's clearly found some speed now. As the leaders are busy tripping over each other, he is able to get the lap record back. So that's something that he'll be happy about, I suppose, at the end of what's otherwise been a slightly frustrating race. Right, final lap then is about to begin. What is the gap going to be between Cooper and Luke Pinder, who managed to get through, remember, into second early on in the lap? It's 1 second. So on to the final lap. Can Pinder get there? Question one. Can he then get past John Cooper? That's the big question, really. He's definitely quicker than Cooper. Be that because Cooper's got damage, or maybe he's just been distracted by the various incidents that have befallen him in this race. Out of the chicane then. Pinder closing in already, I'd say, but the trouble is by the time he gets there, he's going to have run out of overtaking opportunities. He's definitely not close enough into tower, but he's going to be later on the brakes, he hopes, and carry a bit more speed off the turn. There you can see visibly how much more corner speed he's taken. Pinder there sticking the hazard lights on as well to try and distract John Cooper ahead of him. That's a new one. I've heard of flashing the headlights. Sticking the hazards on is a new tactic. I'm not sure it's working though, because he's not getting any closer to John Cooper. He now heads through another one of the danger spots. Certainly it was a danger spot for him earlier on, wasn't it, when he was accosted by his teammate Zachary Lucas. I think John Cooper, against all of the odds here, is going to hang on. 5 minutes ago, you would have bet your house on anyone other than John Cooper winning this race, but Luke Pinder, as close as he's getting, I don't think he's going to quite get there in time. So, waiting for the leaders to come through the final sequence of corners then, which they are doing now, and they will soon head into the hairpin. There we go, John Cooper comes out of the hairpin on three wheels, and after what's probably been the most stressful 15 minutes of his life, John Cooper is going to win the opening round of the BRSCC Fiesta Championship by a car length in the end over Luke Pinder in second. Third place goes to Rob Smith, who really faded there on the last lap. Jamie Going was fourth, Spencer Stevenson fifth, ahead of Simon Horobin. That was a change, wasn't it? I think on the last lap, I think Horobin was ahead at the start of the lap. Anyway, Stevenson definitely gets fifth by the flag. Horobin sixth, David Nye seventh. Oh, and loses his lap record to Luke Pinder on the last lap. So Pinder does a 33.3, and that means that he now has the lap record going into tomorrow. So that was entertaining, wasn't it? The Fiesta Championship is back, ladies and gentlemen. That was a thrilling race. What a truly incredible battle that was between the top three drivers, four earlier on when it was Zachary Lucas in the mix as well. But Zach's going to have to come from the back of the grid now in order to compete in tomorrow's racing. The Fiesta Championship has just one more race tomorrow at about 5 to 3, the first race after the tea break that we have at Croft on a Sunday afternoon. You can see those ominous looking black clouds hanging over the hairpin end of the circuit, but actually they've moved. They were over Clairvaux earlier on, but they've sort of moved across the track without actually raining. So the And as I say that, I get a report in, presumably from one of our camera ops, that it's raining somewhere. So the rain possibly is just starting to affect things, but I don't think it's that heavy, really. Certainly not at the pit lane area of the circuit where I'm based. So the last couple of cars coming across the line, and the podium finishers will be heading to the pit lane very shortly. So the podium finishers will be heading into the pit lane very shortly, where Scott Woodward is waiting to have a chat with the three of them. And John Cooper, it is, that was the race winner, and he's going to be a very happy. I'm intrigued to know what his side of that story is, though. The battle that he had with his teammate Zachary Lucas. Did they make contact? It looks almost certain that they did, but how exactly it happened, I'm not too sure. Only really Zach and John can tell us. More Fiestas. You're not seeing double. This is another Fiesta Championship, but this one is the northern-based STXR Challenge, the ETSL STXR Challenge for 2021. Very grateful to have ETSL on board with their championship sponsorship this year. And the STXR Challenge, which for many years never really ventured any further away than Alton Park and Anglesey. That was where all of their races used to take place, but they venture a bit further from home now. They are up here at Croft, they go to Cadwell Park, even going dangerously close to the Midlands by racing at Doddington Park, as the drivers have started to ask for some different tracks to appear on the calendar. So they're back at Croft then here this weekend, and they've got a good grid of cars and a lot of changes in amongst the STXR grid in recent years, because it used to just be the XR Challenge. So for 1980s Fiesta XR2s and Escort XR3s, but now the field is mainly made up of these slightly newer shape STs, a lot of which I think have come from the Fiesta Championship itself. So as they prepare for that race, we can head down now, though, to have a word with Scott Woodward, who's got our podium finishers from our Fiesta Championship race. What a race it was. They've got some real stories to tell, I'm sure.
Well, I think the fact he's quite sweating on that helmet probably says everything. But John, amazing drive to win the first proper championship race for the turbos. I know you did a lot of work with them last year. Looked like it felt good to drive, but a lot of pressure behind you.
Yeah, well, a hard race with that. I think Zach suffered some kind of brake failure, and then had the two cars behind me that were closing in. You could see a little bit of smoke from my rear tyre, so just management. But done a lot of tyres, did what they're supposed to do, held on till the end. That's it. Oh, really? Start to finish, a good race.
You've driven this car for practically 12 months, so you know exactly what this is like inside out. Just for those watching, how much different and how good are these new Turbo Fiestas? They really are a proper step up in pace, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, the performance for the money and the value for money is fantastic. You can't beat it. Yeah. You sort of Clio mini face for a third of the budget.
Yeah, and of course now you've got to start from the front row for the second race tomorrow, so it's going to be tough to keep them all behind.
We'll see what we can do tomorrow. Hopefully we'll do as well.
Good stuff, excellent. I think you're going to get your winners trophy as well from Laura Payne, who's assisting as well. Congratulations, and we'll let you go and cool off for race number 2 tomorrow. Right, let's see if we can get Luke Pinder in second place. If we can get Luke Pinder, if we can bring him over. Of course, someone who's familiar to those in Clio Cup. He made a couple of cameo appearances last year. Luke, good to have you back in Fiestas again, and I think it was worth it judging by that race. You were really giving John some pressure by the end.
Yeah. It were an interesting race, very exciting. We haven't had much time in the car at all, as I'm sure a lot of people on. But yeah, the team did a good job, and we're here. We're on the podium, so much to doing something right.
Of course, it's your first proper time at the turbos. How are they? How do they feel?
Yeah, very different to the ST150 in all aspects, really. The car's a lot softer, but it's much faster in a straight line, so interesting.
Yeah, front row for tomorrow, so you guys see if you can try and beat John off the front row now.
Yeah, we'll do his best.
Good stuff, excellent. Well, go and enjoy your second place, and we'll see you tomorrow. Good stuff. And we'll see if we can maybe grab Rob Smith for third place. And Rob's experienced himself, and Rob got himself a trophy. He had to fight off for some good results last year, but straight out of the turbos and a podium. Well done.
Yeah, it's really good. It's my first Fiesta trophy. What a race. That was a cracking race.
The top three were changing positions all the time. Really good racing, really close. And yeah, first time out, got a third. Car's running well. Can't ask for a lot more.
Because your first time in the turbos, your first opinions of them?
They're fast. They're like little touring cars. We need to do a bit of work on the brakes and the handling, but it's a brand new series and a brand new car. So yeah, looking forward to ironing out a few creases. But from that first race, if that's anything to go by, this season's going to be absolutely mega exciting.
Yeah, you look as though you're properly on the pace, so you might give these two a headache in race 2.
Yeah, I certainly want to. That's what I'm here for.
Good stuff. Well, listen, well done. Enjoy your trophy, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Lovely. Thank you very much.
Good stuff. Let's see if we can get the ST150s in, and we'll have a chat. We can bring them down. So top 3 for them. As I very quickly check on my results here for a second, because I haven't got them in my ears. So Ethan Rogers was the winner in ST150s, and that was Jack Dewhill, and then Rosie Hunt on her first race got third place. So we'll bring Ethan Rogers in for ST150s, and Ethan, it's your second full season starting in the ST150s, and not a bad way to start from the class with a win.
No, it's a great race, great pace, and most of the pole and the lap record as well.
That must feel quite satisfying going out there and picking up the new lap record, obviously with the resurfacing, but extra little bonus to take away.
Yeah, it's been a really good weekend. I'm happy with it today.
Good stuff. And now you got to go at it again for race 2.
Yeah, hopefully, yeah.
Good stuff. We'll go and enjoy it. Well done, and we'll see you in a bit. I was hoping maybe to get Jack Dewhill if we could in second place. We'll speak to Rosie. We'll speak to Rosie Hunt. So. Rosie, well, that's not bad. Your first race of the championship, you got a class podium. Well done.
Yeah, no, it was good. Yeah, a bit nerve-wracking, but yeah, it was good. Yeah.
So, how was that first race for you overall?
Quite scary. Yeah, very scary, but got to the end of it, which is good.
Yeah. So, a lot more confidence for tomorrow.
Hopefully, yeah, we'll see. But yeah, first one I haven't spun on, so that's good. But yeah.
But you've got a trophy to show for it, so well done, and see if you can build on it tomorrow.
Yes,
congratulations.
Thank you very much.
And I think that's just about for Fiestas. We'll have a chat with here as well.
Reverse first.
Oh, reverse first. This is Matt Chambers.
That's right, yeah.
Matt Chambers. Matt, well, it's your first weekend in Fiesta as well. How did you find that?
It was a lot of fun. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Now I've got to remember not to drive like that when I go home.
Get back into road driving mode.
Yeah, that's not the biggest problem.
Yeah, how's the car feeling out there?
Feels lovely. I mean, it handles brilliantly. No good on warm-ups, it turns out, because it spins. But apart from that, it drove perfect. So
brilliant stuff. And more progress for tomorrow?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, last day as well. So yeah, it should be some fun tomorrow. See what comes on.
Good stuff. Well, let's see what you can do tomorrow. Well done, and we'll see you out there tomorrow.
Thanks a lot.
Good stuff. Well, that's one set of Fiestas done, but we've still got more Fiesta racing to come, because if you are a Fiesta racing fan, we've now got the ETSL STXR Challenge, a fabulous grid of 30 cars. They've worked superbly hard to get it as big as it has. So, Andy, this should be a cracking race for their 2021 season opener. They should be heading out on the grid pretty soon, so I'll let you handle the grid, and what should hopefully be a brilliant first race of the year.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you, Scott. I think it will be. We've got, as you said, a big grid of cars, and the only slight shame is that there aren't so many of the XRs on it anymore, but it is still a good grid, and a lot of the XR frontrunners from recent years have moved up now into the STs. Some of them are liking the STs, some of them, though, are not, interestingly, so we might well see a few of them heading back into the XRs, maybe even for selected rounds later on in the year. I know I was speaking to Michael Heath about this yesterday, and he was certainly considering maybe flipping between the two, doing certain rounds in the ST and certain rounds in the XR. We have still got 5 of the XRs out there, though, 4 of which are XR2, one of the XR3Is in the hands of Jason Hennifer, but the bulk of the field made up by Ford Fiesta STs, much the same as we saw out in the Fiesta Junior race earlier on. In the qualifying session, the top 5 cars were covered by second, and it was Sam Beckett that took the pole position, and I believe we can have a look at the grid very shortly and see how the full 30-car lineup rounds out. It is Sam Beckett on pole position, then with Chris Jones alongside him, Ralph Fernhoff and Lee Bowron on row number 2, Michael Blackburn and Mark Robinson on the 3rd row, with then the other two Bowrans, Ryan Bowran and Lewis Bowran. So they're the two sons. Lee is the father. Ryan and Lewis sharing the fourth row. Chris Grimes and Matt Eldridge are next. Eldridge, one of the earlier drivers to move over into the STs, actually. Then it was Luke Woodward and Michael Heath, with Steve McMurrow and Simon Robinson on the seventh row of the grid. Paul Brettel and Jordan Shorrock next up. Running out the top 20 are Paul Green. Now, Paul Green is the first of the class... he's the second of the Class A runners. So starting 19th on the grid is Paul Green, with Darren Watson 20th. Then it's Mark Blunt and Mark Golding, Gareth Pilling and Robert Clapton, Tony Mumford and Adam Bissell towards the back, ahead of Ron Lufstad, Daniel Cooper, John Spencer and Alex Causa. So the bulk of the cars then running in Class D, they are the STs. We have then Class A and B, which were the traditional two classes in this championship. Class A for the XR2s, Class B for the XR3s. Only one XR3 here, though, so as long as he finishes the races, Jason Hedefer guaranteed some race wins. But in Class A, Simon Robinson is the pole sitter in the XR2s. He's got... a decent margin over Paul Green in second. Robinson's qualified 14th on the grid and was about a second or so quicker than Paul Green in qualifying. So Paul Green might have a bit of company from Daniel Cooper and Alex Causa, maybe, who are quite evenly matched for third and fourth in class. We shall wait and see. So the Sam Beckett then on the pole position, with Chris Jones alongside him. And Ralph Fernahoe and Lee Bowen are next. And I think what I've just overheard, which I didn't know, is that they've split the XRs from the STs. So that's why the grid graphic we had wasn't quite right. Because although some of the XRs have outqualified the STs, they've separated the grid because, of course, off the line, the more powerful STs should have an advantage. So it's just to try and limit some of those closing speeds, basically, between the really quick STs and the slightly slower in a straight line XRs. But through the corners, something Michael Heath was telling me yesterday is that the XRs actually are a little bit quicker. So over a tight and twisty lap like this one, that's why the XRs are maybe a little bit more competitive and they should move forward in the race. Michael Heath, who lines up 12th on the grid, of course, multiple former XR2 champion, is one of those that really hasn't made the transition into the STs all that well. 2.7 seconds off the pole position pace for Michael, but he's still enjoying his racing, and he is very much at the centre of the STXR Challenge community in and around the paddock, and he'll be looking forward to a good race here and hopefully moving forward into the top 10. So, Sam Beckett then, the silver, yellow and black car on the inside of row one. The black and green on the outside is Chris Jones. Let's see who gets into Clervaux Corner first. As we've seen in previous races, even if you're a bit slower than the cars behind you, it's not impossible to defend a lead around here. So the start is crucial. Got to get off the line well, got to get into that first corner safely, and then watch the cold tyres, those rears being very, very slippery. In the early stages can lead to a few issues. Speaking of issues, one of the XR2s into the pit lane. That might have been Alex Causa, possibly. I think he had some issues in qualifying. Yeah, I can see Daniel Cooper at the back of the grid, so I think Alex Causa possibly is in strife. He was way off the pace in qualifying, so I assume he's had some sort of a mechanical issue. But we'll see how the rest of the XR field get on as they try and move through the field. So a new era of racing then, really, in the ETSL STXR Challenge, about to get underway here from Croft for round number one of their 2021 championship. Sam Beckett on pole position, Chris Jones alongside him. Let's see who gets into that first corner first, as Chris Jones there in the number 27 car launches from the outside of row number one. The race is underway. 20 minutes then the race distance as they head towards turn one, and it's not a good start by Sam Beckett. Look, it's Jones that's got the lead, and Beckett is going to be in the middle of a three-wide battle for second place heading into turn number one. Lee Bowen's on the inside but bails out of it, and on the outside, Lee Bowen on the outside, Michael Blackburn on the inside trying to go through. Oh, and there's a spinner at the back, look, and someone has gone backwards into that Recticel barrier on the apex. They're rejoining right at the back of the pack, and the number on the windscreen is 43, which means it was 53, that must have been Darren Watson, sorry, who's had the spin at the first corner. Right, leaders down through Tower, and the inside there, a big move being made by Chris Grimes, who started 9th on the grid. He's picked up a place or two in the first half a lap or so. Leading 4, though, starting to make a bit of a break, and after a slightly tardy start, Chris Jones has done well, actually, to hang on to second place. He was under all sorts of pressure from Mark Robinson and Lee Bowen behind, so apologies, the black car I saw challenging for second, but actually Mark Robinson from the 3rd row of the grid. Again, we talk a lot about driving a new car and learning, basic things like braking points and, racing lines and things, but getting a brand new car off the line can be tricky, especially a powerful car like these STs. So I guess for some of them, it was their first ever race start in these cars. Maybe that explains why we've had so much shuffling, bouncing around goes Chris Grimes, and that place that he's just gained on Michael Blackburn, he gives straight back again, going through the complex, and he might lose another one now as well to Ryan Borum, who works his way through. He's a few places ahead of his brother Lewis now, isn't he? He's going to get another car between them now, because he drives right around the outside of Grimes as they go through the hairpin. Right, leaders come through at the end of lap 1 then. Jones leads the way. Beckett in second place. There's a very smoky car in the background, which should be heading for the pit lane, but isn't, slightly worryingly. Rest of the field come through, though, with Robinson in 3rd, while Fernhoff is in 4th position. Oh, and the back of Chris Grimes' car is not happy at all, is he? He has another big moment through Clairvaux, and now he's under pressure from the number 18, and that is Michael Heath. So Heath has had a demon start, hasn't he? Started 12th, he's picked up 4 places already to be 8th, and now sees a chance to take 7th place, away from Chris Grimes. Michael was telling me yesterday that these cars are a little bit easier to drive than the XRs, and he's not necessarily a fan of that, but he's under pressure actually now, isn't he? Look, from the number 20 car behind him of Matt Eldridge, who again moved over into the STs a bit sooner than some of the other drivers out there on the grid. Lewis Bowen tries to take advantage of that loss of momentum. Side by side for 3rd, that was. I did spot that Lee Bowen and Mark Robinson were battling into Tower Corner, and I think there might have been a change for position there a bit further up the road. We'll try and get to that in a moment, but the rest of the field comes through with Michael Heath and Matthew Eldridge there still scrapping away. Have we had some changes at the front? It should still be Jones leading from Beckett 2nd, but 3rd, 4th and 5th looked as though there might have been some chopping and changing. Well, there go the top 2. Now in 3rd place is still Robinson, but in 4th place actually is still Lee Bowen. So no, they're in exactly the same order then, but they were side by side into Tower. Ralph Fernhoff then in 5th position. Come through the hairpin, you couldn't get much closer there, could you? Oh, and that's Beckett. That's Beckett off the road. Sam Beckett has understeered off the road through the hairpin and thrown away 2nd place. So into 2nd goes Robinson. Lee Bowen goes 3rd, and now Michael Blackburn is trying to battle away there as they go into Clairvaux corner. Ralph Fernhoff, tries to go to the outside. Oh, and into the rector-cell barrier goes Sam Beckett, and that has done a lot of damage to the right front corner of that car. And that was, you wouldn't think hitting that rector-cell barrier would do that sort of damage, but it's really ripped the bodywork off the right front corner. Not a good couple of corners that for our pole man, who was on pole position by over 3.5 tenths of a second, but again, goes to show that's only part of the story. So it is Chris Jones that leads then now from 2nd place Mark Robinson. They drop down through Tower Corner again. There is what remains of Sam Beckett's car in 4th position. Lee Bowen is the man that's ahead of him in 3rd. Ralph Fernhoff behind him in 4th. Michael Blackburn then drops down into 6th position, with Ryan Bowen 7th, Chris Grimes in 8th, keeping it on the track this time. 9th place for Michael Heath, and 10th for Matt Eldridge even, with some changing further back. In Class A, by the way, for the XRs, it is still the number 68 car then that leads the way, and that was Simon Robinson, and he is up into 23rd place overall, having qualified 14th overall, so there's more overall ground to be made there, although it won't benefit him at all in the points. Through the complex we go once again. This group of cars getting ever closer, being caught now, aren't they, by the next little group, really, which is headed by Ryan Borum, and he's bringing Chris Grimes with him. Chris Grimes was 2nd in last year's championship, some way behind champion Will Heslop, both of whom were running in the STs last year as well. 3 laps completed then. Jones leads the way, but it's behind him where all of the entertainment is, really. Matt Eldridge there pulling out a line to try and make a move down the pit straight. although Matt Eldridge, yeah, I think his transponder's maybe not working. Oh dear, the Recticell's gone again, and this time that is game over for Sam Beckett. I picked the wrong moment to look at the timing screen then, didn't I? Sam Beckett has really hit the barriers now at turn 1. I'd like to see a replay of that if possible, to see exactly what happened. And Sam Beckett has ended his race in spectacular fashion. Did he lose the rear on entry to the corner, I wonder? Oh, it was in the middle of the road already. Why weren't there yellow flags out for that right in the middle of the track through Clairvaux? And there was absolutely nothing that Beckett could do. He was unsighted for the cars in front of him. Well, he will be... Oh, there's a yellow flag there, but I didn't see one on the entry to Clairvaux. That is... well, there you go. Sam Beckett... we'll be asking some questions about that after the race, I would have thought, and that has ruined the front of his car and ruined his race as well. He'd already clipped it. I mean, he clipped it a lap ago, which I suppose is why it's in the middle of the road, but I'm surprised it hadn't been moved before the leaders got there on the next lap. Anyway, drama then aplenty in this opening round of the ETSL STXR Challenge race. Sam Beckett then out of this race, having started on pole, and Chris Jones having his life made a lot easier for him than we probably thought it would be. He had a 1.7 second cushion at the start of this third lap. It's probably even more now, but a fluid on the road there is the through the last corner as well. That'll be from that smoky car I saw earlier on. We've had into the pit lane the number 3 of Mark Blunt, so I think it was Mark that I saw trailing all of that smoke in the earlier stages. 2.1 seconds now is the gap at the front, by the way, but the fastest lap goes to Lee Bowron in third, as around the outside goes another Bowron. Wherever you look, there are Bowrons in this race. It's Michael Blackburn that he's overtaking, and it's Ryan Bowron going through. So Ryan moves into 5th position now, having started 7th, so a couple of places gained for him, but hardly anyone's running in the order they started in now, given just how topsy-turvy the opening half of this race is. Well, not even opening half the race, opening 7 minutes or so of the race have been. 44 there is Lewis Bowron, putting some pressure onto Michael Heath, who made a rare mistake there, going into tower, locked the rear brakes over that very bumpy braking zone, but thankfully managed to keep it on the island, held onto the place as well. Head again now through the Jim Clark S's. As for the XR2 class, by the way, yeah, Robinson now into the top 20, so Simon Robinson getting a bit closer now to where he qualified on outright pace, but remember they split the grids because the XRs in theory aren't as quick as the STs, but a well-driven XR and a well-prepared XR is still a very potent car. There is the number 17 going through, which is Daniel Cooper. He has got the 2nd and 3rd place cars behind him, putting him a lap down. Cooper is running 3rd in the XR2 category, and he does his best to stay out of the way, taking to the grass, in fact, to get out of Mark Robinson and Lee Bowron's way. Lee Bowron continuing to set a strong pace here. He set the fastest lap a lap ago. This time he is probably not going to be quite as quick. Oh, and now they've got some real traffic, look, going through the first couple of corners. Oh dear, that all got a bit messy. That was Alex Causa in the 63, who I saw coming down the pit lane at the start of the race, but he's back out there now, running quickly, and they're going past... was that Simon Robinson? No, it can't have been Simon Robinson. One of the slower cars that was going particularly slowly there as he saw the leaders appearing on his tail. But yeah, that lap wasn't quite as quick for Lee Bowron because of the traffic, but he's still right on the tail of Robinson in 2nd place. John Spencer, that is, who is the only Class C car in the race. Class C for the SI 1800cc Fiestas, which never quite took off really in this championship. Were introduced a number of years ago, but we've never really had any more than 1 or 2 of them on the grid. Race leader then, Chris Jones, heads through Barcroft for the 6th time. 2.3 seconds was his margin over Mark Robinson at the start of the lap. I'd say at this point on the circuit it's come down a bit though. Confirmation at the end of the lap, of course, but maybe by a 10th or so they're just reeling him back in again. Certainly Robinson's gained a car length or so over Lee Bowron in the first part of the lap, although Bowron's coming back at him now. Alex Causa locking up there, going through the complex. Alex, though, is going some way to proving here that if he didn't have the mechanical issues that have plagued him so far this weekend, he would probably be right towards the sharp end of the XR Challenge element of the races. Right, let's see what these lap times are then. 2.3 seconds was the gap between Chris Jones and Mark Robinson, first and second. At the end of lap 6, it is, waiting for the timing screen to update, which it's stubbornly not doing, 1.2 seconds apparently. Yes, there we go, now it updates. So 1.24 seconds between the two of them, so it came down that time by about 6/10 or so. So it does look like Robinson being spurred on maybe by Lee Bowron behind him. He's starting to find some serious pace now. But is he going to have enough time to get there? We've got just under 9 minutes still to go, so yes is probably the answer. But if he does then arrive on the tail of the race leader, you know that Chris Jones is going to make that the widest Fiesta ST in existence. New fastest lap by Ralph Fernhoff now in 4th position, which again will be a lap record because it's the first time the STXR Challenge has visited this circuit since the resurface. And certainly since we've had this many very rapid STs on the grid. Tighter line there, taken by Robinson through the first part of Sunny. Looks up the second apex. Oh no, he doesn't. He makes a mistake. He's run out wide. And Lee Bowron is 3. Now that's got to be a problem for Robinson. The car suddenly slowed, just as I was saying he was driving so well. And through the second apex, it's like the car just never really picked up speed, did it? Now, something's broken, but what is it? Oh dear, dear. Again, one of the problems with new cars is that you sometimes get these niggly little teething troubles. That has freed Lee Bowron though now to have a real run at Chris Jones over the final third of the race. Just under 8 minutes to go then, and the gap between the top two, it might have gone out slightly that time because of course we've lost our second place driver. It goes up to 2.5 seconds because Lee Bowron's transponder isn't working properly, which is why it takes a while for him to be reinstated into the running order. There's the fight for third, which is now Ralph Fernhoff versus Ryan Bowron, who started 7th. Fernhoff, of course, started 3rd, dropped down the order, and he's now picked them off as they've fallen by the wayside to get back into a podium place. But are we going to see 2 Bowrons on the podium? It's happened before, of course, particularly when 2 or sometimes 3 of them are all racing in the XRs at the same time. Town corner they go. There is Mark Robinson, so he's not even made it back to the pit lane, has he? Oh, he's gone through the back entrance, actually. He's right behind our commentary position. No obvious sign of what it was. The car just seemed to cut out, didn't it? Much the way that a couple of other drivers have reported has happened this weekend. Those curbs have put such forces through the car that it will just dislodge things and break things. And oh dear, mistake made there by Fernhoff. That's going to cost him 3rd place, is it? No, not quite. Ryan Bowron tried to get up the inside, but now Fernhoff's on the grass coming out of Sunny. That was all a bit messy. Where's Bowron gone? Where has Bowron gone? Ryan Bowron really dropped back, didn't he? I suppose he was on a tight line going into the second part of Sunny, and that really killed his momentum off the corner. So that let Ralph off the hook a bit there. Leaders about to come through to complete their 8th lap of the race. 6.25 minutes still to go. The lead margin that was 2.5 seconds doesn't visibly at least seem to be coming down. It's 1:42.6 for Chris Jones. The reason it doesn't seem to be coming down is because Chris Jones has just set the fastest lap. So right when he needed to, he has responded to the pressure being applied by Lee Bowron. Oh no, he hasn't. Bowron actually, once his time update, is a bit quicker. So Lee Bowron, making a liar out of me, actually gets the gap down fractionally to 2.3 seconds. He was just under 2/10 quicker than Chris Jones. Fernhoff still 3rd with Ryan Bowron 4th. Michael Blackburn is in 5th position, which is where he started. Lewis Bowron 6th, Chris Grimes 7th, Michael Heath in 8th position, 9th place Matt Eldridge, and 10th position for the number 26 of Luke Woodward. So, are we going to see any more changes here in the final few minutes? You'd imagine you probably will. Simon Robinson, by the way, in our latest XR2 update, is now 18th place, and right on the tail of the 17th place, number 92 of Paul Brattel. So that's likely to be the last place he gains, though, as there, Ryan Bowron does now get the job done on the inside of Ralph Fernhoff through Sunny. You'd think Ralph would have learned from his mistake there a lap ago, but he made exactly the same error, and so Ryan Bowron got through. So Bowron then does now make it 2 Bowrons on the podium, one father and one of the sons. And to be fair, Lewis Bowen's not that far back, is he? He could take 5th place away from Michael Blackburn before the flag. Fernhoff get back up the inside at the hairpin. No. So opt to try and take the wide line. Puff of smoke there was that from Ryan Bowen's car. Slightly concerning maybe, just as he jumped on the power. Right, a 42.6 for Chris Jones, the race leader. Lee Bowen does a 42.5, so he's a 10th quicker. The gap's down to 2.2 seconds, but that's okay. Chris Jones can afford to lose a 10th a lap. It's if Lee Bowen was taking half a second a lap out of him, then it would be concerning. Chicane back down the back straight again. Leader there goes into Tower, the black and green number 27. Chris Jones, who finished, he was actually racing in an XR3 last year, was Chris, so this is his first race in an ST. That's impressive. Chris Jones was second in Class B last year, only 4 points behind Jason Hennifer. And Jason Hennifer, just to give you some context for this, Jason is down in 21st place, and yet the man that he beat to the XR3 Championship last year, Chris Jones, is looking odds on now for a race victory. So it goes to show, doesn't it? Some drivers have warmed to this ST more than others. Others, I'm sure, will learn and grow into it as they go on. But Michael Heath was telling me that after over a decade of racing the XR2, it kind of felt like an old pair of slippers, and now jumping into this ST was just a completely different challenge. Much easier to drive, but that then means that you have to drive it even harder to get the absolute maximum out of it. And some drivers definitely acclimatising to it more. But this is Michael's first race in the ST, of course. Some of the others out there, like the Bones, for example, have a season or two of ST experience under their belt now. Another new fastest lap for Lee Bowen, just as I'm talking about him. And a couple of windscreen wipers coming on. Look, just having got a bit more rain out the back of the circuit. It's a bit gloomier out there, isn't it? So maybe the weather gods are going to just sprinkle an extra bit of drama on this race. That was significantly quicker than the leader that time as well. By significantly, it was 2.5 tenths quicker. But that's good progress for Lee Bowen. He's got the lead gap under 2 seconds now. But with only 2 minutes to go, we've probably got time for this and one more lap. So I'm just not convinced he's got enough time to get there. He is quicker than Chris Jones, but wasn't able to get after him early enough to really have enough time then to do anything about him. It's one thing catching, but as a certain famous commentator did once say, it's an entirely different thing to actually get past. So although there's a chance that Lee Bowen might get within a second or so of the leader, Chris Jones certainly still has his race to lose at the moment, isn't it? Pretty sunny. No sign of any rain there, at least nothing that's making the track particularly slippy. Although we have had a few moments down at that end of the track, haven't we? So I suppose if there is a sprinkle of rain, might affect things, but it looks more psychological now, doesn't it? If there is any rain out there, it's just a bit of rain on the windscreen, just enough to distract some of the drivers. And it's amazing how many drivers sort of back off their pace when they get a bit of rain on the windscreen, even if the track isn't actually getting any more slippery. But judging by the fact Lee Bowen set a fastest lap last time around, I don't think the track conditions are deteriorating that much, are they? Last lap board is held out for the drivers. Oh, we've got a car off in the background there, haven't we, at the hairpin? Has it gone off at the hairpin, or is it trying to take the cut through? You can cut through from the exit of Tower and come onto the pit straight, but I'm not sure who that was. Chris Grimes has lost a place on that lap, but it wasn't him. Michael Heath is into 7th place, but there was somebody there that was going very slowly at the back of shop. We'll piece that together in a moment or two. The lead gap went back out that time, by the way, by 2 tenths between Chris Jones and Lee Bowen. So Bowen looks fairly likely to settle for second here. Having said that, they've got this Class C car of John Spencer to put a second lap on, and we saw how troublesome that was earlier on in the race, so not giving this to Chris Jones just yet. Headlights ablaze. You can see the light is starting to fade here in Croft, isn't it? It's only 20 to 5 local time in the afternoon, but those clouds are certainly going to be catching the attention of some of the drivers that are yet to go out on track in our final 2 races of the day. Remember, we've still got the second MX-5 Clubman Championship race coming up next, and then the second and final race of the weekend for the Nankang Tyre BMW Compact Cup. For now, this ETSL STXR Challenge race. Looks as though it's going to be wrapped up by Chris Jones from second on the grid. He got the start, took advantage of some chaos behind him in the early stages, and now it does look as though he is going to come home and take the victory in round number 1 of the 2021 campaign. They passed that stricken car at the hairpin, which is still stuck in position, so it never did make it back to the pit lane. And Chris Jones is going to come through to take the opening victory of the year after seeing off the late threat there from Lee Bowen in second position. Third place is going to be Lee's son, one of his sons anyway, Ryan Bowen, with Ralph Fernhoff in fourth position. And fifth place goes the way of Lewis Bowen, having got the better of Michael Blackburn there in the closing stages. Michael Heath gets a solid 7th. He's happy with that, flashes his lights as he crosses the line. Chris Grimes behind him, and Matt Eldridge actually really caught them there at the end. Matt Eldridge on that final lap was about half a second quicker than Heath and Grimes ahead of him. And then rounding out the top 10 should be Luke Woodward, who started 11th, so he gains 1 position. The car that did not come through was number 69, I think. So that would have been number 69, scanning down my entries. Oh, Mark Robinson. Ah, yes, Mark Robinson did disappear, didn't he? Hadn't noticed that when it happened, but yeah, Mark Robinson there qualified 6th on the grid for that race. Sadly, doesn't manage to get to the end of it. So we will look back on that race with, well, some of us more fondly than others, perhaps. Certainly Sam Beckett won't be particularly pleased. There you can see him stood chatting to the Marshall's trackside. Let's see what happened to him. Well, he was in the centre of a lot of the action, wasn't he, Sam Beckett? He didn't get a good start from pole. Chris Jones got the lead. He then had to try and fend off Mark Robinson, who would also later retire, going into the first corner, and Lee Bowen, who tried the outside line. There was a spinner towards the back of the field, which was the first car to hit that recticel barrier at Clervaux, and that recticel barrier would come back to haunt Sam Beckett a bit later in the race. Everyone did, though, make it through the first few corners with varying levels of success as they headed onto the middle part of the lap. Sam Beckett, for what it's worth, looked quicker than Chris Jones in the early stages. Chris Jones really had to watch his mirrors as Sam was applying lots of pressure, but as he kept very close behind the race leader, Sam Beckett, sadly, he would make a mistake at the end of the opening lap, and this was to trigger a very unfortunate sequence of events. At the very next corner, having already thrown away second place, he was up the inside of Ralph Fernhoff and clipped that recticel barrier again, put it into the middle of the road. Other drivers did a brilliant job of avoiding it, but the marshals sadly weren't able to get out there and move it over the course of the next lap. And so when Sam Beckett got there the next time, he found his old friend again, and this time it did a lot of damage to the front of the car, probably radiator damage, certainly bodywork damage, and his day was done. So Sam Beckett pulled up at the side of the road. That left Chris Jones with a pretty handy margin at the front of the field. Then it was Mark Robinson's turn to have dramas. Of course, I do remember what happened to Mark Robinson, because he pulled over with a mechanical failure quite early on in the race. The car actually that I think I saw stopping at the hairpin was actually 53 Darren Watson, which now I think about it makes a lot more sense. Chris Jones, though, held on to the lead. Lee Bowen chased after him towards the end of the race, but couldn't quite get there. So it was Jones that took the race victory. It was a second place for Lee Bowen, and his son Ryan joined him on the podium as well. Class A, in the end, was won by Simon Robinson pretty commandingly, the first of the XR Challenge cars to get home. Well, an entertaining start to the season then. Let's head down to Scott Woodward in the pit lane, who's got our podium finishers.
Well, a fantastic way to start the ETSL STXR Challenge here, of course, and I think a very happy winner, Chris Jones, as he heads out of the car. We'll grab him for a quick word. Chris, good way to start the season.
Definitely.
First time in the ST and win first time out.
Especially after what happened in qualifying. I can't thank Mark, Dee, Simon, Sam, Matt Williams, everybody helping, all pulling together. We got it back out. It was absolutely perfect.
This, of course, is quite a different car to the Escort you're used to. So
definitely.
Is it a massive difference?
Yeah, everything. Speed, the weight, the braking, everything's different. Good fun. Very close. There's lots of us out, so we're all enjoying it.
Yeah, mega grid this year, so
yeah,
you must be really proud of the fact you've got so many cars out there.
Yeah, enjoyed that.
Good stuff. We'll go and celebrate it. Well done.
Thank you.
Fantastic
Cheers.
job.
Thank you.
Right, let's see if we can go and grab our two Bowens. Lee Bowen here, second place, and we've got the one of the Bowens here in third. let's see if we can have a quick chat. Let's bring you in, Lee, for second place. All right. Compared to how things ended for your 2020 Capital Park, which we won't talk too much about, that's a good way to make up for it, in second place.
I'm pretty happy with that. It's been a long time coming, but no, really pleased with that. Really pleased with it.
Yeah. I mean, you were talking last year that the STs are a lot of fun. Of course, they're different to the XRs that you were used to, but just how much of a step up is it to go from one of those Fiestas to one of the STs?
I keep saying it, but these things are a lot easier to drive. You set up with an XR, it's on a fine line. You really are. So these fast lads that were in the XRs, they'll get to grips with ease, such as Mike Heath, and he just needs to get to grips with an ST, and he'll be up there at the front. No doubt about it whatsoever. But them lads, they had it sussed with them XRs, and so yeah, it'll take a while, but they'll be there.
Of course, we just said to Chris as well, you must be proud of the fact you've got 30 cars out of this year. The grid's grown exponentially. It's a brilliant looking championship this year.
Yeah, it's fantastic, isn't it? And I mean, that's down to a lot of hard work by Dave Fairclough and the people that work alongside him, and we all try and help him, as much as we can. But yeah, Dave's put the legwork in, and now we're reaping the rewards, which he deserves to as well.
He does, and you all deserve it, because it's been a brilliant looking championship, and you drove that. You deserve that second place for the drive. So
yeah, I like to think so. Even better now that one of my sons Ryan's in third place as well. That's spot on.
We'll find out what you thought of that, but well done for second place. Congratulations, good stuff.
Thanks.
Let's see what Ryan thought of that. Ryan, if we bring Ryan over to chat, and I'm going to have a chat with Fernahuff there. 2 barrels on the podium, that's going to be mega.
Yeah, no, it's I think best result we've ever had, so yeah, can't complain about that.
It's your second season in the STs as well. How are you finding the switch from the Escorts?
It's pretty good. I only did one race last year in them, but like I said, the main benefits the reliability of the car. Like to race the XR3s, it break down 50% of the time, so it's great that we can just go out and race.
Yeah, so you've got a lot of confidence in the car. You've got second row for tomorrow, so fingers crossed you can get back up there and even pressure your old man a bit.
Yeah, I'm hoping for a first if everything goes well.
You'll have to try and beat him first.
Yeah, we can dream.
So, well, congratulations, well done. Go and enjoy it.
Thanks.
Good stuff. And that is top 3 for the first race of the ETSL STXR. They'll be back out tomorrow. I should also say happy birthday to Coordinator Dave Fairclough for tomorrow, for yesterday. Of course, it was his birthday and the paddock was celebrating, so well done to him, and well done for putting together such a brilliant effort to get the cars together for the 2021 season. 2 more races coming up. The next one is the second race of the day for the Mazda MX-5 Clubman Championship. Let's see if anyone can beat Harry Storer. We'll have to wait and see. Andy, back to you.
Yeah, thanks very much, Scott. Very exciting race there for the STXR Challenge, and they'll be back out again tomorrow. Right, from Fords, we've had a bit of Ford overload recently, haven't we? Let's have something a bit more Mazda-y, shall we? The MX-5 Clubman Championship, they've had 1 race already today, and their second race is now about to get underway. If you weren't with us earlier on this morning, you missed an entertaining little race, actually. It was the first race of the day. Harry Storer was the race winner by a fairly comfortable margin. 13.2 seconds was the winning margin in the end. Over, well, it could have been any one of about 4 or 5 different drivers in the end. It was Robert Greensmith who got the second place. Jay Shepherd was third. Kevin Bird was fourth. Peter Higton was 5th position, Richard Bartlett 6th, then it was Tim Storer, Dan Blake, Andrew Dean, Dale Whiteman and Owen Woodwards. Then the grid for this second race is based upon that race results, so the drivers that finished at the front have got that advantage again in race number 2. Harry Storer is definitely going to be difficult to beat, I think. So Harry Storer then won the race. He will be on pole position. Robert Greensmith will be alongside, and the real battle in that early race was between Greensmith, Shepherd, Kevin Bird, Peter Higton, Richard Bartlett. There was contact early on actually between Bartlett and Higton at the hairpin, and that kind of carried on then beyond that point, and it all got very, very entertaining between the two of them really. And then Kevin Bird got stuck in. Bird started the first race deep in the field, but came up actually into a podium place in the early stages, faded a bit through the middle part of the race. It was still a very, very good effort from him to get onto the podium. The MX-5 Clubman Championship, then again, if you weren't with us earlier on, I'll explain again what it is, because on the face of it, it looks almost identical to the MX-5 Championship for the Mark 1 cars, and that's because basically it is. The cars are the same, the drivers could in theory be the same, but the idea of the Clubman Championship is it's aimed at the Clubman racer who just wants a one-day event. They don't want to have to spend money on overnight stay for them and any team members, family members that want to come and support them, so they get all of their action in one day, a qualifying session in the morning and 2 15-minute races through the day, and then that's it. They can pack up, they can go home, and they can do it all again a few weeks later. So it's not necessarily to say that it's aimed at novice drivers, although there are a lot of novice drivers on the grid, but then you've also got people like Robert Greensmith and Jay Shepherd who are quick drivers. Peter Higton's a quick driver, he's been racing for a while. Dan Blake has been racing for a number of years as well, and they are all able to come and race in this Clubman Championship for maybe a little bit less money than racing in the Mark 1 Championship, which also of course has 3 races over a weekend, so it's an extra race, more tyres, and have action on both the Saturday and the Sunday in the Mark 1 Championship as well. So the drivers in this field are not necessarily slow. Don't be lulled into thinking that they're off the pace, these drivers. Some of them are pretty rapid. The delay, by the way, to getting this race underway appears to be, well, for the reason you can see on your screen. The new JCB truck is out recovering the car, or has been out recovering the car from somewhere around the circuit. There's also some cement dust been put down on the pit straight because of oil or some sort of fluid laid down in our previous race. So we will get this race underway as soon as the track is ready. Good chance, though, to give a shout out to the marshals, who have all been doing a great job all day of keeping the track in perfect racing condition, cleaning up errant MX-5s, BMWs and Ford Fiestas. And the marshals who have been, who are of course volunteer marshals, they all do this just because they enjoy it, because they're getting paid. They get paid in that they get front row seats to some of the best motor racing on offer in this country. Yes, they might have to do a bit of clean-up work in between, but it's good fun, great camaraderie between marshals as well, of course. Thank them again for allowing us to go racing, especially in these difficult times. Great to see we're all here getting involved as always. They can see the reason for this slight delay, but cement just being put down on the pit straight. Well, quite a lot of cement just actually. They've swept a lot of it away now because it's sort of done its job of soaking up the fluid that was dropped by one of our STXR competitors. And that looks like a rector-cell barrier. Now, have they still got that rector-cell on the inside of the first corner? I don't know if we can move across and see that first corner. I wonder. Oh, hang on. There's a replacement coming now. Is this a slightly sturdier rector-cell being brought into position? I'm sure the drivers would have rather that this barrier it wasn't being put back, because it caused absolute havoc in our previous race with the STXR Challenge. For those just joining to watch this race, one of our leading contenders in that race collected this barrier not once but twice, and the second time it ended their race completely. So let's see where they put this. Are they going to put it on the apex of turn 1? They almost certainly will. Marshall's just there to guide the tractor into position, and yet, much to the dismay of the drivers, it's being taken out there to stop them from cutting the corner. It serves a purpose, because if it wasn't there, the drivers would try and cut this first corner, and that's not really good for anybody. It means that they're cutting the corner and exceeding track limits and possibly gaining an advantage, but also it's it's actually a bit of a danger to let them cut that corner, because you can see just how raised that curb is, and if you were to put all 4 wheels over that curb, you'd launch straight into the air. So that rector-cell barrier, as annoying as it is when people hit it and knock it into the track, it does serve a purpose, and this is again another reason for this slight delay. They've just got to roll it into position. A couple of the circuit workers there just putting it as close to the edge of the curb as they can, and they weigh quite a lot. This is actually a good explanation as to why it did so much damage when it was collected in that previous race, because they are heavy, and they have to be, because they're supposed to be a deterrent to stop racing drivers cutting corners. So they are a good job. They've got it back in place, and I think that means the track is probably ready now to get the cars out onto the track for our penultimate race of the day, the BRSCC Mazda MX-5 Clubman Championship. The Compact Cup will be back out again after for their second race of the weekend. 2 15-minute races then to round out the day. we're even running ahead of time. We're about 10 minutes ahead already, so we had time to wait and make sure the track was back in full working order. All the drivers ready and waiting there in the assembly area to head out onto the circuit. So Harry Storer then on pole position, dominating that first race, set a new lap record, of course, in the process, seeing lap records dropping all day, but this being a new championship, we were always going to see lap records being made. Bulk of the battling being done behind them, really, with the likes of Robert Greensmith, Jay Shepherd, Kevin Bird, Peter Higton, Richard Bartlett, even Tim Storer at one point getting involved. In fact, Storer had a good battle with Dan Blake, who's out there in a hastily repaired car after a big shunt at Castle Combe a week ago. So great work done. He's actually teamed up with Paddock Motorsport, which is the team run by Calvin Fletcher and Martin Plowman, who of course will be out racing in British GT next week at Brands Hatch, back in their British GT competition, this time in a GT3 Bentley. But Paddock Motorsport have helped out running Dan Blake, and that is part of the reason why he's been able to get out there with a car that was in such a mess just a week ago. So the call will very shortly come, hopefully, to get these cars on track. I think most of the, if not all of the cleanup has now been done, and the last of the marshals back at their posts. And yep, thumbs up, green flag. So cars do now head out onto the circuit then. And when they do, we'll be able to have a look through the grid, hopefully, and see how they're going to line up. But it is in the order in which they finished the previous race, so no reversed grids or anything here. With Harry Storer on the pole position. All of these identical Mazda Mark 1 MX-5s. Mark 1 Mazda MX-5s is what I was trying to say. And they are all very evenly matched, of course, and because of the way the slipstream plays a part in the racing here, it should be another really, really close race. So let's take a look then, shall we, at how the cars are lining up for our second Mazda MX-5 Clubman Championship race of the day. Harry Storer and Robert Greensmith on row 1, Jay Shepherd and Kevin Bird on the second row, Peter Higton and Richard Bartlett are on row 3, ahead of Tim Storer and Dan Blake on the fourth row. Then it is Andrew Dean and Dale Whiteman with Owen Woodwards at the back of the grid. 11-car grid then for this opening round of the Clubman Championship, which I'm sure is going to grow and grow as the season goes on. BRSCC clearly think there's a market for this Clubman Championship, these one-day race events, and they've sort of played around with a few different formats with their MX-5 Championships to try and cater for the more casual racer, with things like the MX-5 Super Series, well, Mark 3 cars. We've got Mark 4 car racing here this weekend, not in a MX-5 race, but in the Club Sport Trophy tomorrow, being ridden by Chrissy Palmer, and that is a type of car that the BRSCC are hoping to introduce its own one-make championship for as well. So the Mark 4s, which are popular elsewhere around the world, the trouble is the Mark 3 is such a good racing car that no one really wants to upgrade from it, and why should they? Because it and the Mark 1 car produce such close racing. I mean, say no one wants to move on from the Mark 3s. Look at the amount of Mark 1s we've got racing here. I think we've got over 50 Mark 1s in attendance this weekend. And the Mark 1 car is one of those classic racing cars, really, isn't it? Which just, it's relatively cheap, does everything you want a racing car to do, relatively easy to maintain, and not that difficult to drive in the grand scheme of things anyway, certainly compared to the newer Mark 3 car, which can be a bit snappy. These cars, you'll see when we get going, you can really slide them around and throw them into a corner, mash your foot onto the throttle, power slide out of the corner. Not got a huge amount of power, but they haven't got much grip either, so it not only creates good racing, but it teaches you how to drive a racing car, so that's why it's such a popular place for rookie drivers, and we've got many of them on this grid here today. So Harry Storer then just off camera to the left of shot, but Robert Greensmith there is the blue car lining up second on the grid. There you can see him, So it is Storer on the right of the road, on the left Robert Greensmith. The second round of the 2021 Mazda MX-5 Clubman Championship about to get underway here from Croft. It's going to be another rocket ship start from Storer from the inside of row 1. Pretty even it seems. Dan Blake there cutting from the outside to the inside line. But yes, it's actually going to be Greensmith. I think they've got the better start, but he's on the outside line. Can he clear Storer? Yes, he can. So Robert Greensmith has got the lead going into Clairvaux, and he will now try and hang on to it if he can. He's not been his quickest Storer so far this weekend, but track position is worth so much here at Croft that he might just be able to hang on. Storer then in second, Jay Shepherd third, Kevin Bird fourth. That's grid order third and fourth. Fifth place though is Richard Bartlett ahead of Peter Higton, and Dan Blake has got himself ahead of Tim Storer. It looked like Blake had a good start, and that is the case. Now though, the slipstream starts to take effect down that back straight towards Tower Corner, and Robert Greensmith is under pressure already. Harry Storer goes to the inside line. He's trying to fend off Jay Shepherd, and he's trying to attack Greensmith for the lead. He goes through, and Jay Shepherd cheekily follows him by as well into second place. So Jay Shepherd gets himself into P2, and now Greensmith is side by side with Kevin Bird for third place as they go through the Jim Clark S's. So the leader's single file, but for third position, that's where the battle is really, and it's Bird that's gone through. Bird into third position then, ahead of Robert Greensmith, the blue card out of fourth. Well, talk about going from hero to zero. He started second, got the lead into turn one. Half a lap later, he was down in fourth place. That was not how that was supposed to happen. There is Peter Higton, who's now got Tim Storer behind him. So Storer's back ahead of Dan Blake now, presumably having passed him down the back straight. But there is Blake in the blue and black number 27 car, who we spoke to yesterday in the paddock, and he was very much looking forward to his racing. Didn't do any testing yesterday, though. I think the rest of the grid were out testing yesterday, but Dan Blake wasn't able to, so he was really going into today a little bit blind. Speaking of being blind, you can't see much through that cement dust, can you? And I think that maybe led to a mistake there for Kevin Bird. Ran very wide coming out of the final corner, but Robert Greensmith was sideways because he was on the tighter line, but that meant he was driving on the cement as he tried to get the power down off the corner. And the windscreen wipers now on, not for rain, but for dust that will have been put across the windscreens. Just a little bit of a distraction there, though, for Kevin Bird. Maybe he missed his braking point at Clairvaux. The car really seems to be understeering, doesn't it? And Greensmith surely is going to go up the inside now into the chicane. Couldn't quite build the momentum quickly enough, though. And so it is still Kevin Bird in third. Greensmith fourth. Richard Bartlett fifth, ahead of his race one sparring partner, Peter Higton. Tell you what, Jay Shepherd isn't letting Harry Storer go here. It's amazing what you can learn by following someone that's been setting the pace all weekend. There goes Bartlett with one of his trademark late moves on the inside at Tower Corner. He's just able to brake so much later than everyone else, it seems, Richard. Got him into a spot of bother, actually, in race one when he made that move on Higton at the hairpin. I don't think Higton saw it coming, and they rubbed and both ended up off the road coming off the corner. But that time, thankfully, he managed to make the pass cleanly, and he's straight away onto the tail of Kevin Bird for third. So Richard Bartlett is not hanging around here, wants to get himself out of this midfield battle as quickly as he can and chase on after the leading two, who themselves are far closer together now than we ever saw in the previous race. Jay Shepherd wasn't really able to go after Harry Storer. No one was in the first race, but Shepherd is right with him. Look at that. Jay Shepherd, who was a race winner in the Fun Cup Endurance Championship last year, actually, in his own team, Team Wasp, won at Thruxton on the... sorry, didn't win at Thruxton. I beg your pardon. He was leading at Thruxton until the late stages. Didn't quite get the win. Robert Greensmith there up the inside of Richard Bartlett. Heads out of the final hairpin. And they go down the pit straight then, now in the new order of Robert Greensmith fourth and Richard Bartlett in fifth position. Bartlett, though, is going to try again and get up the inside, isn't he? Oh, what a move from Bartlett. That is exactly what I was talking about. He's so much later on the brakes. I don't know how he's doing it, but he's braking so much later than anybody else. And Richard Bartlett just charged through on the inside of Robert Greensmith there and moves back into fourth. This is going to to and fro a little bit, I think, here, isn't it? Bartlett now, though, setting off after Kevin Bird in front. The leaders, by the way, still very close together indeed, with... Oh, no, they're not, because Jay Shepherd's slowing. Jay Shepherd is slowing down the back straight from second place. Oh, what happened there? Jay Shepherd has, for some reason, ground to a halt down the back straight. How many times have I put the curse on a driver today? Literally, as I was saying, he was chasing Harry Storer down. He's managed to, well, he hasn't done anything wrong. It looks like the car's just broken, but poor old Jay Shepherd, there he is. Unfortunately, the Wasp liveried car out of the race, and Jay Shepherd will be scratching his head. He's shaking his head now in the car, isn't he, as he tries to figure out what on earth went wrong, but he's not going anywhere, is he? That car is out of this one. So Jay Shepherd then goes no further. Jay had a big accident in that car at Silverstone last year, so I don't know if it's the same one that they've rebuilt. I think it probably is. Seem to remember he got out in it at Brands Hatch at the end of the year as well, so they got it fixed up. And Greensmith back on the inside. That's exactly what he did last time, isn't it? Dived up the inside of Bartlett at the hairpin, but Bartlett gets a good exit. Can he pull fully alongside down the pit straight? Doesn't look like he will, but we know he's good on the brakes. Now Greensmith surely this time is going to defend that inside line. He does. Bartlett goes to the outside. Seems to have a bit more straight line speed though, does Bartlett. Possibly different gear ratios in use. He's going to sail around the outside of Greensmith and gets back into that third place. Greensmith almost tags his rear bumper there as the two lines merged on the exit. Again though, Bartlett runs out wide. Greensmith does get into the back of him this time, and Bartlett waves at him. That's not going to stop him. Robert Greensmith is still going to be just as keen to get past you, whether you start making rude hand gestures at him or not, Richard. That was a great presence of mind there from Richard Bartlett, who you'd think would have his hands full just trying to hang on to the place. Windscreen wipers on for both of our leading drivers now, and this isn't an area of the circuit where there's been cement dust down, so maybe a bit more drizzle in the air, but you can see the track is still bone dry. So just a bit of psychological rain again here, maybe. Oh, there's a green flag there. Oh, of course, that's because there are yellows where Jay Shepherd has pulled off, obviously. So the battle again for second place then looks as though it's going to attract most of our attention. Oh, well, that caught everyone's attention. That's a big lose for Tim Storer. I mean, he arrived at the corner about 10 mile an hour quicker than poor old Peter Higton, who had to jump out of his way. And Tim Storer lost control then because he was carrying too much speed. He ran out onto the grass and lost the rear of the car and then spun right across to the inside. It's quite hard to end up on the inside there. Tim Storer managed it. So Tim Storer then gets his moment in the spotlight, but now unfortunately has spun a long way down the order. We'll see where he's rejoined once they come across the line this time and the timing screen updates itself. We have just over half the race to go, 7 minutes and 50 seconds left on the clock. This is the fight for second place now then, isn't it? Because Kevin Bird is in P2, Richard Bartlett's behind him in third. Bartlett's going to try another one of these moves up the inside, is he? Well, he doesn't have to because Bird runs straight off the track, and I think it is getting a bit slippery down there now because that car just didn't look as though it had the adhesion that it needed to make the corner. Now, he straight lined through the gravel trap there and held on to second place, but that's always been a bit of a bone of contention here at Croft, isn't it? Because you can go off the track there, run through the gravel, and actually not lose any time. So there is an argument that says that he should give this place up to Richard Bartlett. He might not have much choice, though, because Bartlett's up the inside anyway into Tower Corner, and watch Greensmith, because he's taking this really wide line into the turn. He's going to carry a lot more speed than the other two off the corner, but there's just nowhere to go. Bartlett into second then, down to third for Bird. And Robert Greensmith settles in behind them in fourth for the time being. Tell you what, there may only be 11 cars starting this race, only 10 of them still running, but it's still been some of the most entertaining racing of the day. You just can't beat Mazda MX-5 racing, I've always said it. We're seeing it again here in this MX-5 Clubman Championship. Harry Storer has been let off the hook here with Jay Shepherd's issues, but the battle to see who joins him on the podium and in what order is still just as entertaining as it was in the previous race. Richard Bartlett then now gets himself into second position. I doubt he's going to break away here though, because Kevin Bird is soaring away at the wheel there behind him into the hairpin. Oh dear, nearly got into the back of Bartlett, who's sideways on the cement dust. It's the worst corner to have cement dust at that, because you're really relying on the rear tyres gripping there in order to get the power down. And the cement dust, of course, is quite slippery, so that's where we're getting lots of sideways moments through there. Peter Higton, by the way, is still in fifth position, but he lost a lot of time dodging Tim Storer when he had his spin a lap or so ago. So Higton in fifth place, a bit lonely now. Dan Blake also a bit lonelier in this one because Tim Storer has been off. He's dropped about 9 seconds behind Dan Blake now. So to answer the question of where Tim was going to rejoin, the answer is 7th place and some 9 seconds behind anybody else. So we'll watch his lap time, see if he's able to gain on Blake. He was, of course, slower last time around. So 5 laps completed then. Harry Storer leads by 6.8 seconds. The battle for second still the closest one on the track. Even Richard Bartlett, I think there, did he have his windscreen wipers on briefly down at Tower? They're off now, but he's really gapped Kevin Bird there all of a sudden. So Robert Greensmith now will be even keener to get on with this because he doesn't want to let Bartlett get away. Bartlett second, remember. Bird in third, Greensmith in fourth position. Greensmith was second in the previous race, so a double podium would be a nice way for him to start the season off. Through the final complex of corners. Very different lines being taken through there. It's fascinating actually going and watching trackside through that part of the track because you can really see the different approaches from different drivers through there. Some of them carry a lot of speed through the left and sacrifice the line for the right, and others back off through the left-hander and then really try and concentrate on carrying speed through the middle part of the complex. Both are fairly even, really, but just down to different driving styles, different setups, different cars, of course, sometimes have to take different lines through there. Bird then in this third position with 4 minutes and 10 seconds left on the clock in this second race of the day. And again, Bird's car, it seems a bit softer, doesn't it? There's a bit more travel in the suspension on Kevin Bird's car, and it sort of wallows its way through the corners. Doesn't look like it should be handling very well, but it's probably handling the bumps a bit better than Robert Greensmith's car, which seems a bit more stiff in its suspension settings. And as I've said earlier on, it's a very bumpy circuit. Croft into all the braking zones as well. You can see the cars rippling around there. Big bump there just as they enter into Tower. Defensive line being taken by Bird. Is that going to slow down on the exit? Well, especially if he gets sideways, it will. Greensmith's carrying more speed off the turn, but there's just nowhere to go. He looks right, but Kevin Bird is drifting that way to take the normal racing line into the Jim Clark S's. Off the Jim Clark S's, that's where, through the high-speed stuff, maybe the slightly stiffer setup that Greensmith appears to be using is working. Tries to get up the inside as he forced Bird to outbrake himself, or maybe a little bit, but again, that camber on the apex just allows Bird to not run too wide, not run as wide as he would do normally. Now Bird is possibly under attack again as they come to the complex. Yeah, I think Greensmith's up the inside this time. He's going to go through, is he, into third position? No, because Kevin Bird sails off into the corner and carries a lot of speed through. And it didn't look like he was going to stop for a moment, actually. Greensmith now might try and get up the inside at the hairpin again. He did that to Bartlett a couple of times earlier on. Speaking of Bartlett, he is now over a second ahead of these two, and Greensmith gets sideways on that cement dust again. Of course, if it is getting a bit damp out there, that cement dust is going to give them even less grip, especially if there's still a bit of oil lingering underneath it. Oil and water don't mix very well, so it's getting wet out there. And that obviously is going to make life even more challenging for them. 2 minutes and 20 seconds then left on the clock. Harry Storer 7.3 seconds clear of Richard Bartlett in second place. He is 1.9 seconds ahead of this pair. Kevin Bird in third and Rob Greensmith in fourth position. Peter Hickton fifth. Dan Blake in sixth position. And Tim Storer appears to be dropping down the timing screen. Yeah, Tim Storer has lost a place now to the 38 of Andrew Dean. So Andrew Dean in seventh position, picking up a position there, because it was another relatively slow lap for Tim Storer. Tim's fastest lap was a 45.5 and his last lap was a 51.5. That's 6 seconds slower. So I think Tim Storer must have been off the road again. Also, by the way, Owen Woodwards has got himself ahead of the number 58 of Dale Whiteman. Woodwards was less than a second behind Whiteman in the previous race, rounding out the 11-car field. Well, he's ahead of him now. Of course, they're all ahead of Jay Shepherd, who is out of the race. This is one of those, and this is Tim Storer, and I think he's trying to get back ahead, is he, of Andrew Dean as they go into the Jim Clark S's. Andrew Dean on the outside line. I don't think he's going to be able to hang on to that, as meanwhile, Kevin Bird again is flying off wide into the complex there, almost off the road completely. Robert Greensmith, try as he might, and as many mistakes as are being made here by Kevin Bird, he still can't get past. Bird's wide again over the curbs coming off the final turn. They move towards the completion of this race now. We're on to the final lap. There is Harry Storer, and Harry Storer 8.9 seconds clear now. Won the first race by 13.2 seconds, but of course this race, actually no, I suppose he has led it the whole way, hasn't he? Even though Jay Shepherd was running him close earlier on. Jay is out of the race now, so Richard Bartlett definitely able to stay closer to Storer's pace. Although on the previous lap was a second and a half slower than Harry, but still, Harry Storer, one of Martin Tolley's cars, He's been tough to beat this week. He's been impossible to beat, quite frankly. Dominated the first race. And this second race, which is also going to run to 9 laps, is going to be won almost as convincingly. Up through Barcroft then, down towards the Sunny Complex for the final time. Harry Storer then, only a few corners from home now. Don't think we're likely to see any changes behind unless Tim Storer will come under any more pressure. In fact, no, Storer did complete that previous lap, still behind Andrew Dean. So although Dean appeared to have lost out going into the Jim Clark S's, he apparently has got back through again before the end of the lap. Into the final corner then, and Harry Storer makes his way to the checkered flag. For the second time today, it is a victory in the BRSCC Mazda MX-5 Clubman Championship for Harry Storer. He takes the checkered flag here at Croft with his one windscreen wiper going, so I think there is a bit more drizzle in the air now. Yes, in fact, there are a few spots on the commentary box windows. That rain that was supposed to arrive at 12 o'clock today has finally come now, right at the end of the day. Side by side almost there between Kevin Bird and Robert Greensmith. And that one was decided by just a quarter of a second in the end, but it's still Bird third, Greensmith fourth, Richard Bartlett, by the way, with second place, 11.1 seconds off the lead, but he had a strong race there to Richard Bartlett. Peter Higton was in fifth position. Dan Blake came home sixth. Blake actually was catching him quite quickly towards the end there. I don't know if Higton backed off a bit more because of the rain or because he'd had those moments and had lost touch with the cars ahead. I don't know, but anyway, through now comes Andrew Dean. Where's Tim Storer? There's Tim Storer on the grass. What is that all about? That's Tim Storer has had quite the race, hasn't he? Had that spectacular spin at Sunny, then he's been ahead of Andrew Dean on a couple of occasions and lost out again. He was miles behind Andrew by the time they got to the flag. He started that last lap a second behind him. He was already about 5 seconds back, so he's obviously had a moment on that lap and then had another one going out of the hairpin, but it's almost like the throttle got stuck open or something there. That was really, really strange. Anyway, let's recap an entertaining second round of the Mazda MX-5 Clubman Championship, where it was Harry Storer that took the race victory. However, he didn't lead the whole way because Robert Greensmith got past him going into the first corner, and Robert Greensmith was able to get the advantage on the run towards turn one. Jay Shepherd there in third position was running strongly in the early stages as well. There was a lot of shuffling over this opening lap, but Robert Greensmith, having got the lead, then fell down to fourth halfway around the first lap. Jay Shepherd was on the tail of Harry Storer, but he ran into mechanical issues. This was Richard Bartlett then seizing the chance to move ahead into third place ahead of Robert Greensmith, but that was what happened to Jay Shepherd out of the race midway through because of some mechanical issues, unknown as to what exactly it was. Richard Bartlett was charging his way through the field, eventually coming through to finish in second position, but then there was a big moment for Tim Storer. He was trying to get past Peter Higton going into Sunny. Peter sidestepped out of the way when he saw him coming in way too hot, went over the grass. A huge spin, 10 out of 10 for style for Tim Storer, and that wasn't even the last time that he ended up off the road over the course of the race. Tim Storer then was in all sorts of drama, but was able at least to get to the finish after a while. And there was another replay of the moment that he had going through the Sunny Complex. Peter Higton doing a good job to avoid him. Then Kevin Bird was defending his second place from Richard Bartlett. Richard Bartlett didn't actually get through on this occasion, despite Bird going through the gravel trap, but later on he would move through into second place, with Kevin Bird eventually finishing third ahead of Robert Greensmith, who had a great battle with him throughout the whole course of the race. It was in the end, though, Harry Storer that took his second victory of the weekend for the MX-5 Clubman Championship, and he, along with his fellow podium finishers Richard Bartlett and Kevin Bird, are in the pit lane with Scott.
More exceptional Mazda MX-5 racing here at Croft, and we've got a double winner here. I can see the smile on his face from under the crash helmet, so he's going to jump out and have a chat to us. Really good to see both Kevin Bartlett and Kevin Bird Richard Bartlett. It's been a long day. Richard Bartlett and Kevin Bird on the podium with us as well. It's 5 different podium finishes from the first 2 races. And with more cars coming for Silverstone, we've got about 20 getting for the next round. Should be quite decent. Out gets Harry Storer, and his trophy is champagne and his hat are on the bonnet for him to collect, and I'll have a chat with Harry. You had to get your elbows out a bit more for the start of that race. Once you got in front, you never looked back.
Yeah, I mean, I'm panicking a bit at the start there. Obviously, came out the first corner and second, and saw the rain, and no, I'm not best in the rain, so started to panic a bit. I don't know, it must have had an engine problem or something like that and gone off, so and from then on I was pretty much alone, so. But yeah, definitely a bit of a tight moment at the beginning.
I mean, start on the front row in both races and 2 victories. It couldn't have gone much better really this week.
Fantastic weekend, better than I thought it would have gone. So absolutely, great, loved it, great fun as well. So
now the next challenge, you've got a points lead to defend at Silverstone.
Yeah, Silverstone I've done before, so I enjoy it. Yeah, but pressure's on now, I suppose, to stay ahead.
Excellent. Well, your day's done now, so you can go and celebrate with your bubbly now and go and enjoy it. Well done.
The BMW Compact Cup then about to get underway. I've just stepped outside for a second just to check the weather, and it is starting to drizzle a little bit, but these Nankang tyres are all-weather tyres, so they work whether it's dry or wet, so that shouldn't really affect matters too much. However, the drivers, I'm sure, would have had to be guessing on setup a little bit, because you can do quite a lot to these Compact Cup cars to tweak the setup from a dry setup to a wet setup, and if you find yourself out on track with the wrong setup, then that can really make your life very, very difficult indeed. So the race earlier on today, if you missed it, was the usual thrilling affair, with Ollie Fowler taking his first ever victory in the championship, and I was thoroughly enjoying that battle that he had with Stephen Daly, but it is nice to see a new winner in the championship. Ollie Fowler finally got his first victory. Stephen Daly, the winningest driver in Compact Cup history, took second position, and Ian Howes in third position. I got a message actually between the races from former multiple race winner in this category, Tom Griffiths, who sadly isn't racing with us this weekend. We miss you on the grid, Tom, but he informed me that Ian Howes just took a podium in only his 5th ever car race meeting. Tom apparently has been helping him out a bit, and actually is the man that encouraged him to get on the grid and get involved, and he was very complimentary, obviously, of Ian's performance, as we all were, because Ian was able to get a 3rd place finish, only his 5th race meeting. That's incredible. Got a brief look there at an onboard camera with Stephen Daly, which, depending on how much of an issue the weather turns out to be, we'll hopefully be able to have a look at during the course of the race. If we can, it'll show us plenty of exciting footage, I'm sure. Steve always in the thick of the battle. Let's have a look then at the grid for this second round of the championship. It's decided by the way they finished the previous race. So Ollie Fowler has pole, Stephen Daly alongside him. Wayne Flint Ian Howes and Ray McDowell are on row number 2. Paul Maguire and Ian Jones make up the 3rd row, ahead of Ben Huntley and Lee Denby Sadler. Simon Welton and Rhys Claydon make up the 5th row of the grid. 6th row, for Mike Doble and Gareth Claydon. Then on 7th row, Guy Davis and Matt Flowers. Richard Sutherland and Jim Barrett are next on row 8. Row 9 for Cliff Harper and Mikey Doble. Now, Mikey Doble went off at the first corner through no fault of his own. Wayne Flint hit the back of Stephen Daly, and poor Mikey Doble was on the outside line, nowhere to go. Ended up digging his way out of the gravel and came back to finish 18th, so he's one to watch. Tom Middleton and Martin Gadsby are on the 10th row, ahead of Chris McGinley and Gregor Pryor. Tom Evans and Graham Robertson are on the 12th row. Then Matt Adcock, who had his Compact Cup debut this afternoon, 25th on the grid, ahead of Peter Parsons. Then it's Andrew Partridge and Phil Webster, Ian Shepherd and Craig Arkell. Craig had some issues mechanically speaking this weekend, I think it's fair to say. Russell Cager, and at the back is number 55 Wayne Flint, because car 55 Wayne Flint was disqualified from the race results for causing a collision, and that is, I think, fair enough. Unfortunately, as much as Wayne would have been really happy to get on the podium, that was fairly blatantly his fault, not on purpose at all, but locked up into the first corner, got into the back of Stephen Daly, and set off that chain of events that didn't really hurt Daly too much, though it arguably cost him the win because it allowed Fowler through into the lead, but it definitely hurt Mikey Doble. Right, this rain is starting to become a bit more of an issue, I think. It's getting a bit greasy out there. I don't think the heavens are going to open completely. I don't think this is going to be a torrential downpour, but it's going to be a fairly constant drizzle that is going to make the track really slimy, really greasy. Where at the end of the day, there's a lot of rubber on the track, a lot of dirt that's going to just get really, really slick as this rain comes down. You can see there Stephen Daly has his windscreen wipers on from the outside of row number 1. And these conditions are going to be a challenge, to say the least. We got them all safely through. Well, actually, no, we didn't get them all safely through turn 1. What am I talking about? Even in the dry, we had contact at the front of the field going into turn 1. What is going to happen now? They don't know how much or little grip they'll have. We also don't know what setups the drivers have gone for. A few of them do like to think of themselves as fortune tellers and like to predict the weather conditions and anticipate it setup-wise. I know Ben Huntley was praying for rain today. I think he probably wanted a bit more rain than this, in all honesty, but if it does get really wet, keep an eye on that blue and yellow car that's starting on the 4th row of the grid. He should move forwards. But this is going to be a lively 15 minutes of racing, that's for sure, to round out the weekend here, round out the day, I should say, here at Croft. Another full day of racing tomorrow, but it rounds out the weekend for the Compact Cup, who are only racing here on the Saturday, which is a shame, because it's one of my personal favourite championships, and it really, you're about to see why, I think, because this should be another really exciting race. So, waiting for the back few rows of the grid to be formed. Ollie Fowler then lining up on pole, and Ollie Fowler, who finished 8th in last year's championship, had a really good run here at Croft, I seem to remember, 2 years ago. Can he double up now, having got his first ever win earlier on? Well, let's find out. The lights are out. Away and racing again here at Croft for the final time today. This is the Nankang Tyre BMW Compact Cup, and it's Stephen Daly that's got the drop this time. He's in the lead going into turn 1. Will he survive turn 1 this time? That's the question, though. Will they all get through? That would be a bit of a miracle, I'd say. Through they go. Ian Howes has lost out to Ray McDowell. Stephen Daly with a lock-up as well. We've got cars out wide behind, and that's one of the Claydens has gone round. The tyres go flying. Mike Doble was in the middle of all of that as well. Which Clayden is that? I think that is Gareth, isn't it? Yes, 46th Gareth Clayden, who's been spun, and he rejoins at the back. But that was, do you know what? That could have gone an awful lot worse, couldn't it, really? They mostly got through there without any major contact. It's Daly that leads the way. It's Fowler in second. Ian Jones is carving his way through the order. Up the inside of Ian Howes he goes. Ian Jones started in 6th position. He's up into, I think that's 4th now, isn't it? Going out of Tower Corner. Another driver who relishes damp and greasy conditions, and that is exactly what he's got now. Daly, of course, from being north of the border, Scottish racing ace before he made his way down into the British Compact Cup Championship. He knows a thing or two about driving in the wet as well. Ben Huntley there under pressure, actually, and losing out potentially here to the number 60 car of Simon Welton, who I think went through on the inside, going into Sunny in and out. There's the number 8 car of Richard Sutherland dicing away with lead Andy Sandler. They almost make contact coming out of Sunny, and Mikey Doble is right behind them. Look, already trying to make progress from 18th on the grid. Daly leads, then Fowler second, McDowell third, Jones fourth, and then there you've got Ian Howes on the outside, Paul Maguire on the inside, Simon Welton is the red car, Ben Huntley the blue car, the surviving Claydon driver is Reese Claydon, the number 10 behind, and they all come out of the hairpin 2 by 2 by 2, and they'll head down into Clervaux that way as well, I'm sure. Leaders flash through, top 2 getting away, and then they're kind of pairing off inside the top 4, then everybody else running in 5th position. To the outside goes Ian Howes, and I think he's going to clear Paul Maguire here into Clervaux corner. We'll try now and guess whether or not the braking point has changed since they were last there, if it's any more slippery than it was, perhaps less slippery, of course. They'll want to try and carry as much speed through the corners as they possibly can. Now onto the back straight they go once again. Stephen Daly then out in the lead of the race, trying now to make good his escape. It's something he's so good at doing. It always looked like he was quicker than Ollie Fowler in the first race, but was just biding his time really, and happy to settle for second if needs be. Now though, he's not settling for anything. He's got the lead and he's trying his best to pull away. Looking further down the order, shoulder. Mikey Doble up into 13th place now. So Mikey definitely one of our championship contenders this year. Did not get his season off to the best of starts, but can he salvage a top 10 in this race? I'd like to think he probably can, having gained 5 places already on the first lap. Ben Huntley here trying to get up the inside of Paul Maguire. This is for 6th place. Huntley finished the earlier race in 7th, so yeah, we're still in the same position. It's not quite wet and clean, really, is it now? 28 there is Guy Davis. He's having a good run. Stephen Daly makes his way through Sunny then, hops over the curbs, heads down towards the complex once again, and you can see him there working away at the wheel as they weave now through this final sequence of corners. Things starting to settle down at the front behind though, anything but. Paul Maguire tries his hand up the inside of Ian Howes there. No way through at the hairpin though. You can go in tight, but it's very, very hard to get the car stopped and turn properly through the middle part of the corner. Across the line we go then, 15-minute race this, remember. Daly leads the way by now 8.5 tenths, but Mikey Doble down in 13th place has just set the fastest lap of the race. So Mikey Doble does a 1 minute 42.1, which is only a second off the race 1 pace. So although it clearly is slippery out there, it's not really slowing them down massively. Bear in mind he was in traffic as well. He was right on the tail, in fact, of Jim Barrett, who's having a really good run in this one. Started 16th with Jim, and he's up into 12th place now, though he might not stay there for much longer. Let's see, down into Tower they go. Yeah, they're side by side in the background, and Ben Huntley having a look at the inside of Paul Maguire. And can he get up the inside on the exit? Looks like he might do. Maguire runs a bit wide, that loses him speed, so Ben Huntley now has a choice to make. Does he risk it round the outside into the Jim Clark S's, or does he play the safe game and back off? Knowing Ben as I do, I think I know the answer to this already. They're probably still side by side as they come out of the Jim Clark S's and head towards Barcroft. We'll get back to that in a moment though, because Ian Jones is now applying some pressure to Ray McDowell, who is a new man, isn't he, this weekend? Ray McDowell finding pace that, with the greatest of respect, I've never seen from him before. He was 18th in last year's championship, Ray McDowell, and here he is in 3rd position, finished 4th earlier on, and he's got one of the veterans of the championship right on his rear bumper now. Ian Jones is 10 times a race winner in the Compact Cup, and he's been on the podium 34 times now over the course of his career. He is always at the front wherever we're racing in the Compact Cup, especially if the conditions are a bit treacherous out on track. Maguire and Ben Huntley still battling away here. Huntley didn't actually get past then. He's now back alongside him again though as they go out of the hairpin and along the start-finish line. Less than a second still between the top two, although Stephen Daly's now nicked that fastest lap back from Mikey Doble. But Ollie Fowler is pretty much matching him actually. Only a tenth slower than him on the previous lap. Ian Jones couldn't get any closer to Ray McDowell. He boots the cone out of the way through the middle part of the complex. And head back round to the long right-hander at Hawthorns, just as close as ever. This whole group of cars. Ben Huntley then is now ahead of Maguire. That puts Huntley into 6th position now. But you sense there's more changes to be had here. Leaders head into Tower. I think it's stopped raining now. Certainly fewer cars running with their windscreen wipers on. Ray McDowell is one of those that is. And he is feeling the heat here from Ian Jones. Probably hasn't had the time to reach down and turn the wipers off. He's that busy watching his mirrors, defending his 3rd place here as if his life depends on it. Ray McDowell has never had a podium in the championship, despite racing for several seasons now. I seem to recall when he initially joined the championship, he was racing James Gornall's championship winning car from a number of years ago. I don't know if that's still this car. It's got a different livery on it now. It may well be the same car that Ray's racing now. So if it is, we know it's a good car, but Ray McDowell being prepared by Stephen Daly's team as well, the Casey Motorsport squad, but he's under pressure. Jones is up the inside, but no, Jones was too far back. Bit of damage to the front of Jones's car, probably from a lap 1 skirmish. So, Ian Howes is back in this now as well, isn't he? Ian Howes in 5th position right with them, and Ben Huntley coming after them as well. Now that Huntley's broken past Paul Maguire, he is starting to show some speed as well. Leaders go across the line. That gap is definitely growing now between Daly and Fowler, so it's all about the 3rd place battle, but more and more cars are likely to join in. And keep an eye on Mikey Doble. There he is, look, with his headlights ablaze, the blue and white car. He's ahead of his dad now, which means that he's into 11th place, Mikey Doble, having been 31st at the end of the first lap of racing today. Here he is now getting into the business end of race 2, and he could be on maybe for a top 5. He's on the tail of Guy Davis now, and he's going to try and get up the inside of him there. We're following him nicely through Hawthorn Corner. were, and before we got to the tower shot. But we will hopefully track them again as they come through the right-hander now. It's that big pack that's coming towards us. Ray McDowell there third, Jones fourth, then it is Howes in fifth. It's the group behind we're watching, really. Here they come, Mikey Doble to the outside, but Guy Davies has charged up the inside instead. Well, they do say the best form of defence is attack sometimes, and he goes from defending his position from Mikey Doble to attacking, and off has gone Wayne Flint, who I hadn't even spotted, had come from the very back of the grid. Wayne Flint was in 13th position, having started 32nd. That is incredible. What a shame that he had that penalty after the contact in race one. He could have absolutely been up there challenging for the victory in this race. Right, Welton back up the inside of Guy Davies, so he lost out to Guy at Tower. Now he's gone back ahead at Sunny, and Mikey Doble is trying to find a way of following through as well, but there just wasn't room there as they went through the second part of Sunny. Down into the complex again. There are the four cars that are now contesting third place. Doble's up the inside of Guy Davies. I think he's going to get him. Can he chop across his nose into the right-hander? No, but he can go right round the outside here maybe and buy himself a ticket to the inside line at the hairpin, and that's exactly what he's done. Mikey Doble will move up another place, and he's now into the top 10. We'll keep an eye on Wayne Flint, because although he's just been off the road, he is not that far behind this group and making arguably even better progress than Doble has been. Right, disappointingly, only 6 minutes left of this race. Stephen Daly is 2.3 seconds up the road now from Ollie Fowler in second. He in turn is 4 seconds ahead of Ray McDowell in third, who is holding on brilliantly to that third place. I noticed Ben Huntley, though, is ahead of Ian Howes now for fifth. And yes, look, Huntley is ahead of Howes. So Howes has had a moment somewhere and is dropping back into, or has dropped back into this next pack, hasn't he? Because he's now got Reece Claydon all over him. Ian Jones looking to the inside of McDowell, gets into the back of McDowell, contact into Tower corner, but in fairness, McDowell tried to move over there when Jones was already sort of looking to the inside, so no harm, no foul anyway, didn't gain the place, and Ray McDowell survives in third place. They're side by side behind them though. Let's see what's going on there. This is the third, no change likely here. Jones is looking to get past McDowell, but he's not really close enough going into Sunny. Huntley is next in line, obviously having got past Howes recently. But that next big pack of cars were looking as though they were tripping over each other slightly going through the Jim Clark S's. Dow just dips a wheel over the curb there, and Jones again moves in for the kill. Tries to find a gap into the complex. Nothing doing. Through the right-hander in the middle of the complex they go. Huntley started this lap about a second behind those two. He's definitely a bit closer now, isn't he? So across the line we go then, onto the 7th lap of the race now. And let's see what's going on in that group behind. You've still got, I know that's Claydon now at the front of it. Oh, Ian Howes has dropped right down the order. Ian Howes is now down in 11th position. That's a shame. Didn't see how it happened, but Ian Howes has fallen right to the back of this group. So it's now Reece Claydon there at the front of this group in 6th. Maguire, the green car behind him in 7th. 8th is Simon Welton. Mikey Doble is 9th. And Guy Davies in 10th. Howes down to 11th ahead of Mike Doble 12th. And Wayne Flint is with them now, isn't he, in 13th. That silver car from the very back of the grid at the back of that queue. Could he get into the top 10? That would be a brilliant recovery drive if he could. Ian Jones challenges for 3rd. Mikey Doble challenges there for 8th position. Tries to get up the inside of Welton, but then in doing so almost leaves the door open for Guy Davies to get a run. And Wayne Flint, that was payback, wasn't it? Because it was Mike Doble that put him on the grass there a few laps ago. And Wayne Flint said, right, son, you're having a taste of your own medicine here. And forces Mike Doble onto the grass himself. That might get him in a bit of hot water as well afterwards, but Wayne, the red mist perhaps descending a little bit there, and moves his way into 12th position. Anyway, we'll deal with that after the race. Mikey Doble, though, still in the thick of the action here. It's already been a good recovery, this, but he'd like to gain a few more places if he could. Ian Jones back up the inside of Ray McDowell there for 3rd position, and Ben Huntley's going up the inside of him now as well. In the end, I don't think anything changed, but it got very, very close to changing there, which is kind of summing up this race, really. They're all so close to each other that one false move will likely lose you more than one position. That's why they're all being so robust in their defence, because you don't want to leave the door open. It's a freight train of cars then waiting behind to take advantage. Right then, 2 minutes and 40 seconds left, so 2 laps to go, I reckon, in this final race of the day here from Croft. The Compact Cup, as ever, serving up a pair of thrillers. Stephen Daly may be 3.7 seconds up the road at the head of the field. Oh, Ray McDowell's lost third place right towards the end of the race. Jones has gone through, Huntley fourth, and Ray McDowell down to fifth position, so that has changed everything as far as the podium places are concerned. From a championship perspective, good news for Ian Jones and Ben Huntley, they need the points, but of course, so really does Ray McDowell. If he can keep this sort of pace up through the whole season, then he too could be a contender for a top position in the championship. Off the podium now though, sadly, is Ray. Can he do anything about getting back onto the podium over the remaining lap and a half? With Jim Clark S's they go again. No major changes behind. We covered Wayne Flint getting past Mike Doble for 12th, but he's now 2 seconds behind the sort of 6th and 7th place train. Ben Huntley now, though, moving up to challenge Ian Jones. Now, this is a fight you'd buy a ticket for, isn't it? Two of the most exciting drivers in the championship. Ian Jones does have that sort of immovable object feel about him, doesn't he, sometimes? But Ben Huntley has never wanted to back down from a fight, and he's asking all the right questions now of our third place man. Carries a lot of speed through the left-hander at the complex. Almost got up the inside there through the middle part, but Jones was wise to it, positioned the car correctly, and now he defends very heavily into the hairpin. And Ray McDowell goes up the inside of Ben Huntley. Huntley was trying to take the wide line to challenge Jones on the exit of the hairpin, and McDowell thought, hi, there's a chance here to get back up the inside into fourth place. It doesn't work, and it kills his speed off the corner, so worth a go, I suppose, but that was probably a bit of a last-ditch effort to move through. Stephen Daly is on the final lap, though. He is heading through the chicane for the last time, and Stephen Daly is putting in a very Stephen Daly-esque performance here, really, isn't he? He was already at the top of the all-time wins list. He's now going to move on to 28 career Compact Cup wins, and that's just in this championship. That doesn't take into account the goodness only knows how many races he's won north of the border in the Scottish Compact Cup Championship, which really thrived for quite a long time. About 5 or 6 years ago, it started to wane a little bit as more and more Scottish drivers came over and raced in this series, but Stephen Daly, when it was at its height of competitiveness, was a multiple champion in Scotland, and then decided to come down and race in the English Championship, if you like. Brought a few friends with him as well. His KC Motorsport team prepare about half the grid, it seems, sometimes. I still don't think it's handling right, this car, though, unless that's how he likes it, but it's really bouncing around, isn't it? Like it's on particularly springy suspension, but it seems to be working for Stephen Daly, because he's done a fastest lap in this race of a 1:41.2, which is not lap record pace. In fact, we're not going to break the lap record, are we, this weekend? Ian Jones is going to keep that from 2019, a 1:40.97. But Stephen Daly is going to come home and take another race victory and add it to his second place finish from earlier on. But I reckon he and Ollie Fowler are going to be almost equal on points leaving Croft after what has been a brilliant pair of races in the Compact Cup. A victory for Stephen Daly. Ollie Fowler backs up his victory from earlier on with second place, and look, there's still more action behind, as again Ben Huntley is trying to get past Ian Jones. He's trying to fend off Ray McDowell as well, but Jones stubbornly hangs on to third place, and Mikey Doble almost gets Paul Maguire on the line, but misses out by what was the margin in the end between those two? It was just over 1/10 of a second in the end. Looked a lot closer than that actually, didn't it, as they came across the line. Daly, Fowler and Jones then on the podium. Huntley fourth, Ray McDowell fifth, Reese Claydon sixth. Oh, someone's coming here with their bonnet up. What's this? This is number 8, is that? Yes, the number 8 car of Richard Sutherland, who will be quite glad to see the checkered flag. There's also damage to the front of Lee Dendy Sadler's car. I think there's a story to tell there. There's been some shenanigans on the last lap, shall we say. Rest of them all coming through towards the back end of the field, but yeah, that is not how Richard Sutherland wanted to end his second race of the weekend. And Lee Dendy Sadler's car behind also looks like he's been in the wars. Luckily, you sit quite low in these cars, so Sutherland could probably... you can almost see him leaning back in the chair, can't you? So you can see underneath that bonnet, see where he's going. That's, yes, going to be glad that the checkered flag came out when it did, I think, is Sutherland. Also, want to point out, we got all 31 starters there, all got to the end of the race. We had one non-starter, who I think was Craig Arkell. Craig Arkell didn't finish, but everybody didn't start, sorry, but all of the ones that did start got to the end, and I think that's the first time that's happened all day. So not only is it great racing, but good reliability as well, generally speaking, from these Compact Cup cars. You can do a lot worse than going by a BMW Compact or hire one from one of the many teams that are out on the grid. you want to go racing, I know that a lot of the teams are looking for new arrive and drive drivers as well. So if you want to go racing, then do inquire, because as you can see, it's a fantastic place to go and have some fun. They sadly won't be with us tomorrow, but we do have a full day of racing tomorrow, so make sure you're back with us again. 9 races tomorrow with Fiestas, Mazdas joining us once again. We'll also have the opening round of the season for the Club Sport Trophy. So the racing tomorrow should be every bit as exciting. Right then, for the final time today, let's check in with Scott Woodward, shall we? He has got our podium finishers, Ian Jones, Ollie Fowler, and our race winner, Stephen Daly, down there in the pit lane.
So, final winner of the day is Stephen Daly, 4-time BMW Compact Cup champion, and he certainly started the day and his quest to become a 5-time champion in one of the best ways possible. Second in race 1 and a win in race 2. There's a reason why I've nicknamed him now the Colin Turkington of the Compact Cup, because he drives a BMW, champion 4 times, and that's all I got. So that's for that nickname. But outcome Stephen, well done to him. And see if we can grab him for a second. He's going to go over to Oliver Fowler and have a word with him. And we have also got Master Drive. Let's bring Stephen over actually. Stephen, well, that's not a bad way to try and go for number 5, is it? Second in race 1 and a typical performance in race 2.
I love that, absolutely love that. It was all down at the start. I was racking my brains after race 1 because I couldn't get past Ollie in race 1. So I just had to do it off the start, and I got the start, so I'm relieved.
And you've always looked comfortable once you get out in the lead. You just look as though you can drive your own race, and that just seems to be the case in race 2.
Well, that's it. You just got to pace yourself. Don't overpush your tyres too quick at the start, and just manage the car. Big thanks to Casey Motorsport this weekend, Master Mix Concrete for sponsors, and everybody that's watching this weekend. It's mum and dad, my sister, everybody. So,
now you've got the one that you're looking forward to the most. You've got home racing coming up next at Knockhill. You've got to be buzzing for that.
Yeah, we've got Knockhill next. To be honest, I can see some of these guys being just as quick as me at Knockhill as well. These are a fantastic grid, some really fast drivers, so let's see what we can do.
Hopefully 2 home wins continue the championship lead.
Cheers.
Excellent, well, well done. We'll go have a chat to some other
Thank
people.
you very much, cheers.
Let's go have a chat to our second and third place guys. Let's bring Oliver over actually for second. Not a bad day for you as well. First win in race 1 and a second in race 2, and just that race 2 he's a bit quick, isn't he?
Yeah, he's got a little bit on me here. That's why I didn't want to let him pass in the first one. I knew if he got past, I didn't quite have the legs to keep with him. So it's quite defensive in the first one, and it was a good race. So he got off me, passed me off the line. He just had a little bit more pace than me outright. So I'm happy. First and second is amazing. So no, I'm happy to come home second in the second race. It's really good.
Looks like you've made mega progress over the last couple of seasons. What do you think is the key to improve pace this year?
Just consistency, I think. A little mistake here and there costs you a lot of time in these. Momentum, no mistakes, and if you got good lap pace, then it's really difficult for the guys behind to catch up and pass. So.
Good stuff. So Knockhill next. How do you fancy your chances?
I've only been up there on a track day once. Stephen's done. I don't even think there's a number that exists for the amount of laps that he's done up there. So yeah, it's just about the fun for me. I'm quite happy to come home in 10th if I've had a good race. But being on the podium twice, really good.
So, well, you've driven us superbly all day today, so go and enjoy it, and we'll see you at Knockhill.
Thank you.
Good stuff. Let's see if we can bring Ian over for third place. Let's just bring him, if we can get Jonesy's attention. Bring him over here. Good to see you back, Jonesy, and fairly back on form as well.
Yeah, I woke up this morning with a headache from hell.
Right.
Qualifying, I couldn't think straight, kept making really stupid mistakes. Been drinking water and headache tablets all day. Race 1 was okay, good scrap. That race, that was thoroughly enjoyable. Race 1, old, hard to get past.
That sounds like a typical Ian Jones performance, getting your elbows out and making some moves when you had to make them.
Yeah, Ray's happy to get his elbows out, so if he can dish it, he can take it, and he did, so fair play then.
Yeah, okay, apologies for the language there. Yeah. Yeah, it's good stuff, and we'll see you at Knockhill for the next one.
Yes, we'll do. Thank you very much.
Good stuff. I'm just going to quickly see if we can grab Ray McDowell as well. And just bring Ray in to have a chat. Ray, can you grab me over here? good way to end the day with a Masters win. How was that? But it was almost an overall podium.
Yeah, I know, it was great, and I think it would have been. It was a push to pass, but you know, rubbing's racing, as they say, or racing's rubbing, whichever way you look at it. But no, I'm pleased with the result, pleased with the times that I was doing, and yeah, I'm looking forward to Knock Hill now, because that's one of my local circuits too. So rock on, as I say.
And I get a good step up in pace for you as well. So looks like you got some confidence this year.
Yeah. I mean, found a little bit of pace. I think, you know, we did a bit of testing over the winter break, and you know, it's found a little bit of pace. Found more balance in the car, and we got the brakes working better. So it's all down to me now. Yeah.
I'm sure you do absolutely fine, Knock Hill. So go celebrate your Masters win, and we'll see you there.
Yeah, thanks very much.
Good stuff. Well done. And that's it. Wraps up from day one. Again, apologies for the slightly colourful language there from Ian Jones, but of course, magic of live television. So fantastic stuff all day today from BRSCC. Thank you for watching, of course. Thank you to Andy for the fantastic commentary. More action tomorrow. We're back with the Mazda MX-5 Championship and SuperCup. More racing from the BRSCC Fiesta Championship. The opening 2 races for the BRSCC Fiesta Junior Championship. And of course, we've also got the 45-minute Club Sport Trophy race for the end of the day. And of course, the second race for the STXR Challenge. But for more of us here at Croft, thank you for watching. For myself, Scott Woodward, Andy McKeown, and everyone as part of the production team, thank you for tuning in. Join us tomorrow for more action from Croft on the second BRSCC Live weekend of 2021. Should be a thriller. Good night.